His name is Carpo, and he's facing an extremely rare squirrel boss. No biggie. He kills it in one shot and gets a rain of reward notifications. He sees his status window, first 10-star skill player, first leveler in the tutorial, and even legendary dungeon conqueror, all because he has the 10-star skill unrestricted at level 8. With it, the simple leather armor he drops becomes a rare nimble-footed gnar. His friend is even questioning how far this luck of his will go. And yeah, it doesn't stop because at the bottom of the chest he finds an egg. The magical squirrel he just killed can now be his pet. While he smiles saying he got lucky, his friend can only think that there's something completely wrong with this guy's luck. Because right in the tutorial, things get strange. The item drop rate for killing goblins is extremely low. But when the MC punches one in the face and finishes him off, a chest appears. His friend is sure that the reward is going to be trash, and at first it looks like it's just an unknown sword. But when he uses his 10-star skill to appraise it, the item turns into a hero class item. Green Skin Slayer, perfect for hunting goblins, with insane stats stacked on top. But the only thing where he doesn't get lucky is pulling a 0-star spirit in a gacha game. But even that is actually lucky. Some random guy dies as the rank 2 player of a game because he's way too addicted. Meanwhile, the protagonist is a casual and kind of troll player. He joins a game where nobody knows who developed it and figures it will shut down soon. The first thing he sees is a gacha machine, a luck-based game like that, and I'd already uninstall it so I don't go broke. The machine gives you 2 summons, a skill and a spirit that follows you around. The total has to add up to 10 power stars between the 2 summons, so if you pull a 3-star spirit, the skill comes as 7 stars. He decides to spend all his coins trying to pull a 9-star spirit and a 1-star skill so he can get a broken spirit. On his first try, 2 7-star spirits show up. People on the forum say that's insanely lucky, but he decides to discard them and try again. The problem is that only garbage comes after that, so on his last coin, he gets a 6-star knight and a 0-star man. The guy's clothes look like they're from the modern world. Thinking it's a bug, he picks him, and it doesn't take long to realize that man is the rank 2 player who died from playing too much. The guy died in real life and reincarnated as the protagonist's companion. And remember what I said about the total needing to add up to 10 stars? Since the protagonist's spirit is 0 stars, he just got a 10-star skill. At first it looks like nothing crazy. He can unlock things that are either banned or restricted. Spirit Boy and our MC have no idea how absurdly OP this is. Also, a bunch of achievements and titles pop up. He's the first on the server to have a 10-star skill and also a 0-star spirit. While the protagonist is panicking about the whole situation, the deceased addict is thrilled because it feels like he's the main character of a fantasy novel or something. And he explains that he actually tried to beat the game 5 times but failed in all of them. The MC straight up can't believe it, but the guy is promising to help him become the strongest player. That's when both teleport to the first challenge of the place and fight that goblin from the beginning that he finishes with a single punch. And the Spirit Boy keeps asking himself if that has to do with the 10-star skill the boy got. Right after finishing the tutorial as the first leveler, he's thrown into the city, and he asks Spirit Boy how he can always be there physically, since spirits normally appear and vanish. The guy tells him to take a look at the stats. Because the spirit is 0 stars in combat, he got a title that lifted the physical restriction. The MC isn't thrilled. Clearly this guy is trash by being 0 stars. But that's when he tells our boy that he will show the knowledge of a 5-times veteran. Now they need to decide what they're going to do, but Kang doesn't know if he's free to choose and follow what he wants, which leaves the protagonist confused. Suddenly they spot some weirdo trying to recruit people into the Mammonism Guild, annoying everyone with how pushy he is. In a kind of threatening tone, he says their lives are going to get really hard if they don't accept. Kim's a bit disappointed when he realizes what the guy's doing, but then surprisingly, the dude says he's not a PK. Actually, he's the opposite. All smiles, he says they'll protect them from PKs. He asks if they've heard about that bulletin board quest with the mutant deer, the one every level 1 player has to clear. Our protagonist asks if that quest is even real, and his knowledgeable buddy says yeah, and it gives a really good reward. The guild guy keeps going, saying the creature itself is weak, but the spot where it spawns is a problem, because PvP is enabled there. Then he asks if they've heard of the Long PK, and says they're a long-range attack gang. What they do is hide at the spawn point, and when a newbie comes close, they finish them off. With this weirdly excited vibe, the guy adds that it's basically game over for them. Seeing everyone hesitating, he says they'll protect them from PKs and prove the guild exists for that exact reason. And then finally he says there's just a tiny little price for their help. That catches our MC off guard. What he wants is everyone's leftover summoning coins. But one guy says that even though he has a lot, they're not really worth much, and the shady dude agrees. Then he explains that someone in the guild has the merchant class, so they can sell those coins to an NPC for a high price. The group gets the message and, scared, totally changes their attitude, apologizing for what they said and saying they'll follow him. Kang asks what our MC thinks about the guy, and yeah, he's obviously super suspicious. Then he says the guy didn't lie or make anything up, which surprises Kim, who asks if it's really some kind of charity guild. The developer reaches into his pocket and says it's a great chance for our hero to see just how disgusting guilds can be. He suggests it'd be fun to infiltrate the group, and our hero seems pretty hyped about that idea too. So a little later he ends up listening to this whole story about the quest, kill the evil deer and bring back its horn. Looking at his menu, Kim wonders why he has to sit through all this crap, but his buddy explains it's because this is the beginner village. He finally accepts the quest and wonders who the hell all these people are. There's a group that looks like they're waiting for the creature to respawn, kind of organizing around it. Realizing what a mess he's gotten into, Kang tells him to think of it like the line at a famous restaurant. But yeah, not exactly comforting. Suddenly someone shows up and tells everyone to move because they're going first. They introduce themselves like a boy band, the Three Sioux. They rush toward the deer saying whoever kills it first becomes the leader. Kim wonders if they're comedians, and on top of that working for free. All fired up, the Shung Tzu steps forward to take on the beast, and now one of his brothers is about to end the fight with a perfect attack. Meanwhile, up in a tree, a sneaky player readies his bow. Before anyone can react, an arrow nails that guy right in the leg to his brother's horror. The guy drops to the ground, clutching his leg in pain, while his brothers run to him. More archers appear and immediately draw their bows. The people there for the quest start freaking out, and now a bunch of arrows fly toward everyone. Rohan yells for everyone to get back into position and protect the newbies. And right then, armored players appear in front of them to shield them. After the clash, the attackers run off and the players realize the guild really did help them. They start chanting together, saying they love the guild and thanking them like crazy. Kim notices it looks like the line of followers got even bigger, while his buddy tells him to get back to their quest. But our MC complains, because the line is even bigger now. Kang says he wouldn't make him waste his time and leads him into the forest, because there are other spawn points for the deer. And he says it's right in the middle of long PK territory, which makes our hero nervous, since there are so many deer involved. His buddy explains that everyone gets 5 stat points per level, but he gets 10, so he can dodge arrows like he's in the Matrix. And he asks if he gets it now how he can handle the bad guys easily, calling him Mr. Protagonist. From a nearby tree, Rohan tells someone to take out the players who went into the forest. While they're walking through the woods, our hero admits something's been bugging him. He says the second arrow shot at him was different from the first. He explains that the first arrows fired at people were super accurate, but the second ones didn't seem like anything special. And he suggests it looked like the long PK were working together with the guild people. The developer is surprised and asks what he's getting at. Then while he's explaining that it was obvious they were all on the same team, he gets attacked by an arrow, one he dodges easily. The ambushers figure our heroes are at least level 10 based on how they move, but they're not intimidated. Kim asks if there's any kind of recording feature in this game. Not really getting it. Kang says the game records everything automatically and asks if the kid is a streamer. With an excited look, he says no, but that it could be useful later. As he jumps toward the enemies, the system explains that since this is a PK area, whoever attacked first can drop some items if they die. Kim moves crazy fast and catches the attacker off guard with his guard down. With a slick move, he hits the kid with no chance to defend himself. And saying he's kinda bored, he says he's gonna beat him up a little more. Seconds later, the archer is on the ground begging for help, but Kim finishes off that threat in the most brutal way possible. The defeated player's sword drops to the ground while the other two stare in shock, and then they realize they don't stand a chance against our MC, and they're basically doomed. Walking up to the last one left, our protagonist intimidates him, leaving the guy stuttering on the ground. The guy begs and offers his items because if he dies, he won't be able to log in for 3 days and he'll have to eat cup noodles in Zone X. But our hero asks if he ever spared anyone who begged during a PK. And anyway, all his items are going to drop regardless. In the end, the guy says he's going to curse him every time he eats cup noodles. But Kim couldn't care less. Now comes the fun part, picking up the loot off the ground. Kang asks if the kid is some kind of soldier, because he can't wrap his head around how he's so good at the game. Then he asks what rank he was in the game. Fantasia, and our MC says he managed to reach rank 2 once. Kim says maybe he just got lucky, but he had to drop it because he was spending too much on the VR room. His companion is impressed he's been using cheap VR up until now, since those rooms used that kind because it was affordable. And for the price, it was expected to be pretty bad, causing dizziness or just having terrible performance. Kang's amazed he got second place on such a crappy device, and with what he knows, he believes Kim will be top rank in this game. He suggests they should buy a new premium machine first, but our MC says he doesn't have the money for that. So his partner says to leave that problem for later, and just grab the items, but something seems off. In the middle of the loot, he finds a lottery coin. They realize it's not just equipment that drops, any personal item can drop too, even if it's useless. The developer looks thoughtful about it, while our MC asks if that could be a problem. Then he tells the kid to think carefully about where that guild would be using those coins they've collected. The best beginner strategy is to sell or trade the coins at a shop to buy potions. Kang comes up with another question. Who even came up with that beginner strategy? Our protagonist is shocked and asks if it wasn't that bastard Poop Game who did it. His partner confirms it and fires back with another question. And do you think he was the only one behind that strategy? Then he says it was discovered by that guild's leader, and even though it's a great strategy, it also works like a trap. After a game launches, little tips get spread around the community, because strategies matter. But there's only one that's the absolute strategy. Kang explains that people post these ideas for all kinds of reasons, from genuinely wanting to help to just wanting attention. And then there are the ones trying to stack profits. Of course, Kim immediately gets that this is what applies to the leader of the Mammonism Guild. The developer continues saying, the human mind is pretty simple. And once players believe in that strategy, it becomes more than just an idea. It turns into something untouchable, like a Bible. And it spreads fast, so people who saw that strategy would sell a ton of coins. Kim asks if there wouldn't be people who don't look up info. And for those people, your partner says there are players like Rohan out there, which leaves our hero impressed by how willing the guy is to screw other people over. But then something hits him. How does Kang know all this? The dev says it's no big deal, and that about a year from now someone involved with the guild is going to become a whistleblower. Turns out those coins that look useless are actually required for a guerrilla quest that shows up at the antique shop in the starter town. Kim's shocked by that. He knows this is the most hidden quest in the game, and the time and place where the NPC appears keeps changing every so often. The dev explains it's simple. Find the NPC and hand over 1 to 9 coins to get a solid reward. Kim's curious because it sounds pointless, since the NPC's appearance and location are random like everything in this game. Smiling, his partner points out he didn't say it was random. He said it changes locations. Seeing Kim's blank expression, he says, yeah, it's confusing, but the veteran should just handle stuff like that. Somewhere else, a guy shows up freaking out, telling his brothers the other guys got absolutely wrecked. Jung, squad leader of the Mammonish Guild, asks what he's talking about. Still trying to process the mess, he's told there are already 10 casualties total. Getting serious, he thinks that's a lot, and gets even more tense when he finds out they were taken out by just one person. He's really worried, especially because his bosses are going to be on his case and cut his bonus. With his kid's birthday coming up, he suggests they find someone to deal with the problem. Right then, Hanzo steps forward. He's the top-ranked helper the guild hired, and he asks if it's his turn now. Hanzo asks why they're so quiet, while the two guys can't believe he's actually a ninja now. The leader thinks the mission doesn't really match his cosplay, but still confirms it's time for the ninja to help them out. Hanzo tells them to leave everything to him, and that it's time to repay all the kindness he's been shown. And while he's saying he'll strike quickly, he suddenly lets out a scream, like he just had some kind of breakdown. The kid drops to the ground, making everyone panic, but he says it's nothing. He explains the wound he got in his past life already healed, but he still ends up remembering those scars. Hanzo thinks about how he was top 100 in the game Lhasa, but couldn't break into the top 20 because he picked a really weak familiar. After making a new character, he tried to level up as fast as possible, and he's got another reason to keep going. That reason is the God of War, the guy who showed up in Real Fantasia and hit top 2 in a really short time. Hanzo even fought him in the arena, but lost, and then out of nowhere, the God of War vanished before he could get a rematch. But Hanzo says he can feel it deep down. The guy causing all this trouble is the God of War. Hanzo heads out, muttering that if it's fate, they'll meet again, leaving his employers with no clue what he's even talking about. Before leaving, he says he clearly remembers a night just like this one, and that moonlight is perfect for an assassination. The two guild guys watch him go, kind of stunned. The leader thinks his kids have no idea how hard it is for their dad to make money, while they agree the guy's cosplay is terrible. Hanzo gets ready, setting up some flaming traps around the area, and now all he has to do is wait. Even though it's his job, he doesn't feel great about messing with newbies, and he's actually happy because his contract with the guild is almost over. Soon after, someone pops out of the bushes. Kim shows up asking if deer hang around there, but says he's also interested in getting more items from the Long PK. Excited, the ninja realizes it has to be this guy and waits for him to walk into the traps. And when our MC takes one more step, he gets caught. Right then, Hanzo jumps down from the tree straight to the ground. He announces that it's nothing personal, but the guy has to die when the terminal shows the trap was successfully disarmed. Grinning, Kim says that honestly surprised him, and he notices his 10-star skill keeps triggering. It looks like it's what disarmed the trap and removed the burn status. But Hanzo doesn't back down and says he expected that, so now he's going to use his secret card. He charges in using his special kamikaze skill, but at the last second, Kim dodges, and that totally shocks the ninja. With a clean kick, our MC disarmed that opponent, sending his sword flying. Hanzo's shocked the kid can pull off that technique like it's nothing, and with every second he's more sure his suspicions were right. But he gets snapped out of it by another spot-on hit. Kim says that if it weren't for his health status, he could have died to that trap. But Kang says what matters is the effect of the skill. And now they know that this 10-star no-restriction skill actually includes 3 different abilities. Our hero's amazed by that, and his partner's surprised he's reacting like that, like he's just having fun playing the game. Hanzo wakes up sooner than they expected, and stands up, saying these games should have more limits. With his eyes closed, he says he's a loser, and that is one, he'll only accept dying like a loser, and that he never expected to lose twice to the same man. And at that point, Kim, totally confused, says they literally just met. Our MC thinks this guild is full of crazies, while Hanzo comments that he's a great man for leaving his past behind. After that whole monologue, the ninja says he has just one request before he dies, and to everyone's surprise he sends a friend request, asking him to please accept. Looking like some cute little kid, he asks if they can be friends, and of course our hero answers kindly with the blade of his sword. Somewhere else, a huge serpent looks like it's getting wrecked by a warrior. Slamming his axe into the ground, Mayman, the guild leader, asks if that thing finally died. A guy shows up telling the leader the guild's got a problem, but really it's the Long PK side of things. Mayman wonders what's up with the drop rate, since so far he still hasn't gotten the item he needs, so he orders them to send Hanzo because it shouldn't be a big deal. But the guy cuts him off, saying the ninja got taken out. That gets Mayman's attention, because the guy wasn't bad, actually. The messenger keeps going and says that a few minutes ago, Hanzo logged off and sent a letter. In it he says he found his friend from Real Fantasia and achieved his goal, and from now on he plans to follow him and promises he'll pay his debt to the guild someday, so don't come looking for him. Maimon curses and can't believe it, and the other guy says he didn't get it either. The leader's seriously pissed and chews the guy out. He says Hanzo was really good but whatever, then asks and finds out the current person in charge of Long PK is Jung. He tells them to contact him and say he should only move in groups of 10. He explains the gorilla quest is going to pop up and they need to rack up more coins and orders them to spread out through the village and report if they spot the NPC. As he puts away his huge axe and item packed with abilities, he makes it clear he's not happy about wasting energy in a beginner area. Maimon says that axe came from that same quest, and he gets even more annoyed when he finds out the guy doesn't have any useful info about our hero. But he figures even if the kid knows about the antique shop and goes there alone, it won't turn into a problem. Before dismissing the guy, he tells him to make that bastard Jung write a report and of course cut his bonus. Far away, Jung seems to feel like someone's talking about him, and his friend asks if he's okay. Finally, after what feels like a century, our MC manages to kill the deer, and now all that's left is turning in the quest. Kim stretches, thinking it's a shame they have to leave, while his partner suggests they go grab the reward. Our protagonist curious if the Long PK guys are moving in groups now, on orders from their higher-ups, because if 8 or more of them jump them together, that could become a real problem. So he gets hyped to go after the gorilla quest, but Kang thinks it's a waste of time, since you have to wait for the NPC to show up. Kim asks if they're supposed to just hang around the village until then, but it looks like his buddy Spirit has other plans. He explains that in a little while, near the church, he points at the guy saying all he needs to do is go grind levels in that spot. Kim agrees, nothing ever goes wrong when he listens to the guy, but he wants to know if there aren't main and side quests in this game. As a developer, he gets annoyed and asks why our protagonist would even think that, but he explains that the person in front of him will be the one responsible for giving those quests, and fairly enough, Kim asks why he's only saying that now. He goes on and says that most of the time in Lhasa it's the familiar that gives out the main quests. Even though it's called the main quest, it doesn't really have much to do with the game's plot. And that's why a lot of people try to get closer to their familiars, since quests help you grow in the game. Kim's like, what the hell is this? I mean, this isn't a dating game, but Kang cuts off his thoughts, saying he can't give him quests. Our MC is shocked, but Kang explains it's not personal, he just needs to reach level 10 first. Now that everything's clear, the guy has to go out and kill some monsters, testing his 10-star skill to see how far it can go. Our protagonist gets to the spot and it's super quiet, nothing like he expected, but he figures that's normal, since it's a place with nothing to pick up and no monsters to kill. His partner tells him to take out the items he bought at the shop. While he's pulling everything out of his inventory, he wonders what his familiar wants him to do there. He brought 3 fruits and a bottle of water from the city's spring. Kim does what his partner says and throws one of the fruits into the tree. Nearby, a rabbit had been watching him until a loud guttural sound freaks it out. Out of nowhere, this weird furious squirrel shows up. It's a hidden monster called the Tyrant Squirrel. Kang says he should beat this one easily, and since there aren't any tricks to leveling up in this game, all he can do is wish him good luck. Drawing his sword, Kim realizes that must be why he only gained 1 level after beating a level 35 goblin. With a totally unhinged look, he jumps at the squirrel, saying it's doomed for trying to steal his fruit. After defeating the squirrel, he levels up a few times. Kim's a little disappointed with the drop, but his companion tells him to plant it and water it with the spring water he brought. He does it, wondering if that wasn't the hidden piece. Then, out of nowhere, a massive tree shoots up, leaving him speechless. Kang says he did good, and now he needs to put his hand into the hole in the tree. When he does, he realizes he's found a special hidden dungeon, and his friend asks if he's ready. A bit embarrassed, he admits to his familiar that in the romance novels he reads, he likes the bad guys more than the good guys. Going into the dungeon, the guy explains that there can be monsters of random ranks in there, but they'll still be the same monsters. Everyone thinks there are only 6 monster ranks in Lhasa, but there are actually 3 more that are super rare like epic and mythic. Acting like a student in class, Kang says he has a question. Our MC wants to know about the 3rd rank since Kang only named 2, but Kang admits he doesn't know. He also thought mythic was the last one, but he found clues that there's one more, and when he entered a dungeon to find out, his physical body disappeared, and he got stuck there as a 0-star spirit. Kang adds that if Kim doesn't want to end up like that, he needs to take care of his health, and at that moment, the dungeon analysis ends. The two of them discover a legendary dungeon, and our protagonist even gets a title for it. Kim freaks out because it's so rare that even he hasn't seen it many times in 10 years, but his familiar tries to calm him down, but our hero says that's not a good thing, and Kang, not getting it, asks why he thinks that. Kim explains that the monsters inside are insanely strong, which makes it way more likely they'll fail. His friend says that a lot of the time players form a raid for this kind of dungeon and still end up failing, and with the "I already know what you're gonna say" smile, he asks if our hero is going in, and as expected, our MC says yes. He says that even if he doesn't get anything from that dungeon, he's going to keep trying. They keep moving forward while the developer brings something up. Then he asks why our MC thinks the window said the boy was the first one to enter the dungeon, and not him. Our protagonist thinks about it and realizes he didn't go into the dungeon this time. His partner confirms he got it right. Kang explains that since he's done other dungeons, his level got too high and he can't enter this one. But Kim wants to know why he didn't come here earlier. He suggests maybe the other ones had better rewards, or maybe Kang knew he'd turn into an NPC and decided to leave this one for our hero. His familiar thinks that's total nonsense and says, of course there's another reason, while our guy keeps messing with him. But right then, our protagonist freezes when a huge squirrel comes charging straight at him. He's genuinely terrified, thinking, what the hell is that? And finally, Kang explains the main reason. He just wasn't confident he could actually finish it, and that totally crushes our MC. That squirrel looks kinda pissed and seems like it's about to attack the group. Kim thinks it looks more like a boar, and he's worried whether he can even do any damage to that thing. His partner eggs him on, saying that if he clears the dungeon without getting beat up, he'll earn a title. Determined, Kim pulls out his weapon and says he can definitely do it. The squirrel uses Berserker, boosting its strength, and lunges straight at our protagonist. Kim realizes it won't be easy to get through that monster's armor, so he switches strategy and weapons, thinking about where he should aim. He makes his choice and goes for a shot right into its mouth. Kim says it was scary, but fun. But his familiar warns him that at this pace, he's gonna get tired fast. Trying to act like he's totally fine, he asks if they can keep going and just finish this already. Kang can't believe how much energy this guy has. Not long after, his partner starts wondering if he's even human, considering how many squirrels he's killed already. But it sucks that they only drop these fruits. The dungeon really does have a drop rate bonus, but the squirrels don't seem to have anything good. Suddenly, a treasure chest appears, and Kang explains that these show up in dungeons and contain rare treasure. He also says it's not guaranteed you'll get a rare item, and the odds are low, but our hero isn't even listening and just assumes he's gonna get lucky. So without wasting time, he opens the chest, and it's like the developer never runs out of surprises. The two of them realize it's some kind of rare hippo, stronger than a boss. It's the kind of monster that only shows up once in a while. Kim asks if it'll drop good stuff, since it's a rare mob. His friend explains it's more like a trap, so it probably won't drop items, but you can get a ton of EXP and even earn a title. And our protagonist says he's definitely taking it down, because there's no way he's missing out on a title like that. Kang tries to warn him about the monster's weak point, but our hero says he doesn't even need to know, he's just gonna charge it head on. His buddy thinks he's completely lost it and is sure he'll die fighting like that. Kim gets that his friend meant you can grow slowly that way, but he wants to do it differently. Then he spots another chest nearby and admits that yeah, fighting is fun, but opening reward chests is even more fun. Kang tells him to grab that pile of fruits and smack the squirrels in the head with them, and of course our MC does it. Just imagine what's going through the squirrel's head watching that. Our protagonist asks if that's its weakness, but his partner tells him to chill. Something starts happening, and a secret entrance begins to reveal itself. That reveal leaves our protagonist completely stunned. Our protagonist looks a little embarrassed while Kang tells him to go over there and hit the squirrel. Not believing it, he asks if he seriously has to hit it right where the sun doesn't shine. Kim freaks out, asking how this guy can even call himself human, but his partner says the treasure and the squirrel are about to disappear anyway. Looks like the little thing is leaving, so our MC runs after it, with his duo cheering him on in the background. Our hero is crying, apologizing to the little guy, while he gets levels and titles plus other rewards. Kim asks for his familiar to be replaced, because he doesn't want to walk around with a psycho, but Kang fires back, asking if he means him. Then the guy reminds him about the chest, and our protagonist instantly forgets his problems and sprints over to it. To his disappointment, there's a lock on it, and now they'll need a key of the same rank to open it. The two of them are on the same wavelength and come up with an idea which would be kinda cheating if it actually works. After messing around with a few tricks here and there, they manage to open the chest. Inside, they find an unidentified leather armor. Kang thinks it's interesting, but he knows they'll need a high-level appraisal rank to identify it. But our hero is crouched there with this curious look and goes, "You know that, right? The protagonist is always special." A little later, the developer sarcastically tells him to just unlock everything and take advantage of it with Lassa's system. But then they both snap back, totally shocked, because they realize our MC's 10-star skill works for appraising items too. Following his guide's instructions, the kid opens the terminal to look for info. Pretty quickly he notices there's new info in there. Using his skill, he finds out he got a rare armor, while Kang wonders just how far this insane luck of his is gonna go. Right after that, another legendary treasure chest appears, and of course they open it easily, but they're kinda surprised it's an egg. Even though he's scared it might be another trap, he tries using his power to identify it, but deep down he's actually hoping it won't work. The egg turns out to be a magical squirrel, and you can hatch it the right way. Kang says magical squirrels are super useful and cute, which is why they're famous in the game. They attack from a distance, while our MC can stay up close in melee. The protagonist asks if he just needs to use those fruits to raise the egg's stats. He looks like he's got endless energy and already wants to keep moving, while his companion wonders how the kid can be this good. A while later, they run into more squirrels, and without thinking twice, Kim rushes them with his weapon. Then he attacks the squirrel in a kinda sketchy way while apologizing, which just makes the other guy more and more freaked out. At that point, he beats the dungeon boss and hits level 10, and of course he clears it without taking a single hit. A bit tense, he notices it dropped more of that thing, but with different colors and stats. Confused, he says it's like picking ice cream flavors and asks for help deciding. Kang suggests he choose after doing the job change quest, since he'll be able to pick from 3 options. But our protagonist thinks his expression is weird and wonders if they're starting to suspect him. Then he brings up a good point. If he's not a normal familiar but an irregular, how can he assign quests? Looks like the guy got caught, but he says he might not know much about that, though he does know one thing, somehow it'll work out. Our hero gets a quest from his familiar and it auto-completes, so he comments that it's basically the perfect spirit, and he asks if what he means is that basic skills are the most important, while his partner bows and apologizes. Kang says that since Kim is O-star, the class options he gets are only regular jobs, but he can try an NPC. He just needs to reach level 45 and then he'll be able to change. Kim says there's no way he's becoming a fisherman or a farmer, but Kang explains he'll give him good items for that. Still, the priority is the gorilla quest. That's the newbie city, Lei Sin. Our MC watches a player turn in a quest and pick up another one from his familiar, calling him a god, so it looks like that player is basically a messenger of God. Changing the subject, he asks if he'll get something random from the antiquity quest. His familiar confirms it, and says sometimes you can get something really amazing. Then all of a sudden they spot the owner of the antique shop near the church. The old man asks if the kid wouldn't like to trade with him. On the terminal it shows the antique shop owner wants to trade, and of course our hero accepts. Suddenly, a bunch of people come running over, pissed off and yelling that someone already accepted the quest. Kang is pretty happy they got there before that trash guild, and tells him to grab the reward, so they can leave. But then our hero says he can't accept the quest. His familiar screams in panic that he was supposed to accept it, saying nobody has ever refused that quest before. All of a sudden the shopkeeper's vibe changes, and he says our hero isn't serving any god. Then a secret quest pops up to change jobs into Sorcerer King. The old man says that if it's okay, he'd like to talk to the kid somewhere more private. Kang is really shocked, because even he didn't know there was something hidden there, so our MC agrees. The shopkeeper says he liked his answer, and grabbing his arm asks if they can go. That guild group keeps running around yelling to grab the bastard because they'll die if they don't complete the quest. But then a super bright light bursts out around the two of them and blinds everyone nearby. A while later, they're in a place that looks more like a Greek temple. Kang tells our MC to think carefully before talking to an NPC, because it's not like talking to a normal player, and Kim agrees. The old man introduces himself as Drek, and welcomes everyone, saying he'd like to welcome them on behalf of Akram. Drek says that since he passed the first test, he'll tell him everything why he pretended to be a shopkeeper and where he spends the coins he collects. The old man keeps going, saying the kid didn't fall for the temptation, but then our MC cuts him off. He says he has a familiar, so that means he does serve a god. Drek stands up and opens a terminal, asking the boy to wait a moment. Then he says that actually, the kid's got a ghost following him around. And the old guy says he's gonna find a good exorcist for him, and Kang gets pissed at the idea. But anyway, the terminal shows he's qualified for the Sorcerer King Descendant class test. That's the one who created the Empire, which didn't last long because some entity invaded and wiped everything out. Those were the false gods, aka familiars. Kim wonders if the familiars are actually the invaders of this place, while the old man keeps explaining that tons of people died. After a brutal battle, the Sorcerer King sealed all the familiars, but over time the seal started to break. The familiars invaded the continent again, and little by little changed history, getting worshipped like gods, and now they're trying to devour the continent again. They use outsiders and call them messengers of the gods. Suddenly the terminal shows phase 2 of the test, and that freaks the old man out. He asks if Kim already finished the second test. Shocked, he asks who that kid is, but Kim didn't think beating up the long pick guys would end up being so useful. He remembers the ninja and figures that ninja's familiar spirit was the second test, and also that the guy was way too strong to be wasted in a starter town. Smiling, the old man tells him to follow him to the third test, saying the hero who'll save the world has appeared, just like the prophecy said. Drek explains there was a major reason Akram got defeated by the invaders, traitors. After the Sorcerer King was defeated, his descendant was supposed to have a strong mind, one that wouldn't get swayed by temptation. Then he says they've arrived. Calling Kim hero, he tells him to stand in the magic circle, and explains the final test, while Kim's like, since when did my title change to hero? The circle starts glowing, and the old man says all the kid has to do is hold out for 1 minute. The terminal says the circle activated, and an ancient spell called Capital Vices kicked in, and the old man wishes him good luck. Freaked out, he checks with his familiar and finds out it's a 9-star spell that'll most likely put him in danger. Kang says he can see why the 7 deadly sins are such a nasty debuff, and thinks it's kind of BS, and anyone who survives this test can probably survive the game easily. Our MC uses his own 9-star magic too, and wipes out all the debuffs he had, finishing the quest. The terminal shows that since he cleared it in such an insane way, the class got changed into Sorcerer Monarch. Kim's super surprised, wondering if he really managed to beat that. He switches to the Mythic class and gets class-specific skills, which makes Kang furious because it took him 10 years to get his. The protagonist can't wait to see his new skills. The old man cries, totally emotional, because the Sorcerer King has finally appeared again. Kneeling, he says, our MC is the new monarch, ruler of all Akram. And Kim awkwardly tells him to stop, like, yeah, I know. Then he tells him to open that box and Kim asks what it is. Dekrick says it's the magic weapon the Sorcerer King used. Looks like a glove, but works like a magic wand. Kim can't believe he just got a second legendary item and wants to test it in a fight, but the old man says it's not time yet, because first he needs to get ready to face a powerful opponent. He says he's staying there to keep working on his research, which makes Kim curious. The old man says he's collecting coins because that's the only clue connected to the false gods, so the protagonist says he thinks he can help with that. A guy lying on his bed says all these people who broadcast games are the same and they're annoying. He finds a video and wonders if it's the Mutant Deer Quest. He thinks it's a video sent by a newbie. Even if it's kinda trash, he says it'll help boost his views. He watches the video and sees our hero easily taking out those PK guild guys. He's really impressed the kid managed to handle the whole long PK squad by himself. He also notices there's an NPC near the church that he didn't know about, and then he realizes yelling that it's the NPC for the Gorilla Quest. Kinda bored, Kim says. He finished editing and uploaded the video like his partner told him to. Shocked, he wasn't expecting 400k views, and he wonders why that plaza is packed with people. He suspects it's those bastards from the Mammonish Guild. But his familiar explains it's because of him, he became a star in just one day, and suggests he should become a streamer. But our MC isn't really good at that. Looking at the terminal, a bunch of people are asking him about the Quest NPC, and it looks like the coins are gonna start rolling in now. Kim asks if his partner was okay yesterday, and what the guy did, and then the kid starts telling him. At the time, Kang said there were only 30 minutes left. You're only allowed 10 hours a day, and he'd already used up most of it, so our MC is impressed by how much he got done in just one day. But then the familiar started worrying about what would happen to him when Kim logged out. Because unlike the other familiars, he's linked only to our MC and nobody else. The guy freaks out, hugs our hero, and begs him not to leave. But Kim doesn't really know what to do and asks if he's actually gonna disappear. Kang asks what happens if he disappears and his mythical class disappears with him, and that's what really makes our hero nervous. Unlike the other stuff, his partner just sits there on the ground, calling him a cold-hearted bastard for not even shedding a tear as he leaves. Then a little later, he realizes he didn't get deleted when Kim logged out. Instead, he says he got sucked into Kim's room, and our protagonist looks pretty shocked by that. Kang says it was that stuffy bedroom where he used to play before he became a familiar, but he couldn't use the computer or leave the room. Our hero says that's a relief, because it could have been way worse, and his partner has to agree. At least he can read some books on the bed. He notices more people gathering in the square, so he suggests they stop talking there and go somewhere else. A while later, the two of them are walking through the forest. Our hero notices it's really quiet, but his friend knows they can be pretty sneaky. Then the familiar says that's good enough and asks our protagonist to open the terminal, which he does. Kang is speechless because it's the status menu of someone who just changed classes, and he says it's kinda insulting to his pride. He explains Kim has way more points than he should, and if he keeps making videos he should probably cover some of that. Then he tells him to open the skills window. He says it's the first time he's ever seen a skill called Sorcerer Engineering. Still poking around in the terminal, he says there's an item related to his class in the inventory, so the guy opens it to check. To his surprise, those fruits are glowing, and the terminal asks if he wants to synthesize them. Kim gets curious and reads about Sorcerer Engineering, realizing it lets him create items from materials. Kang figures it's a crafting type skill, and that the Sorcerer King was also good at alchemy. There are rumors going around that big guilds are after our boy, but he likes playing solo. Our hero says the strongest ones go solo. Materials he can synthesize appear in front of him. The interface looks pretty straightforward. Just put the stuff in and start the process. He decides to test the ice and fire fruits first. What he sees throws him off. There are like 28 possible results from that tiny combo. Kim loses it because he wanted to make it easier to deal with those fruits. But now it's even more complicated. Then one option suddenly catches his eye. He starts selecting ingredients one by one, and at the end the terminal asks if he wants to synthesize it. Kang doesn't really get it either, and wonders if you can even mix fruits with such different attributes. Freaked out, he decides he has to stop him, because it's way too unpredictable. He's played for 10 years and has zero info about this. He comes over calmly and says to use only 2, because if it fails using all of them, there won't be any left. But Kim just apologizes. Messing with his partner, he says he's doing it because it sounds fun, while the other guy curses him out knowing he'd react like that. Kim hits the button and starts the synthesis, while Kang just screams in the background, panicking. The synthesis works and creates a legendary fruit, which then upgrades into a primordial fragment of chaos. The familiar sees what our protagonist got and starts questioning the whole importance of his own existence. While Kim wonders if he should use the attribute stone on the egg, his familiar just watches from the floor, totally crushed. And now the moment everyone's been waiting for. They're going to hatch that egg. He asks if Kang is ready, but jealous. The kid wants to know why he's even asking, since he's doing just fine on his own. The guy starts getting all dramatic, but our MC says all of that was thanks to him, leaving the ghost with some weird vibes, blushing. But hey, remember this is a shonen, so cut the hugging already. The terminal shows it's time to hatch that egg, and without wasting a second, our hero gives the command. Because the ingredient used for the birth was insanely good, the egg starts getting a bunch of upgrades, and a cute little critter is born. Kim's happy because it's actually super adorable, while his partner explains that aside from the black fur, it looks like a normal magic squirrel. Then the terminal pops up again, asking for a name for the pet. Kang tries suggesting QQ, but based on the guy's username Divine Demon, our hero figures he kinda sucks at nicknames. While playing with the little guy, he says he's already decided it'll be Mukyang. Kim's there enjoying his pet, but his familiar is kind of grumpy, and tells him to stop messing around and go test its combat skills already. Realizing something, our MC asks if he doesn't have to graduate in the beginner city, since he hit level 10. Kang says that once you reach level 10, you can get a quest from your familiar, and receive Laysen's permission. He explains he needs to talk to the boss at the mansion, and the boss will send him to the continent. But these days it's become a trend to stay in these lands a bit longer, and that makes our MC curious. Smiling, Kang asks if the reason isn't obvious, and if the kid wouldn't like to try it. Both that awesome sword he got, and those amazing magic skills. Amazed, our protagonist says his brother is totally right. The familiar explains some people stay there forever, and of course there are mobs and bosses meant specifically for those people. Kim's surprised, and his partner adds that it's perfect for his graduation exam, and now they're heading to Laysen's nightmare, the Hellbeast dungeon. The duo keeps going until they reach the place. They're standing in front of the dungeon, and it looks like they're not alone. It seems like one of the busiest spots in the area, with tons of people looking for a party or trying to buy items. Kim gets curious about the first part and finds out it's the place he wrecked, the one where you pick up the mutant deer quest. Someone nearby comments about the videos that got posted these past few days. Kim watches people speculating about the antique shop quest NPC, because they went there and couldn't find him. One of the two thinks about joining our MC's group, but the other thinks he'd never accept that. Kang messes with him, asking to join his group too, but our protagonist doesn't want to become some kind of celebrity. Then he walks up to the entrance, and on the terminal a question appears asking if he wants to enter the dungeon. Our hero's surprised because it's a dungeon where you have a time limit to clear it. So Kang points out a monument, the record system, and tells him to put his hand on it. A menu opens in front of him showing the records of people who cleared that dungeon. But those question marks make him curious. His familiar explains it was a player who chose to stay anonymous. Kim asks if it could have been the Great Divine Demon, and his partner, acting all smug, says he's pretty sharp. Second place is named Tado Toshin, and our MC thinks he's heard that name before. Suddenly some people start coming out of the dungeon, and the people outside comment that they must have cleared it. The guy who just came out adjusts his glasses and says, "Finally got you, you filthy little dog." And we run into the three sus again, posing like they're cute little kittens. Those guys get curious to see if they're on the rankings and go check, while our hero thinks it's funny seeing so many familiar faces. All hyped up, the three guys see they place 17th and plan to go to the city to claim their reward, then head to the continent. Kang explains the reward isn't a big deal, what matters is getting a good rank so you can get into a big guild. He adds that an honorable player would try even without all that, because the records stay forever. The terminal asks if he wants to enter solo, and our hero obviously says yes. Once inside, a timer starts counting down to summon the boss, and Kim realizes that, like he expected, there's nowhere to run or hide. Kang says it's perfect for testing skills, but stacking one weapon on top of another like he did is basically cheating. The countdown ends and the boss is summoned in the dungeon. That creature stares at our hero, growling. His familiar says the boss is fire type and asks if our MC knows its weakness. So then Kim says yeah and tells his pet to light up. Our main guy asks his little buddy to add an ice attribute to his weapon. On top of that, he uses a skill to buff his attack even more. The fight's about to start, and a 5-second countdown begins. Our hero charges at the creature, and it growls menacingly. Saying the little pup is pretty slow, he does a spin and dodges the monster's lunge. But the monster has other plans and blasts fire at him. Smirking, Kim asks if it's seriously using a projectile right in his face, like does it want to die fast. Then the kid leaps onto the monster with his weapon, and he adds that since that's what the doggy wants, he'll send it back to its master. He lands a critical hit, and also gets a bonus thanks to the ice enchantment. On the terminal, it shows he earned a title for killing it in a single hit, but he's not happy it ended that quickly. Outside the dungeon, it's still packed. Some guy complains he can't find a party, and thinks about going in solo anyway. He regrets not trying to talk the rare armor guy he ran into earlier into teaming up. Even if the dude was obviously a newbie, he could have used him as a tank. There's some commotion up ahead. Looks like some kind of bug happened in the game. The guy walks closer and freezes at what he sees. An anonymous player just cleared the dungeon in 9 seconds. Kang asks if the kid is some kind of wild animal, but Kim says he didn't want to kill it that fast. He wanted to test other skills. The creature dropped 2 items, but no gear. His familiar says the boss drop rate is really low, so he should be satisfied. Meanwhile, Hyang seems to head off somewhere. The little pet jumps toward a spot, and Kim figures it must have good senses. Looks like his pet found something that actually surprises him. He finds a chest full of stuff and realizes it's an Easter egg. While our protagonist enjoys the drinks, his partner tells him to hurry up. There's still a lot to do today. Kim seems to get an idea, and his familiar thinks it might be something shady, so it asks what he's planning. Way too hyped, our hero tells his pet to start digging all over the place, and Kang thinks they've both lost it. A while later, back in the beginner city, the developer says Lhasa is like a fun escape from real-life problems, and they don't have 500 million users for nothing. Kim admits he thought people were exaggerating about the game, but now he gets it. It's not just hunting monsters with weapons. Lhasa has a whole other life in it, people, and a complete society. But things change a bit on the continent, because PK is allowed there, so if you mess up, you can get wrecked. When they get to the NPC who transfers them to the continent, our MC wants to clear something up. He asks if he can cross over to the continent still this year. But actually, it'll take like 5 minutes tops. Kim's in full no more wasting time mode. When he hears a player say the familiar app launches today, they say they're gonna install it right away so they don't regret it later. Kim gets curious, and his partner starts explaining that familiars can't always tell you whenever a quest pops up. So he explains there aren't enough familiars for all the players. Percival, for example, has 137,000 users. So the app was made to make communication between the familiar and the user easier, even sending alerts. So Kim decides it's an app he doesn't really need. Then the chief of Laysan welcomes them and asks if they're leaving the city. After hearing it might be pretty hard to come back if he leaves, our hero confirms he still wants to go. But suddenly the chief looks kind of freaked out and asks if he's the player who killed the Hellbeast. But what the chief actually wants is to reward him for dedicating himself so much to the city, and our MC receives a heroic glove. The old guy adds that he'd love to talk more, but they need to keep things moving since other people are waiting their turn. And now that the portal is open, he can head to Luana, the continent city. Kim walks along happily while receiving the chief's blessing. In Luana, he notices how different and huge the city is, and his companion says it's one of the 3 main ones. Kang says that since the population there is huge, there are a bunch of hidden things, lots of attractions, and also some really good food. The familiar is super hyped, saying the specialty is seafood, but our MC tells the guy to stop. With a worried look, he says they need to talk things through first, and Kang comments that he actually has a really good memory. Kim tells the kid to quit playing dumb, because since he has a special ability, the only way he can learn is through his familiar spirit. Then, kind of desperate, he finishes by saying the most important thing is the relationship between the two of them. Rolling around on the ground, our MC asks if they have a good relationship and demands a skill, while Kang wishes he could just ditch him there. Putting up with that attitude, the familiar says of course he can give him a skill, but there's a catch. So getting up from his little tantrum, Kim asks what it is. Turns out the level of the special skill is the same as the star level of your familiar. And also the skills are decided by the familiar. And since he's an unemployed guy who dedicated his life to gaming, yeah, you can guess how that goes. But obviously they're gonna test it and see what happens because our hero must be dying to get a 0-star skill from an unemployed dude. Starting his little performance, Kang focuses and begins using his familiar power. Then the terminal shows the quest has been turned in. Our hero gets a repeat skill, even though he has no idea what that even means, and also a title that gives him more attribute points. Suddenly the guy realizes something. This is Kang's return. The familiar thinks the game's enemies are strong and they should go all out, but our MC tells him to chill so they can read the skill description. To their surprise, the description literally just says it repeats, and that leaves them pretty thrown off. Kang tries to hype up his player, who's crushed by how cold and useless the description sounds, but now they're gonna test it for real and try to get something out of it. A little later, someone takes down a mermaid on the coast. It was our MC trying to test his skill however he can. He levels up, but still has 0 clues about the ability. He's tried using the skill by itself, then tried using it on the monster somehow, and still nothing. The kid's out of ideas, but Kang says it's fine and he just needs to be patient. Then he realizes they need to find an NPC to start the quest, but the problem is finding someone in a city that big. But hey, that's probably what you sign up for with a legendary class. Kang messes with him, asking if he really wants to do that, but our MC says the exact opposite. He thinks it'll be fun, and he's gonna seriously hunt down that NPC. Our hero finds the NPC's location easily, and feels kinda disappointed, but his partner tries to argue that it's actually a good thing. So they take a portal and arrive at the cemetery marked on the map. They find a house that looks like where the NPC Gigi is probably staying. Kim politely knocks and starts opening the door, asking permission to come in. The second he opens it, he smells lemon. Someone shows up laughing, saying the smell is strong, and he explains there's no better way to get rid of the stench from bodies. That old guy is Gigias, the cemetery caretaker, and he finally asks what he can do for the kid. Kim's not really sure what to do because since it's a quest, he thought he just had to hear about the Sorcerer King and that was it. While the old man is asking if our MC needs him, he notices the glove he's wearing and gets totally excited. And finally the NPC realizes he's the Sorcerer King and reacts the way our hero expected. So now he's got the VIP pass. Our protagonist completes the quest and leaves the old man behind, all happy, focusing on the next quest tied to his mythical class. Gigias says the Sorcerer King's relic was left not far from there, and our MC asks where exactly. Then he finds out it's in the crater in the middle of the cemetery. Originally that crater wasn't supposed to exist, and the relic was secretly hidden there, but about 150 years before the city was built, something happened, and the trouble started when the residents built a cemetery on that spot. Since the relic was packed with mana, it started affecting the area, and undead began showing up. Kang thinks about how the first relic he got was basically a puzzle, and compares it to this one. The old man says they don't have the power to deal with the undead, and now it's basically impossible to enter the ruins, but with a few ingredients the kid can make an artifact that blocks that energy. So he asks them to bring ingredients from the sea, which are known as symbols of purity. Kim gets excited because he knows that since he doesn't have any gathering skills, he'll have to rely purely on drop luck. So he says he'll definitely bring it back to the old man. With the quest accepted, the two of them leave and decide to check their inventory first. They get a reward skill, but King says it's way more common to get those by leveling up, and of course it's all random. While Kim's enjoying the moment, his familiar tells him he got 5 skill cards, and as expected, he can only pick one and lose the other 4. Being super dramatic about it, our MC goes to open his cards, while his partner asks if the kid can't be just a little more normal. Then he starts the draw, anxious to see what he'll get, but he's crushed when he pulls only a 2-star magic skill, and Kang says that just proves the guy has bad days too. While the familiar is explaining that he only gets one chance and then everything disappears, a terminal pops up above them. And right then, the terminal asks if he wants to try again, finally making everyone understand how his newly acquired skill works. Even Kim is shocked by what his skill can do. Our MC jokes that someone might show up and delete his character for irregularities, but Kang explains they can't do that. Then he teases him, asking if he's really just going to leave it like that, and of course the protagonist says no. Now he's going to slowly figure out how many times that set of cards changes, and how many times he can repeat the process. He keeps repeating it over and over and realizes he can keep trying until he gets something good, so he decides to go for a 4th attempt. Finally, he gets a 7-star skill called Sacred Sacrifice, and he's stunned because it's his first one at that level. Shoving our hero aside, Kang starts thinking it through. Kim asks if it's good and his partner explains it's one of the best skills in that attribute. The more MP he has, the more damage it does, and it also deals holy damage, but there's a cost. His HP drops by 10,000, and his stats drop by 300%. Thinking hard, Kang says there's still one more thing, and our hero immediately gets a little nervous, and then he finds out it's a one-time use skill, and it gets deleted after you use it. Now his familiar checks the auction listings and realizes they could sell it for a pretty good price. When he hears it's around 5 million won, Kim is over the moon, thanking the guy for being his familiar. Then he asks, in fried chicken terms, how much that is, because it's the kind of money a student can only dream about. Deciding to make some cash, they head to the auction house in the city of Luana. Totally losing it, our MC starts yelling about the 5 million, and his familiar calms him down. Still, Kim thanks him for the tip, because now they can enjoy a little luxury moment, since that's a lot of money for a student. Kang suggests he handle the money stuff himself, and Kim just focus on the game, which makes Kim think he's genuinely amazing. The familiar asks if there's space at Kim's place to buy a game capsule, and suggests he ask his parents first. Our protagonist says his parents do volunteer work and are probably overseas right now. Kang says that's fine, and wonders if the kid's laid-back personality is genetic. But before anything else, they need to register his account at the auction house. An attendant calls customer number 137 and asks how she can help. She asks if our MC wants to register an account, and he says yes. Then she tells him to place his hand on the crystal ball in front of him. In Lhasa, this money exchange system is handled through agencies to keep users from getting scammed. Kim had been wondering how they could cover server costs just by selling skills, but it looks like he's got his answer. The attendant says that now that he's registered, he'll be able to list items for sale. Our hero asks what the point is, since there's no real result yet. She continues, saying the measurement is complete, and she looks impressed by what she's seeing. Then she congratulates him, saying his rank has been determined as black, but our protagonist has no idea what she means. She explains there are 6 rank tiers from bronze up to black, and that it measures how impactful your footprint in the game is. Kang explains the crystal ball picked up his legendary footprint, and that there are only 5 black rank players in the whole country. The attendant says everything's set and our hero will receive an email with all the benefits an associate gets. She adds that it's an honor to work on Lhasa's new story and asks him to enjoy the Thirst game at headquarters for a long time. Kim starts thinking about how Lhasa is just another world. Then he asks his partner if they couldn't give him a capsule for free since he's black rank, but Kang says no. Our protagonist says it's expensive and they can't afford it, but his familiar gives him a pretty interesting look. Then his familiar tells him a secret, telling him to go to that place and take whatever he needs. Our protagonist gets to a spot, and through an intercom someone says, "Number 163. He walks up to something and opens it, shocked by what he sees. Kim calls his partner crazy when he sees that insane amount of money. In a bathroom he stares at that bag, not believing what he's looking at. There are even gold bars in there. Back in the game, our MC asks if the guy wasn't scared of losing all that money in a gym locker. But Kang says gyms are great for that, and that the most important thing now is buying the right equipment, that capsule. A little later, at the capsule store's headquarters, the manager Shine is annoyed because there's a free capsule trial going on, so the store has been packed for 3 days. At the door, another one shows up, and he'd really love to kick that totally classless customer out. So being kind of rude, the manager tells our hero the trial time is already over. He gives a fake smile, asking if he can come back the next day, while secretly hoping he won't, and that leaves our MC confused. But Kim says he's not interested in the trials, and he's there to buy an Artemis model. Shaking, terrified, the manager says he finished analyzing his class, and of course realizes our MC is black rank. Then, all sweet and polite, he asks if they can deliver and install it today, and Kim says he'll pay everything in cash. The model Kim bought is different from the others. There are only 3 in Korea, and its performance is way better than the rest. Kang asks if everything worked out, and our protagonist says, yeah. While petting Hyung, he says delivery and installation took less than an hour, then asks about his partner. Kang says nothing really happened except the little guy stayed with him the whole time. Our MC was gone. Pumped. Kim starts stretching and suggests they dive into the quests, and they keep moving forward, tossing spells and all. After a while, he returns to Gas with everything he asked for. The old man is proud, because getting those items isn't easy, and says he really is His Majesty. Kim gets embarrassed and says he just got lucky, because it really is hard to get that stuff. He remembers when he got the item, or rather found it right when his little buddy was eating it. Kim thanked Hang a lot and promised the cute little thing a reward. Finally, the old man says it'll take half an hour to finish the artifact, and our hero goes to check out a hole nearby. In the meantime, not long after, with the quest accepted, our protagonist is already in action, and he manages to complete the mission after killing 5 skeletons there. The two of them are pretty impressed because that hole looks seriously huge. Kim hits level 14 and thinks about getting one more level to unlock more skills, but something about his friend's expression catches his attention. Kang asks if he didn't think that last quest felt kind of forced, but our MC didn't even notice. While they're heading back to the cabin, they run into a priestess and the girl also looks surprised. Then she asks them for help getting her bearings. She smiles shyly, saying she wanted to hunt some undead, and our hero explains the direction to the cemetery. But her expression suddenly changes, and then she thanks him for the super valuable info, and she just turns around and walks off. Kang messes with his friend, asking if that's his type, but honestly our MC felt something weird about that woman. He starts thinking and realizes she smelled like lemon too, and on top of that one more thing, that red liquid. Panicking, he starts running and says, so that's what it was. Kang doesn't get it and runs after him, trying to figure out what's going on. They sprint back to the cabin and our hero throws the door open yelling for the old man. But when he looks inside, he finds the man collapsed on the floor. Kang says he finally gets why they had to do that pointless mission. It was needed to move the story forward. Our protagonist reaches the old man and finds him still alive. With difficulty the old man says the enemies found out they exist, and he hands our hero his last gift. Kim gets 2 quest items. As the old man passes away, the terminal shows our MC has gotten 2 out of 3 relics. Kang tells him to get up, because this is just a story event and he shouldn't take it so seriously. But our hero says he's not upset because of that. He's pissed because they decided to mess with his relic. When they get back to the hole, they find footprints that weren't there before, like they're pointing out the entrance to them. Then the terminal shows they found an event dungeon called Luana's Hole, and they decide to go in. As soon as they enter, a timer starts counting down, and our hero feels something awful messing with him. He's getting hit with a bunch of debuffs, but thanks to that item he got, he'll be able to deal with it. Kang warns him that if he dies even once in there, the dungeon ends. Kim looks at the girl and sees a bunch of stats have penalties, so he wonders if he should be handing out more bonuses. His familiar says yes, but no matter what he says, his casual partner is still gonna do whatever he feels like. Suddenly, a noise grabs Kim's attention, and a skeletal foot pops up. A terrifying reinforced skeleton appears. Kang explains the red aura means the monster is higher level than him, but our hero wants to give it a proper welcome. So he uses his fire arrow skill, but the monster easily blocks it with its shield. So he pushes forward thinking close combat might be better. But as he closes the distance, he notices something just in time and stops. An arrow hits the ground right near him. Looks like the monster got back up, and now there's also a skeleton archer. Yelling from the back, his familiar hypes him up to fight, but Kang goes, "What the hell, man, whose side are you on?" Then our MC asks his partner if in Lhasa it's possible to break monster gear. Kang immediately says, of course it is. So while casting a spell, our MC says he's got to use his brain if he doesn't have muscles, and dumps 20 points into magic. He uses fire arrow again, but way bigger this time. The spell nails the enemies, and something around there starts cracking. And Kim laughs, satisfied, while the skeletons look kinda sad about it. He says he doesn't know who made this dungeon, but he feels bad for them, because he's in a bit of a hurry. Then bones go flying everywhere as our protagonist uses his fire magic again. And now at level 15, he gets to roll for another skill. Kang tells him to keep dreaming, because he got a low-tier pack that only goes up to 7 stars, while the best ones can go up to 8 or 9. Our protagonist rolls the skill, and now it's time to keep repeating that. He keeps rolling non-stop until he reaches the last card. A 5-star lightning skill appears, and Kim decides to keep it, since it looks really useful. Checking the clock, he realizes they don't have much time left, so they need to move on, figuring someone's probably waiting for them up ahead. While they walk, Kim asks his supreme bro if they aren't on a quest to capture the invader, and whether it could be another player being guided by their familiar spirit. But Kang explains that sometimes familiars can sponsor an NPC too. Our hero doesn't think a player would have such perfect timing for when the event would happen, but if it is one, then the info must have spread already. Agreeing, his partner says that since there are crazies in Lhasa, it's better to keep info hidden, but in the end it doesn't matter that much. Kim asks if there's something on his face, but his partner says it's kinda impossible to hide anything with him loaded up with skills and weapons. Kang adds that it's an important quest, so he should focus and finish it already, and then they finally reach a huge entrance. That door starts to open. Facing that light, our hero says it's time to make history. When they step inside, they find exactly who they were expecting. That priestess says he got there way earlier than she thought he would. She admits she was bored and almost just broke everything and left, but it's great he made it in time. Kim notices she's sitting on a coffin, and that must be the Sorcerer King's relic. The priestess says she doesn't know what's in there, but it's gotta be something valuable, so it'd be a waste. Then smiling, our MC asks if she decided to change her plans, and the woman jokes that she's polite enough to ask other people first. With a flick of her staff, she starts the fight. Finally, she asks our hero if he wouldn't like to hand her the key to that coffin. Kim says the red on her status screen is kinda unsettling, and Kang explains the level gap is 35, so yeah, she's no joke. The very next moment, our MC jumps straight at his opponent. Their weapons clash. The girl messes with him, saying she didn't expect him to be that fast, while already counterattacking. Her hit is so strong that a piece of his sword snaps off. Freaking out, our hero realizes she just broke his weapon. Kim asks his big bro if this NPC can be beaten, but the answer he gets is that thing's a monster. King says the kid's pretty sharp and that she was designed to be unbeatable. Right then, the woman points and asks if he saw that. She points to the center of the coffin, hinting that the key he got should fit perfectly in there. His familiar says the quest requirement is to grab the relic, not kill the boss, so he needs to find a way to cheese it. Looks like our MC finally gets how screwed he is. The guy explains the first thing he needs to do is lure her as far away as possible. Meanwhile, our protagonist is cooking up something with his little buddy. The boss just keeps watching, and our MC asks if she can still take damage, which leaves Kang stunned. Kim wonders if the reward for beating her wouldn't be amazing. His partner panics, asking why he's choosing the hardest route when he could just work around it. And while he just ignores him and pushes forward, Kang calls him an idiot casual player. After stacking every buff he has access to, he decides to go for it. The boss admits she's losing patience with him. With a total psycho look, that priestess says it's pointless, because this time he's attacking without any weapon. But it doesn't go the way she expected. She sees our MC's fist flying toward her face crazy fast. In that moment, he uses his agility bonuses and unloads a rapid combo of punches on the boss. She protests as our hero nails her right in the face, but he was trying to make her drop her weapon, except it doesn't seem possible. Switching tactics, he decides to go all out. Furious, the priestess curses him out and demands how the kid dares, while Kim keeps targeting her weak spots. She snaps and charges him, saying she's going to tear him to pieces, but all our protagonist does is mock her. Then he fires off his fire arrow magic, but the boss was ready and blocks the attack. That catches our protagonist off guard. He wasn't expecting such a solid defense. Kang says it's a shield that blocks low-star magic, but it can't block higher-star spells or even physical attacks. Kim realizes his spell has the same cooldown as her shield, but honestly, he's just trying to have fun, since he's a casual player. So he rushes in again, determined to finish this his way. As he shoots fire arrows again, the boss smiles and says it's useless. That's when the kid starts counting the shield's cooldown. Then partway through, he tweaks some settings and switches to ice arrows against the boss, but the creature just goes, "How ignorant." Laughing, she asks if he really thought that little smokescreen could fool the dragon eye. Kim realizes the artifact on her neck lets her see her opponent's skills and equipment. Going on the offensive, the priestess asks if he's out of tricks now. But when she gets close enough, he taunts her and says he's got one more little thing right here. He nails her dead on with lightning magic before she can defend herself at all. He hits her with an 8-star summon lightning spell, thanking his little buddy and promising to pay him back. The boss gets worried, but she still manages to block with the shield, so she only takes half the damage. Our MC calmly walks up to her, and she gets kinda suspicious. Then he gains the skill Holy Sacrifice. Terrified, the priestess realizes it's that insane spell that burns the user's HP and MP and turns it into damage. Kim puts his hand on the boss's head. She's panicking now, begging, and he finishes by saying he's sending her back to her master, as he uses that powerful spell. A flood of holy light starts pouring out of the boss. Kim pulls it off and earns a title for defeating an opponent who wasn't supposed to be beatable. Now with a debuff for 10 minutes, he waits to see what the boss drops. Amazed, he realizes he managed to get the woman's one-of-a-kind scythe, and also that legendary necklace called the Dragon's Eye. Kang says that stuff is super rare and that he could make a lot of money if he put it up for sale at the auction house. Then he adds that the necklace could be really useful in combat events, basically suggesting the kid keep it for himself. Right then, a terminal pops up, and he finds out he can use the necklace as a material to craft something with his sorcerer engineering skill. But to his disappointment, he's still missing a few materials to finish the process. His partner mentions one of the ingredients called Ariadne's Tear and says it's really rare and powerful. Kim just grins hyped when he hears it's tied to a kind of boss, the Water Spirit King. But he realizes he'll have to leave that for later, since he's not getting those ingredients anytime soon. So sticking to the plan, he walks up to the coffin and opens it. With an energy that's honestly kind of creepy, he checks what's inside. When he sees it, he wonders if that's really the relic, so he decides he needs to look at it more carefully later. For now, he's going to check the skill card. Our hero gets a 9-star skill called Puppets of Terror, and he's really happy with the pickup. He tells his partner to look, because a 9-star skill is no joke. While Kim's thinking about that doll, Kang is just stunned that the game gives so much to some people and so little to others. Finally, they've completed the Sorcerer King quest, but something nearby moves, and while the terminal shows the next quest, Kang tries to yell and warn our MC that something's behind him. That priestess's body starts to rise, wrapped in this evil aura, and she asks, "Was it you who defeated my precious apostle?" The entity says it sucks waking up after thousands of years down there, and asks if our hero is Akram's remnant. Now serious, he answers, and what if I am? Stomping the ground she says it looks like the world is in ruins now, and that it would be fitting if the boy took responsibility for it. Kim knows there's no way a player can deal with a god-level monster like that, and he thinks he blew his grenade way too early. But either way, he already cleared the quest, and that won't get erased if he dies. Letting loose a powerful spell, the entity asks how the kid dares act so relaxed in front of her, and she fires everything at our protagonist, ordering him to die. With his eyes closed, Kim just waits for the end, but then that stone he found reacts, the energy shoots toward the puppet, and in the next moment a woman blocks the attack with her sword. The evil goddess screams, demanding to know who dares stand in her way, but the mysterious woman says she has no name to share with a heretic spirit, and with one swing she not only wipes out the evil goddess's attack, she sends her own energy blasting through the room. The creature screams that it's impossible, asking how Akram could still have that much power. She keeps yelling, calling them fools, and when she says it won't end like this, the mysterious woman finishes her off with her sword. Then she says Akram's name can't be spoken by creatures like her. The woman turns and looks at our hero. Kim thinks she's pretty cute, and then the girl introduces herself as Titania, the Sorcerer King's first blade, the Radiant Knight. She says she woke up there following Akram's guidance, and she wants to know what kind of scheme is going on. Then she addresses our guy, and he gets a little intimidated. He stammers a bit, thinking the whole thing feels kind of cliché, but all she wants to know is whether the boy is her master. Kim asks again, and the girl, totally pleased, introduces herself again as Titania, and says using her full name wouldn't be practical in a fight. Then she asks to just be called Tina, so Kim asks if she's a homunculus, basically a puppet created by the Sorcerer King. Without missing a beat, she says he's right. She explains the Sorcerer King used all his essence to enchant 7 puppets, and they stayed close to him, protecting him. And she, Titania, was the first one made that way. While they're talking, Kang is intrigued because he didn't expect the sorcerer to have that kind of summoning class. The familiar thought the sorcerer was good at everything, but then he notices the girl won't stop staring at him, so he calls her out on it. All fired up, Tina asks her lord why a wild spirit is there, and Kang feels offended because he's nothing like that. She adds that the guy is weak but still evil, and asks for permission to kill him, but Kim defends him, saying he can explain. A little later, the girl realizes he had an accident and woke up inside the shell of some spirit, and Kim comforts him a bit. Tina says she was rude to the envoy who was doing his absolute best for his lord, so honestly, she bows and apologizes to him. Kang gets all happy again, which makes our protagonist think he's a pretty easy guy, but at that moment, his game time limit is about to run out, so he'll leave everything else for the next day, saying goodbye to everyone. Then Kang goes back to his room again. He still isn't used to it and wonders how it's supposed to work. He's also curious about that little creature following him, but then Tina asks if it's a military office, because she thought the place looked kind of weird. He freaks out when he sees that pretty girl in there too, but she has no idea how she ended up there. Kang starts panicking because everyone keeps heading into his room. To his horror, the boy notices the terminal, says the number of familiars has increased, so now he's the manager of the familiars room. A while later, Kim is walking through the city, which has suddenly gotten crowded. Lots of people looking for parties and selling stuff. Then he runs into his supreme brother, who comments that our hero is late. With this super cute face, one our protagonist hates, he says he felt like seeing him. Kim notices that the dungeon from before, Luana's hole, is different now. Everything points to the idea that now that he cleared it, it turned into a normal dungeon. Our protagonist is curious about the guy's room, and asks if it has a bedroom, but Kang has never seen that either. So when they get to a more secluded spot, he asks the boy to open his menu, because he wants to show him something. In the menu they see there are a bunch of requirements for this familiar's room thing. Kim says he's sure Kang met those requirements too, but his partner says not the way Kim did. Through the menu he realizes he can go there himself and check the place out, so of course the boy agrees. The next moment he's teleported somewhere else that looks like a beautiful mansion. Our protagonist is impressed because the place is awesome, and his familiar just agrees. He was already impressed by the mansion, but seeing Tina and Hyang taking care of the garden is just too much. Curious, he asks what they're doing there, but the girl only says she's happy her lord is back. She says Hyang wanted a fruit tree, so she's helping, because boosting affinity is important. Kim is pleased, and Kang explains that once the room grows they'll be able to plant even more good stuff there. Then they can check out other sections like a lab and a training room to increase the familiar's XP. There's also the garden and an orchid house to get more materials, plus a mine to get whatever ores they need. Walking into the room, Tina comments that there's a lot of stuff in there. Finally, she says she hopes her lord likes the place, looking really excited. Kim is genuinely impressed because it's a pretty amazing workshop, and his partner suggests he try crafting something. Our MC hesitates but realizes the Monarch Sorcerer class also counts as a crafting/production profession. Kang explains it's harder than other professions and that it'd be better if he tried it himself. He suggests crafting using his magic engineering, and since he doesn't have any blueprint, he should start with the most basic items first. A circular light appears in front of him with a timer, and not understanding, Kim asks what he's supposed to do. But before anyone answers, the terminal tells him to start, so he panics, throws everything together however he can, and just tries to make it work. He realizes the result really isn't great. Our protagonist keeps trying over and over until he finally gets an excellent result. He celebrates, super happy that he managed to become an apprentice blacksmith. His partner notices he has a terrible sense of rhythm. Motivated again, Kim says now it's time to make those other ones. On the terminal it says he can now start rune carving, and Kang gets all hyped, asking if that's another sorcerer-only skill. Then Tina shows up, asking her lord to follow her over there. She explains the Sorcerer King was good at a lot of things, but his real talent was somewhere else. The girl opens a room and says his specialty was rune carving. He has to pick an item and using a pen draw a rune and its effect is chosen at random. Kim wonders if he should do it now and looks over at something that he assumes is the pen. Gently Tina says she'll teach him the process from there, and our main guy thanks her. First he has to pour the pure magic liquid he got from a quest into it to unlock the workshop. Then he extracts the solution and repeats the process until the pen is full. He's amazed holding that magic pen in his hands. Tina cheers him on but warns that any mistake will destroy the item, and Kim doesn't exactly look thrilled about doing arts and crafts. Our hero keeps working and realizes he can level up the profession to get better stats on the items. Now Kim gets curious about where they're going, and his partner says it's to his room. The guy shows off his little corner while our boy wonders why everything works out there except his reincarnation. Kang says that after the room opened up, something weird happened and he feels like he has to show it. He stares at something and suddenly gets really freaked out. Not understanding anything, he wonders why there's a capsule in his room. It's super weird, but it still doesn't work. The familiar thinks that once they unlock more room functions, it might start working. Kim checks the menu but still doesn't find anything. Then Kang asks if he wants to see something fun. He reveals the internet works on that thing, and that totally shocks our protagonist. But for some reason, it only lets you access platforms related to Lhasa. So Kang says that's the whole point. He asks if our hero wants to be a streamer, and if he sent the video of that hellish beast. Kim says he edited everything nicely and yeah, he sent it. So the familiar tells him to check the views. Our hero actually got a ton of views, and he's also confused about how that comment section works. He gets a little tense, wondering what all that stuff is. Kang explains it's the company's email, because the best streamers work for them and in return the company gives them the support they need. That sounds pretty great for saving time. So Kim asks if he could search for a specific place, but his familiar, being as dramatic as possible, says he doesn't need to, because the kid can do it for him. Kim can't believe it, but his partner explains that now that they have internet, he can use his free time to help him. He says that if it means our MC will succeed, he'll do whatever he can, and our hero gets really touched by that. So the two of them hug, also in a super over-the-top way, but the guy knows that if Kim gets sick of the game, he'll be stuck forever as some abandoned spirit there. A while later, in the city of Luana, he's already listed his items at the auction, repaired his gear, made potions, and now he needs to go pick up some quests. To his disappointment, the terminal shows he can't continue the wizard quest because he doesn't meet the level requirement. Kang scolds him, saying he's still level 17 and should be higher for that. Since he's still 8 levels away from his next quest, he decides to deal with his weak points. Kang asks what he's planning, and our hero says the only skill he can use right now is fire arrows, and he really needs another skill. His familiar says that since they already have a goal, now there's just one question, whether they should go do the Sea Cave quest. He explains it's one of the most popular quests in the game, because it helps beginners, but it has a weird condition, and Kim gets worried. Kang explains it can only be done in a group, which makes our MC ask if the devs ever think about solo players, but Kim asks if based on the whole profession/lore thing, other users aren't supposed to be enemies. The first emperor founded Akram 800 years ago, and the patron spirits betrayed the players, sending the kingdom into ruin. Kim thinks a lot of people were directly involved in that story, including Tristania. So what would happen if another guardian spirit recognized Tina? The familiar pops out of his pocket and says, basically, her master shouldn't worry about that stuff. The puppets were created at the end of the war, and since they only act in secret, she doubts anyone would recognize her face. Feeling more relieved, our MC says then it's fine, as long as it's fine with her too. While thinking the real problem is having to grind this insanely strong character from level 1. They're curious why the girl is so tiny, so she explains that in this form she can recover way faster. The group decides to head to the cave, and when they get there they see a bunch of people looking for parties, just like them. Kim looks for the start of the quest, and it seems like it's in that crowded spot. A little girl asks him to get her necklace back, and in return, she'll give you a super valuable card as a reward. Our main guy walks up and accepts the cute little girl's quest. He says she looks totally normal on the outside, and he wants to know why players call her the Angel or Devil of Luana. Kang asks if he's noticed yet, and explains that the quest reward can be either really good or really awful. Now it's time to find more party members, so he uses his unlocking skill. Kim thought that might open up his own entry, but nope, turns out he was wrong. Kang tells him to try it in other dungeons later, which means they really do have to look for more people for the group. Kim doesn't really care who it is, as long as they can get through the mission without trouble, and he doesn't even notice someone walking up. The newcomer asks if they need a teammate, calling him the God of War. When Kim turns around, he sees that weird ninja again, and the guy says he showed up just in time. The ninja puts on a little act, saying it's the craziest coincidence, because he wasn't even expecting to run into them there. He adds that their past life bond is basically impossible to break, but Kim is busy looking for a decent candidate in the menu. While the ninja says he'd be happy to help, our MC keeps trying to recruit literally anyone, but he's not having any luck. The guy steps closer to get his attention, asking the great god of battle to look his way. Nervous, Kim asks why he's talking like they already know each other. But then Kim remembers, this is the guy who caused trouble before. The ninja confirms it but says he left that organization. Our hero says it sounds like he actually wants to help, not get revenge, and the weird ninja confirms that. He adds that it looks like their goals line up, while the quest girl just watches them with a smile. He suggests forming a party with someone he's already crossed swords with, but Kim knows it wasn't exactly like that. Honestly, the ninja got wrecked. Still, thinking it over, Kim realizes the guy could be a solid partner. The kid seems to play fair, and in a way even helped him get his special class. So our protagonist agrees and the ninja gets all emotional. Excited, the guy asks him to wait a second because he'll be right back with the quest. Kim agrees since it gives him time to spend his points. He's casually looking things over while Kang tells the kid to never show his menu to anyone because he could get killed for it. Kim thinks about putting some points into agility and magic, but since he has a lot, he's also going to invest in his puppet skill. Kang says that's a good call, and our protagonist decides to boost his magical engineering and elemental mastery too. That ninja comes back, thanking them for waiting, and says that if everything's good he can invite him to the party now. When Kim joins, he can't believe the guy is actually an archer, and wonders what's up with the cosplay, but Hanzo tells him to follow. Inside the cave, Hanzo asks how much our MC knows about the place, and finds out it's Kim's first time there, so he clears his throat and asks to explain. The monsters here are a stronger version of the ones from the beach. They attack first, and there are traps all over the place. Kim, hyped, says that speaking of which, he didn't expect them to show up this soon, and a creature appears right in front of them. Kim realizes it's the perfect moment to use Dragon Eye. After he checks it, the monster's info pops up in a window. Hanzo tells him to leave this one to him. The guy starts doing some kind of ninja jutsu. He summons something called Snow White, and Kim's like, how far is this dude taking the cosplay? A super cute hero rank pet appears. Then he tells his buddy to attack with an air cannon, and the little thing immediately does it. The pet fires a powerful blast at the enemy. Kim notices the monster cancels the attack just by blocking with its shell. So Hanzo pulls out his weapons and gets ready to fight. Then he says just one word, victory, and he strikes a victory pose, using a lightning spell with a bunch of flashy light effects. Several pillars of energy appear, and the ninja does his victory pose a little farther ahead. Kim compliments him, saying the move was awesome, and Hanzo gets all flattered, saying he can't wait for their next fight. Farther in, our hero has his pet cast a lightning spell too, taking out a few more monsters in the area. Our MC praises his little buddy. Hanzo comments that he didn't know he had a pet too, and he also asks about the doll in his pocket. When he asks if he's a puppeteer, our hero tries to dodge the question and says it's kinda like that, while Tina sits there super shy in his pocket. Then the two of them reach a fork in the path. Hanzo says they just need to go right, but our hero gets curious and finds out it's because the dungeon boss is on the other side. Kim doesn't get it, and asks if they shouldn't just beat the boss now, since they'd probably get good rewards from it. Hanzo says that since the goal is to get the necklace, they don't need to fight the boss, but our MC notices the kid gets really nervous about it. Kang is surprised the ninja said something sensible for once, and tells Kim to just listen this one time and take the right path. With a dumb grin, our protagonist just wants to have fun, much to his guardian spirit's annoyance. All excited, he says they should go take a look first, and his companion starts freaking out. Kim asks what kind of boss would make Hanzo act like that, and the panicking kid begs the god of war to talk quieter. Something seems to be crawling around nearby, and the desperate ninja says they've been found. Finally, the huge boss shows up. Everyone screams in panic, but our MC is totally chill. That monster comes crawling toward them. Then all of a sudden, a glow bursts out from Kim's chest, and Tina pops out with a weapon in hand to protect him. Our protagonist thanks her, and she yells that as long as she's there, she won't let anyone lay a finger on her master. Kim thinks he got a little spooked because of how massive it is. Kang and Hanzo shut their eyes, suffering just from looking at the boss since they hate insects, while our MC still doesn't get why. Tina says the monster is really tough, and with that tip, our MC uses his necklace to analyze it. While checking its stats, he compares them to that priestess's shield he fought before, and the huge bug just stares at him. Kang panics when he sees the boss has a fast attack skill. Our hero keeps thinking through the best strategy to deal with the monster's metal armor ability. The monster is seriously gigantic. Finally, Kim thinks about trying to burn it somehow. So without wasting time, he uses his lightning arrow skill. He nails the disgusting bug dead on and gets excited to see the damage, but he's disappointed when he realizes it was only 1%. Then he tells his pet to use the thunder summon skill, and this time it does a little more damage. He also asks Tina how long she can keep this up. Determined, she says she can do it all day, and as long as she's there, nobody's getting close to her master. Pumped, Kim says she's really reliable, and that he'll owe her one. Kim gets moving. First he needs to drop the boss's HP under 30%, so he puts 15 more points into magic. Standing in front of that massive monster, he uses lightning arrows again. He keeps attacking as the boss's HP drops way faster now, hitting 33%. His partner steps in front, drawing the big roach's attention. Kang says he doesn't know what Kim's planning, but it looks like it's going kinda badly, though her MC says this is the big finale. Kim asks Tina if there's any spot in the monster's shell where he can land a hit, and adds that it doesn't matter where. His protector says she can't really picture an opening, but maybe it's possible. Our protagonist is satisfied and equips the item Greenskin Slayer. He charges straight at the roach, then he jumps to get a better view. And just like Tina suggested, there's the hole he was looking for. So he says in that case he doesn't care if it works. He leaps onto the creature and strikes it with his weapon. Our MC leaves his sword stuck in there and slides down the monster's body. Happy with the result, he puts more points into magic and summons his pet. Together with his pet, our hero uses lightning magic, blasting that giant roach hard. His companion says it was a good idea to use his sword like a lightning rod. Kim says it was a great call to boost his magic stats first, and now his little buddy can handle grabbing the rewards. Hyung is ready for the job, snapping a salute, while Tina watches proudly since she's the one who taught him to do that. The familiar doesn't understand anything, he just thought it was a good salute. Way better than some soldiers he's seen. Our protagonist says they're done there and asks Hanzo if he's okay. Devastated, the guy apologizes, saying he showed his worst side, but our MC tells him it's all good. Then the kid says it's time to tell the truth. When he was a child, he got bitten by a venomous spider in America. Luckily, the venom wasn't that strong, but he had a massive allergic reaction. Our hero's shocked by that and by the fact the kid is American. The ninja's life was saved thanks to the hospital emergency room, and now whenever he sees an insect, his whole body freezes up. Kim says that if he'd known, he could have gone after the boss alone. Hanzo says a real friend doesn't abandon his friend, and our hero praises him for it. Finally, they get the quest necklace and a portal opens so they can leave. Kim says he'll handle the rest and tells the guy to get some rest. Hanzo thanks him, but just as he's about to reveal something, our boy cuts him off. That catches him off guard, and Kim adds that the ninja doesn't need to explain anything. He steps closer, all sweet, saying he's rooting for him and can't wait to see him again, basically not giving Hanzo a chance to talk. Our protagonist walks into the portal, while the other guy yells God of War, and with a tear in the corner of his eye, he says he still hasn't added him to his friends list. Finally, the guy turns in the quest and gets his reward pack. He asks his familiar if he isn't amazing, but all Kang wants to know is why they have to go so deep into the forest just to open the pack. So our MC says it's to get away from negative energy, though he didn't think Kang or anyone would peg him as the sensitive type. After a while, he decides they're finally deep enough. He's hyped to get a better attack, but first he wants to check the boss drops. He asks where the cute little guy even got that card pack. To their surprise, it's a skill pack, and there might be something even better in there. Kang gives the kid a tip and says that in Lhasa, NPCs can learn skills too. But unlike players who get skills every 5 levels, NPCs only get one every 10 levels. He explains that players get skills every 5 levels up to level 50, so they end up with like 10 or 12 skills total. At level 50, they pick a second class and start getting mid-tier skills every 10 levels, so to get the third class, you'd have to reach level 150. That makes our MC tense, wondering just how many levels this game even has. Kang says his biggest achievement was reaching level 300 and getting the 4th class, the Reincarnator. Then Tina says she was 4th class too. Our MC already gets that his familiars are insanely good, and Kang drops another tip about the quality of the materials in the inventory. Kim considers selling a sword, but it seems like he could also give it to one of the familiars. Basically, familiars can equip items too, and Tina says it's a pretty weird blade. And on top of that, our hero can craft it into a more compact form as well. Tina gets super excited about the new sword and says she'll pay him back by doing great things in his name. Finally, our protagonist says the real show is about to start, making a huge dramatic scene calling on every god that exists. He gets ready to open the card pack. Kim's a little disappointed that the only 6-star skill he got was for his pet, and Kang gets jealous because he's never gotten one like that. Our MC checks the menu and seems to really like his skills, and he still has points left to spend. Kang suggests they gather some materials to upgrade the familiar's room since they're still 5 levels away from the next quest. Looking at the list, he realizes he already has most of what he needs for the upgrade, only one item is missing. His familiar says he has a guess where they can find what's missing, but they'll have to kill a monster to get it. He says that at the end of the beach there's a forest with tree monsters, and their boss will probably drop the item they need. Kim gets excited, but his partner reminds him they're not the only ones around, and in Lhasa, PK is a thing, and there are people out there who do anything to get what they want. But what our MC doesn't get is that weird smile. What the two agree on is that the first step is to go to the village and get ready, since they'll be doing this raid solo. Kim talks to an NPC cook who gives him a quest to collect sea mushrooms for him, and what looks like a soldier offers a quest to kill the tree monsters, because he's worried about the people. The two of them keep talking, saying it feels like there are a ton of monsters out there, and that taking down the boss of those trees could turn into a huge mess. Kim says it might be one of those fights where luck matters a lot. All of a sudden a familiar voice goes, "It's been a while, Descendant Lord." Our protagonist turns around, startled because it's that old guy again. The old man says he's relieved. Kim is okay, but Kang doesn't get what this dude is doing there. But before anything else, Drac tells them to talk somewhere else, since it's kinda crowded there, which makes our MC curious. Kim realizes that's the place where he did the class challenge, and the old man laughs and says he'll explain why he brought him there. But then he asks if he can talk about something else first. Out of nowhere, the guy bows and says he humbly offers his greetings to the Sorcerer King's first sword. Kim figures the girl must have been with the sorcerer, so she's probably a legendary figure too, and the old man just keeps bowing like crazy. Druck says that if he dies there, he'll have that memory carved into his heart forever, and Kim tells him he's being kinda morbid. And it looks like the girl isn't loving it either. The old man says he must have lost his manners with age, and explains he's there to give our MC an item, so he gets a gift box for reaching level 20. Kang says that's normal. Usually a familiar delivers it, but since he got his class from an NPC, it ended up happening like this. Kim gets hyped because he thinks a reward from a mythical class has gotta be amazing, but his partner thinks it's pretty standard. Finally, he decides to open the package. A really bright light bursts out of the wrapping. Kim gets a blueprint, some upgraded potions, and a super rare robe, and once again Kang says his luck is just unreal. That radar thing is an item you can use during boss raids, and he adds that other players are going to be seriously jealous. Enjoying his new stuff, our protagonist says there isn't much they can do about it. Kang thinks our hero's being kinda cocky when the guy says he's Lasse's chosen one, so of course he's a big deal. The old man looks really happy that he liked all the gifts. He says he's got something else to do, so he's heading out, but if they need anything they can come back there. Then our hero asks if this has anything to do with Gisa's death. Drax says it's the first time they've been attacked like that, and that the Sorcerer King probably knows by now. Kim gets worried because he thought the Ekram were the only ones who knew the guy had become the Sorcerer Monarch, so he quickly puts it together. It must be because there's a traitor among the Ekram. Our MC says he won't need to go to the shop since he's got potions. His partner thinks that's great and asks if he's going after the tree boss. They talk and our MC learns the raid boss can be pretty strong, but not as strong as that priestess from before. Kang explains that in raids the party is capped at 4 people, and anything bigger has to become a brigade. But to do that you need the Lord's permission, and you have to pay fees. So our hero thinks it's basically just a sneaky way to squeeze money out of players. Kim thinks he could just try to do the work of 4 people and solo it, but it still sucks not having a healer and having to rely only on potions. He asks his guide if there's a way to boost his damage even more, so he can clear the dungeon without trouble. With a satisfied grin, his partner says yeah, and that it's actually easy. And he tells the guy to follow him, saying he'll explain on the way. A while later in Luana's business district, they keep going, and they'll finally get there right after the next intersection. Suddenly Kim feels this intense heat, and shielding himself he asks where it's coming from. Then a heavy hammering sound echoes, something slamming into metal. They reach a forge where someone's yelling that they can make the best weapons with the best quality. Kang says it's an area packed with workshops and weapon shops, but that just confuses our MC because he thought his weapons were already good. But the familiar says they still haven't reached their destination, and the kid's wrong if he thinks they came there just to pick up an item. So they keep walking with Kang leading and end up somewhere different. They're in the enchantment district, and it looks like today's gonna be the day our main character does his first enchantment. Kang says it's risky, because enchanting and destroying stuff go hand in hand, and our MC notices there are a bunch of shops around. Our protagonist wants to know how many upgrades have a 100% success rate. Seems like it depends on the item, but usually it's around 4 to 6 depending on the item's rarity, and Kim thinks that if you've got money you can pull it off. But right then Tina pops up out of nowhere, scaring the crap out of him, and says it's not that simple. For that you need a refining stone, which you can get from monsters but you can also buy in shops. The girl says there are noble families who made it big doing this kind of refining, and she's even had her own gear refined before. But she says the best she ever had was a 12-stage item, and Kim thinks it's kinda pathetic for her to hand over a rare item to someone who's loaded with legendary gear. All hyped up, the guy says they should head to the nearest place right away, but as he's walking in he hears someone whining about how unlucky they are. Some dude is complaining, asking what's gonna happen now that his equipment got destroyed, while a young guy is apologizing. Looking tense, the kid says he explained the risks of refining items like that, but the player doesn't care, and tells him to open a different kind of shop, while Kang says, yeah, that's just how it is, and that all the shops have the same odds, and he says there's a place that's one step higher when it comes to safe upgrades, and that's where they'll get their next quest. While the guy is still freaking out about failing again, someone calls out to him. Kim says he wants to ask him about enchantments. The guy gets super excited, which makes Kim worry he's being mistaken for a customer. The blacksmith apologizes and starts pushing him inside anyway, even as our protagonist protests. The guy says his family's been in this line of work for generations, and they used to be so good they even reached the rank of Marquis. That reminds Kim of what Tina told him. The guy says his family needs a one-of-a-kind rare hammer, an heirloom passed down in the family. But one day his grandfather threw the key to the chest where the hammer is into the sea. They tried using their accumulated fortune to get it back, but they failed. So they lost their technique and their family name too. It got so bad they could barely put food on the table. Kim wonders if that's what's about to happen now. Then the guy gives our protagonist a quest, and in return he'll reward him in his family's name. Smiling, Kim realizes the NPC has a hidden quest. So our hero says he'll help, calling him Sir Fergus. Kim now understands the mix-up was because of the hidden quest, and his familiar explains he wasn't the only one who got it. Actually, the NPC must have asked thousands of users, and each one probably tried to complete the quest in their own way. Some try to raise affinity by giving gifts, but they fail miserably, because what the NPC really needs is the hammer. Kang says more than 500 million users accepted the quest, and none of them managed to recover the key. Our hero asks if his familiar knows where it is, but all he gets is a no. While they're talking about where it could be, a bell rings in the city. Kim freaks out because it feels like there's an earthquake happening. The NPC asks if it's our MC's first time in the city, because if it is, it makes sense he'd be shocked by the quake. And he says he figured it'd be better if Kim saw it with his own eyes, so he tells them to follow him. The guy takes our protagonist to a spot where he can see the sea, and he can't believe what he's looking at. A massive sea serpent shows up. The guy explains it's one of the 4 catastrophes, and sometimes it comes up to the surface to clean its scales or catch some sun. But he says there's no reason to worry, because it never leaves the water, and after that it disappears again. While Kim's thinking about how it's one of the most powerful entities in Lhasa, his partner comes over and brings up the missing key. Then he explains it's inside that creature's stomach, to our MC's absolute horror. His companions say the creature isn't meant to be defeated, and that maybe at level 400 you could try something, and Kim agrees he's not even going to attempt it. But he also knows he doesn't have any other ideas, and Kang gets curious about what the guy is planning. Then Fergus asks where his family's box is, and finds out it's in his shop. Kim asks if he can see it, and Fergus says that's fine too. But someone with a 9-star lock-picking skill already tried and still couldn't open it. Our main guy thinks it's just a level 9 skill and asks them to let him try, since he's the best lockpicker in Lhasa. A little later they get to the forge, and he explains he's been working non-stop so he hasn't lost his touch. Then the guy gets our hero's attention asking if he sees that door in the floor. With a click, the door starts to open. He tells Kim to just head down until he reaches an iron door. After a while, our hero is standing in front of that door. The guy says that's where his family's box is stored. Kim steps closer to check it out and remembers he opened a legendary box before, back in the Squirrel Dungeon. Our MC gets a bit tense because he can open 1 legendary box a day without spending mana, but he's not sure if he already used that today. Kang asks if the mana cost changes depending on the item's rank, and since Kim doesn't actually know, he goes to check his quest menu. He freaks out a little when he sees it'll cost 500 mana, but then he relaxes a bit when he realizes he only needs 10 more points, and that's when the blacksmith asks if something's wrong. Kim says he just checked and he's low on MP, and Fergus is like, you should have said something if you only need 10 MP. Digging around in his pocket, he tells the kid to wait a second and says he'll lend him something for a bit. He shows him a ring that gives whoever wears it a bonus to HP and MP. In the menu it says Fergus is lending the ring for 30 minutes, and our protagonist thanks him. Next moment he uses his unlock skill, there's a flash, then a click, and the quest clears. Crying, Fergus says he's incredibly grateful and that he'll record Kim's name in the family records as their savior, which makes our MC feel awkward. So the blacksmith says he'll forge any weapon for him, just tell him what he needs. Then he gives our hero the biggest reward he can offer on behalf of his family. The guy gets to work enchanting the item and making it stronger. Kim watches, genuinely moved, seeing that level of skill up close, and he even gets some permanent attribute points because of it. Finally, Fergus says he hopes Kim likes it, and he adds that he tried to make something that matches the riddle Kim is wearing. Meanwhile, our MC looks at the item curious. Getting way too hyped, Kim realizes that quest reward was seriously way too good. A while later, the two of them arrive at the sea forest. Kim says maybe it's because the trees are small, but it feels more like a field than a forest. Then he opens his inventory and picks the radar. The item scans the area for the boss, and he sees it won't show up for another 1 hour and 47 minutes. Excited, our hero says it's super handy, and that now they just need to head to the skull when it's time for it to spawn. Kang says they can do some side quests in the meantime, and our hero says that even though the items are rare, he won't have any trouble with the raid. But his partner admits he really likes watching all the different reactions after the video gets posted. Then this super hyped duo says they'll be the hosts, Joan and Lee. While our MC is thanking someone for something, on the screen the hosts say there's a bunch of new news about the Kingdom of Lhasa. Some people nearby comment that this is the Heavenly Sword, and our hero gets curious about it. They introduce a player who has this amazing balance of pro-level play and great style, and she's also ranked 5th on the global server. Now we see her in action hunting a boss. The hosts talk about the faint golden glow her sword gives off, which is probably coming from an attack skill. They keep debating whether it's a skill or a buff, while the girl in the video gets ready to fight a minotaur. She jumps onto the creature and with a beautiful glowing strike lands a direct hit. And that shows that Snowstorm, a famous unique sword, has reached plus 10 enhancement. The hosts go on and on about it because she's the first one with a level 10 item, while our hero already has a level 12 legendary item. And now they're going to talk about a newbie who's been getting a ton of attention with his videos, and our hero straight up spits out his food when he hears that. They talk about his crazy achievements and wonder if it's actually real. Then finally the girl says there's a new video. That video couldn't have been more perfect, the host says. Everyone gets ready to watch, and what shows up in the video is a huge cockroach. Everyone watching is totally grossed out, but our hero takes care of that monster ridiculously easily. People start begging them to turn it off because it's nasty and they're literally losing their appetite. Kim says they're getting a lot of attention because of the videos, and his companion of course says he's welcome to thank him anytime. Our guy says even more people are gonna watch, and on top of that, the best reaction was Tina's. Looks like the chat is talking about her, and obviously that's because the girl has a ton of charisma. Kim explains he doesn't show her because he doesn't want even more attention than he already gets. Kang says it's a shame he couldn't enchant his gloves too, because of that damn limit. Our MC says that since Ferguson's method is unique, he can't mess with items that were already upgraded by someone else and they're also out of materials. The blacksmith was heading out to restore his companion's name and improve his techniques, offering to help more whenever our hero needed it. They found out the repeat skill works on enchantments too, and Kim only couldn't use it because of his level. His companion explains that unlike normal skills, repeat and unlock don't have a limit. Our protagonist suggests that skill's level will go up as he levels up, kind of like a title. He suggests testing enhancement again. Kang thinks it's a great idea but says he should hit level 65 to go to the next city. All hyped up, he says he'll do his best using his level 12 legendary weapon. And he mentions the guy who's gonna help him kill some time just arrived. When he looks to the side he sees those creepy trees. Kang explains they're slow but they've got solid durability. Then when he looks again, our MC is already gone. Complaining, he asks if the guy would die if he stopped and listened just once. Our protagonist charges at the monster like a reckless maniac. He hits it with insane force, and the terminal already shows he defeated the creature. Kim says he really likes how this glove is working. With a kind of weird look, our hero says he's really enjoying this game and that the rest of them are all dead already. Our favorite tree killer keeps chopping them down one after another non-stop. Kim notices leveling up is taking longer now, and his partner explains that's just how it is, it gets harder. Adjusting his weapon, our hero says he thinks most games work like that these days anyway. He's disappointed because he wanted to test the skill that lets him cast spells while fighting physically, but the trees are dying way too fast. Kang smiles and says not to get discouraged, they'll figure something out. He says they've already started to understand how that skill works, but for now he should focus on leveling. Suddenly his pet comes running up to him, and it's got another quest item in its mouth, so they'll be able to finish that quest soon too. But now the guy decides to check the boss's location on his radar, and realizes there are only 3 minutes left. Looks like they're lucky, because there's no one else around. Kang asks if he's really going alone without his companion's protection, and our MC, all confident, says yep. Kim admits that with his companions he can keep the structure of a party and everything goes more smoothly. But this time he wants to try it on his own, because doing this kind of content solo gives the player a special rush. Finally, that tree boss appears in front of our protagonist. Excited, the guy immediately activates his Dragon Eye. Looking at the menu, he realizes all of that tree monster's skills are defense-focused. Kang explains there's a golden glow around it, which means it's an elite monster, and he says it's basically just a monster that's a bit stronger than normal. He points out that, like you can see in the monster's menu, most of its skills are defensive. That monster is known for really long fights, plus its attacks aren't that strong but you can end up exhausted. Kim gets excited because that'll only happen if the fight drags on. As the guy moves in to attack the boss, he hears his partner saying that obviously doesn't apply to him since he's got tons of extra points. He keeps running and grinning while he pops a few buffs. Kang feels like he's basically babysitting a puppy when he looks at this kid. The monster doesn't waste time and rushes in with a bunch of attacks at our protagonist, but he dodges them easily. Saying that tree is way too slow, he closes in and lands a clean hit. Looks like the monster wasn't expecting to get smacked like that and loses 5% of its total HP. Kim smiles and says he only needs about 20 more hits like that to finish this. The boss gets pissed and attacks, but our protagonist keeps avoiding everything like it's nothing. Those branches lash out while he mocks it, saying that at this speed it'll never even touch him. With just one finger he uses wind magic and slices those branches into a bunch of pieces. Kim goes back on the offensive thinking, and with 2 more hits, he activates a skill called Demonic Fists. A glowing symbol appears and a bunch of fire projectiles start blasting into the tree. On the HUD it shows the spell ignored 50% of the boss's defense, and now it's down to 75% HP. Right then, the monster casts something on the ground and our hero realizes it's starting to heal. Kim's plan is to hit it faster than it can recover. Something starts to change and the monster wraps itself up in its own branches. Our hero backs off and watches from a distance, realizing the boss is about to start phase 2. Kang explains that this boss has 3 phases total. After phase 1, with normal attacks, the boss will heal and enter phase 2. In phase 2, its resistances go up and it heals way faster. The big problem is that because of the phase 2 healing, most teams can't even last 5 minutes in phase 3. So that means he's supposed to beat it in 2 minutes, but since he doesn't have any status effects, he'll have to find another way. Kim notices his familiar wasn't kidding about the healing. This is going to be a huge problem. Our protagonist jokes to himself, thinking 2 minutes is way too much time. First thing he does is dump 10 points into his strength and his magic. When he does, energy starts pouring off him, and he charges the tree monster again. He hits it easily. The thing doesn't even have time to defend. Kim watches the boss's HP drop to 34%, and yeah, it doesn't look happy. Next, he activates the skill called Demon Fist. Satisfied, he realizes the Demon Fist options keep expanding as his hit count goes up. With this kind of spaced out look, he goes, I hit the jackpot. Then he uses an elemental arrow spell, and the boss's HP drops all the way to 0. Finally, the monster collapses in front of our hero. Celebrating his own win, he levels up again and gets the item Sea Infused Tree Bark. Back in the city, our hero turns in the quest request and levels up one more time. Kim says he's level 25 now, and the relic storyline is about to start. While he's thinking about how he's going to get that quest, Tina shows up and says her memories about the relic came back. Our protagonist thinks that's great, but he's also curious why it happened so suddenly. Kang explains her memories surface when she hits certain levels, so she starts explaining the second relic the Sorcerer King created. She finishes by saying it's Mirage, the phantom doppelganger. Kim realizes that to get the relic, he'll need to go to a part of the forest where elves live and earn their approval. The narrator says he proved he was worthy in the biggest game in the world, but something was weird. No player had ever seen an elf before, so of course everyone thought that was super strange. Kang says the update that added the level 25 elf area has been out for a year, and Kim will be the first one to actually see them. While he's wondering how he's even supposed to get there, Tina saves the day and says she knows the way to the forest. But first they have to get past the insane force field around it. She says the Sorcerer King did it before, and she trusts Kim can do it too. Tense and thinking it over, our protagonist figures it makes sense, since he has that unlocking skill. But before that, he remembers Drock told him to come find him as soon as he hit level 25. The old guy looks pretty happy to see our MC, and he explains that according to the records he'll need a special sword to break the force field and offers him something. Kim gets the blueprint to craft the anti-magic breaker item. He thanks him and says he'll test it out while he upgrades his room, and the old guy says he'll be there when he comes back to visit again. The terminal shows the requirements to upgrade the room have been met, and now it levels up to level 2. Now he's got the mine and the orchid house, and he also got squirrel workers. Looking at that bunch of cute little critters who are now his workers, Kang explains that from now on he'll be able to get materials automatically. He notices that even so, the areas they can farm are limited. Kang feels kind of weird about it, wondering since when being a room manager made him the workers' supervisor. Our MC says his familiar is better at managing that stuff, and Kang replies that he's got nothing to do besides editing his videos. Now Kim plans to head to the workshop since he needs to work on the item that'll break the force field. He wraps up by saying he'll leave the rest to them, while his partner says he can count on everyone. A while later, already in the workshop, our MC notices some materials look different and wonders if it's because of the room upgrade. Then he adds the magic breaker blueprint to his sorcerer engineering skill. Lifting that hammer, he decides it's time to get this crafting party started. Stepping out from a bush, Tina shows up riding Hyang and tells her lord the path is that way. She swears on her name as a knight that she'll guide him safely to their destination. And satisfied, our hero just thanks her. As they walk through the forest, he realizes that ever since they entered, they haven't seen any monsters or other players. Kim is wondering if there are really elves around when Tina cuts in, saying that's the entrance to the elf village. Our MC gets that he can't see the entrance because of the force field, obviously, but his friend tells him to look down at his own feet. Doing what she says, he finds a hole right under the tree. Tina explains he has to go in through there, but the guy protests there's no way he can squeeze through that opening. She says the sorcerer could just use a spell and do it easily, but that's a problem, because he still hasn't learned it. So to his horror, she says there's only one way in. Then, a little later, our hero says the game didn't need to be this realistic, and horrified adds that this is honestly a bit too much. Grinning, Kang says a lot of people would lose it over details like that, and Kim, a little tense, is jealous that he's a ghost and can slip through so easily. He feels relieved when he realizes there's more open space inside, and even some fireflies, starting to think it's not actually that bad. Tina says much to his relief that she can see lights up ahead. Soon after, the boy manages to get out and is surprised by what he sees. Looking at those beautiful trees, he wonders if this is the Forgotten Forest. He checks his minimap, but there's nothing. Tina says the force field that was keeping them out is right in front of them now. Kim watches his reflection on the surface of the force field. He touches it and says they must really hate outsiders. Kang looks surprised, asking if the guy isn't going to use his unlocking skill. But our MC thinks he shouldn't. Kim feels like activating that skill is kind of chaotic, and he honestly has no idea what might happen. And his familiar teases him, saying he could ruin any chance of having a good relationship with the elves. So he opens his inventory and pulls out the magic-breaking weapon. He draws it and says he's going with the standard approach. Our protagonist just strikes the village's shield. He opens a crack in the force field and slips through, hoping that tiny gap won't mess up the whole shield. Now they need to get to the elf village. He asks Tina which way, and she stutters. She says there's some kind of mana distortion effect in the forest, so she probably won't be able to guide him. The swordswoman looks crushed and apologizes, but our hero tries to reassure her. She's already done a lot. Kang is curious, because our hero is way too calm, but he explains it's all pretty cliché. As he walks, he says that for example, in situations like this, the hosts usually come to them, and at that exact moment, an arrow proves him right. An elf tells the human not to take another step. Others show up and say they don't know how he got past the shield, but it could cost him his life, so he needs to leave. Smiling, a little tense, Kim apologizes for barging in, and explains he has no intention of fighting them. The girl says his intentions don't matter, and the only way they won't fight is if he leaves, and the look in his eyes shows a lot of determination. Our MC isn't planning to just leave, so he starts thinking about his options, like trying to talk them into it. Suddenly the elf girl gets startled and says, "It's been a really long time." All worked up, she says, to Stania, and Tina answers that she really has grown up, asking if it's been like 800 years already. The elf gets emotional and says she missed her, while our hero wonders if the two of them already knew each other. The girl asks who the human is, and Tina, a little awkward, apologizes for the late introduction. She explains he's her master, the one who will succeed the Sorcerer King. Then the elf apologizes for not recognizing the savior of her village, which makes Kim curious. Smiling, the girl says it looks like Tina still hasn't told him about that. Centuries ago, her tribe got huge help from the sorcerer, and our hero's surprised to hear that a lot of them still remember and are grateful. They talk and the elf agrees to take him to the queen, since she knows he's there for the sorcerer's relic. Pumped, Kim feels like everything's going way too smoothly, and that getting the relic is going to be easy. A little later, they're standing in front of the elf queen, who says only, "Forget it." Our MC doesn't get that reaction. While she says it's true, the sorcerer left the relic there 780 years ago, but she asks why she should hand it over to him. Dying inside, our protagonist thinks he should have known nothing would be that easy. Our hero tells Queen Altair that if someone comes back for their stuff, the right thing to do is give it back. But she's furious and asks why humans use words like throw away and store like they mean the same thing. Kim has no clue what's going on. Annoyed, Altair says it all started with that idiot Sorcerer King. She says nobody knew if he was alive or dead until he showed up again after 20 years, and he destroyed the force field around the village like it was nothing. Kim just stands there, tense and awkward, listening. She explains that out of nowhere he dumped the relic in their village and told them to give it to his descendant, then left, even though they protested. After that, a bunch of monsters started attacking the village, all wanting the relic. Yelling, she adds that because of that bastard, they had to keep dumping money into security for the next 800 years. Kim realizes the guy basically made a mess and bailed, and Tina plays dumb in the background. Our hero says he'll take responsibility for what he did, and asks what he needs to do to get the relic back. Switching gears, the queen thinks the kid actually knows how to own up to things, and that must be why Tistania is loyal to him, so she says there's something she wants. Her Highness says there are some sap beetles in the nearby forest, and they can be a real problem since they damage the trees. They're big but not strong, so she wants him to deal with them, and yeah, that's something our hero can handle easily. So since she's so generous, she'll only need about 800 insects, which makes our MC realize there's not much generosity happening here. A bit discouraged, he accepts the quest to kill 800 bugs. Altair assigns an elf named Ceres to guide him. Then she adds she'll be borrowing Tina in the meantime since they've got about 800 years of catching up to do. Determined, Tina says she can't accept because she can't leave her master, but our MC cuts her off. And all sweet, he tells her she can stay and talk as much as she wants, because he wants to be a really considerate master. Tina gets emotional at her master's kindness, but honestly, Kim's intentions couldn't be more obvious. A while later, the guide says the forest is right there. He points out the bugs on the trees and says those are the sap beetles. Ceres explains the insects need a ton of nutrients because it's mating season, but the trees can't produce fruit like that. Kim thought he'd have backup from his pet, but she got lured away with food by Queen Altair. He's disappointed she doesn't even care enough to follow him after everything he did for her, so he walks up to get a closer look at one of his targets. He flicks his hand and strikes the insect. His guide asks if he isn't using magic, since the bugs are resistant to physical damage, but Kim doesn't want to hurt the trees. Ceres thinks about it and says, yeah, he really does seem like the Sorcerer King's descendant. Our hero keeps grinding away, leveling up and getting along better with his guide. Excited, he tell your family member he only killed 40 of them, but he's racking up XP like crazy. Dude thinks he hit the lottery. Kang thinks it's pretty obvious why. He's the only one there, so he doesn't have to compete for mobs. Plus, he kills them fast, so it's an awesome spot to grind. Our guy is leveling up in the most efficient way possible. On a snowy mountain, which is a level 130 hunting zone, the top-ranked player on the North American server takes down a Yeti and says killing just one isn't enough to get the ice crystal. A girl walks up and tells Gunther, her lord, that he did a good job. He tells Kate she must have gotten tired of waiting for him, but she says her class isn't really good in that area. Smiling, he says that's a shame because he wanted to see another high-level player die, but if that's the case, he won't get his wish. Gunther gets curious about what she's so focused on, and Kate explains it's a video of a new player beating a tree boss and it went viral. The girl shows it to her friend and he's totally fascinated by the video. Kate asks if she should go recruit him, and her partner says yes and that he'll provide whatever resources she needs. Gunther says the second that video gets posted, every guild is going to be at each other's throats trying to recruit him. He's seriously hyped, and with his sword resting on his shoulder, he says he can't wait to see what happens next. At the Maymonism Guild office, the leader says the Great Guac isn't all that. After all, he still hasn't caught that guy. A young, polite player apologizes for being late. Guac defends himself, saying he can't get much info about the kid just from the videos, so the leader tells him to do his best to capture him. Then he says that once he finds him, he should move straight to recruiting him, and that catches Guac off guard. All fired up, the boss says the guild's image is already pretty bad, and not even Hanzo managed to beat him, so recruiting is the best move. And speaking of that, he asks how Choi is doing. Guac says he completed the transition to Blood Priest, which is a secret monk class, and his sync value when playing with Apollon is 107, 2 higher than the Divine Sword. On top of that, he's become the guild's main focus, thanks to his 8-star patron. Sync is basically a measure of how well the player in-game responds to commands from their real body. There's always some delay in that connection, and the smaller the delay, the higher the sync number. The boss says that's why they're being nice and should give the kid whatever he needs because he's going places. But Guac doesn't exactly agree that the guild is nice. Guac says the unique item the kid wants costs 10,000, which is a lot of money, but the leader doesn't even want to hear it and tells him to buy it. Not believing what he's hearing, Guac questions it, and the boss tells him to just buy it already and stop acting deaf. He says they shouldn't hold back resources when it comes to talent, and to buy it for 30,000 so they can show how far they're willing to go. He figures it's fine if all it takes to stay on good terms with a talented player is spending a few bucks. Back in the insect forest, our hero keeps wiping them out and leveling up. Kang comments that the guy is leveling at an insane speed, while Kim takes the chance to stretch a bit. Then he asks our hero how many insects are left before he can leave. He's disappointed to see he's only killed 361, but he wants to finish it today. Kang knows that's not possible, but even so, it'll still be faster than other players. He whines a little when something in the menu catches his eye. He can't believe it. Looks like someone already bought the items he put up for sale, and it adds up to over 3,000 gold. Kim wonders how much that is in real money, but his buddy tells him to chill and worry about the extra zeros later. He agrees and decides to collect his payout when he gets back to the village, but then he realizes time flew by and he's gonna have to log off. Kang says it took some time to get from the tree boss to the elf village, and our MC decides to open the skill pack later. He says goodbye and tells him to say hi to Tina and Hyung for him. Meanwhile, Queen Altair asks if Tina liked the tea, saying she had it made with special leaves. Looks like the girl is really enjoying it, and Her Highness is happy about that. Something seems to be bothering the elf, and finally she says she's going to open up to Tina. She says that if going after that relic means another war with the patron spirits is gonna start, she's speaking for her people. They won't fight. She explains they don't want anything that would change the life they have now, so Tina says she gets it, and that he just wants to recover the relic that was left behind. Altair says she doesn't need to worry, he'll get it back soon, but she still looks lost in thought. Tina asks what's up, and her friend apologizes, saying she just drifted off. The queen says that either way the girl seems really different from before, and she's happy she found a master who treats her well. She adds that she's glad not just for Tina, but for Hyung too, and Tina admits everything's been really nice with all of them. Suddenly, a flash of light cuts the conversation short. Altair asks what that was, and Tina says it looks like her lord went back to his own world. And as the girl starts fading away, the Elven Queen says they can keep talking another time. She says the outsider has an intriguing gift, and maybe she pushed things too far by not even letting him properly introduce himself. Setting her tea down on the table, she starts talking about the second relic, a sacred tree that symbolizes fertility, called Woodguard, which the elves have protected for generations. Altair thinks the Sorcerer King's second relic is resting beneath it. She tenses up when she thinks about Mirage, the ghost, and how they still need more time. Sometime later, the guide shows up to report to Her Majesty. Bowing, he says the descendant left after hunting the insects, and they expect him back the next day. Altair asks what he can tell her about the descendant, and the elf says he's strong and kind. He finishes by saying that's why he believes the guy won't cause trouble for their people, which leaves the queen a bit thoughtful. The leaves of the sacred Rudram tree have the power to completely remove any kind of mind control, and she had Tina take them because she thought the girl might be under some kind of forced mental control. But the girl acted on her own, which means the descendant is someone with good character, so she decides it should be fine to give him the relic. Altair asks if it'll take about a week for the descendant to finish the quest, and the guide looks kind of surprised. He says much to the queen's surprise that he'll finish everything tomorrow. He explains he slowed down near the end because he was tired, but the queen cuts him off with a firm no. She says the boy needs to spend more time there, and Saras questions it because he doesn't get why. He finally seems to get it, and he pushes the queen to the edge when he asks if it's because he turned down her marriage proposal 800 years ago. While he's suggesting she's already 1700 years old and needs to act differently, she throws something at him, yelling for him to get out right now. The elf bolts and she calms down a bit and sits back on her throne. The queen grumbles that the guy thinks he's funny when something outside the window catches her attention. The guide hands our hero a return scroll, saying he can use it to go to the queen's office when he finishes the quest. Kim thanks him. Honestly, it's super convenient. Saras adds one more thing, a bit of advice not to wander too far from the designated area. He says it's safe around there because they've dealt with the monsters over the years, but if he goes farther out there could be dangerous spots. And even if he trusts Kim's skills, there are dangerous monsters lurking in the forest. Our hero takes that warning to heart. Kim thinks the place feels pretty therapeutic at first glance. Sure, he's really curious about those monsters, but he'll leave that for after he finishes the insect quest. First he opens his inventory and goes to open the skill pack he got yesterday. The protagonist is excited to use his repeat skill, while his partner is still waiting for that lucky streak to finally end. The skill that comes out is called Castling, a chess move, and it lets him swap places with his familiar for a while. Kang says it's not that useful for hunting, but it could come in handy in other situations, which makes Kim curious. His familiar gives the example of Guild Wars, or more specifically, large-scale PvP. Second, he can use it to swap positions with his opponent, whether they want to or not. Kim compares it to a backstab kind of skill, and his friend says that at auction houses, they're usually expensive, more expensive than that sacred skill from before. Our main guy gets tempted, since the last one sold for over 5 million won. The second one that shows up is a 4-star skill, Air Slash. Even though he already has it, Kang tells him to just pick that one anyway. Kim's confused about why he'd take something he already owns, but his partner tells him to go for it so he can show him something fun. Right after accepting the skill, the guy's shocked to see the menu gives him the option to level it up. His partner explains that upgrading a skill like this doesn't increase the damage, it adds an extra effect to it. And on top of that, when you reinforce a skill this way, the success rate is 99%, as long as it's a card that can't be sold. Without thinking twice, Kim goes for the upgrade and feels pretty happy. But then he gets interrupted, because there's one more thing. The guy says there's a way to deal with those non-tradable cards. He explains that LASA hands out cards every 5 levels, and they made a device to collect those cards as users leveled up. He says there's a card combination NPC in every big city. You can put in 2 to 6 cards and get a new card. Obviously, the more cards you use and the higher their level, the better your chances of getting something good. There's even a forum with a bunch of card combo recipes. Kang asks if he has any idea how many people are obsessed with this, and our hero hopes he never ends up like that. All hyped up, he says that now that he's sorted out his skills, it's time to go back to hunting bugs. On the terminal, it shows he's already halfway done, but they're taking forever to show up and it feels like an eternity. His familiar thinks it's weird too because it really is taking a long time, and Kim starts freaking out. They're like bees chasing honey. The guy seems to realize something when he hears the honey part. He remembers their nest has to be nearby, so he suggests they follow the insects back to it. Kim's kind of surprised by the idea. They head deeper into the forest, following that swarm of insects, and finally, they find what they were looking for. They reach a cave the insects are heading into. Kim's blown away by how many bugs are crawling along the wall and figures they found the right place. As he goes into the cave, he finds even more of them. He notices the trees are so wrecked that it doesn't even matter anymore. So he uses his newly modified skill, taking out a bunch of those insects all at once. Even with the cooldown, the kid gets pumped and keeps swinging with his fists. Or he could just use more spells to finish them off. Looks like our hero's having a great time, and now he feels like he's in paradise. He finally finishes off the insects like they were served up on a silver platter, and says he really loves this game. Kang thinks something's off, and not because the quest was easy or anything. The insects didn't react or run away, they just let themselves get killed, so he asks Kim if that seems normal. When you put it like that, yeah, it's weird. And his partner suggests they be careful from here on out, since he's reached level 32. Then he asks if the kid's gonna head back, but of course our hero isn't satisfied. He wants to go after whoever's behind the honey. They keep pushing forward, killing every insect in their way, until they think they're close to the center of the cave. Kang senses something different in the air and warns him a boss fight might be about to start. A huge shadow appears in the smoke ahead, while the familiar tells him to watch his step. Kim wonders if that's the boss, because he can't see anything through the fog. When he's about to do something, he gets a tip saying that in the game, skills lose 50% of their effect if you don't chant when you use them. The power difference is huge, but the downside is you basically announce what you're about to do before you do it, so in PvP you can get wrecked. Kim realizes he doesn't have much choice right now, and needs to use a silent chant. He adds the Air Slash spell as a riddle, which makes it a silent spell that uses less mana, but won't get penalties. So he finally uses his magic against that boss. Kim waits, watching the result of his attack. Looking at the creature, he wonders if it's a praying mantis. He wonders if that massive insect is really the boss, and if it is, what the hell even is that? On the terminal, it shows that an event has started, and Kang says that boss is at least 35 levels higher than him. Kim, using his Dragon Eye, realizes that monster is absolutely insane and has 8-star abilities, and his familiar adds that it was the Ice King's son. Our MC says he gets it, and asks him to help keep their guard up, but his partner cuts him off, saying no. All serious, he says there's no way he can beat that monster, and they need to get out of there. Our hero doesn't get why and questions him, and his partner looks genuinely worried, because the monster just noticed them. That huge monster makes the first move and uses some kind of mind control magic. Our hero's unlock skill protects him, clearing the mind control, but Kim gets kinda tense. He even gets a little hype that he managed to resist. Kang explains the boss is only getting started with its 8-star skills. Then he asks if Kim remembers the limits of the Dragon Eye. He reminds him that the item can't see anything beyond 9-star abilities or higher, which freaks our protagonist out. Finally, he realizes he can't see any of the boss's skills that go past 8 stars. The monster looks kinda irritated, and Kim thinks it's because his skill cancelled the creatures. For a moment they just stare each other down. Then suddenly the thing seems to use some power. Kim wonders if it's like a blizzard. Whatever it is, it's making his HP drop. Little by little, the ground starts freezing over. There's only one thought: death. The creature uses a 9-star skill called Permafrost. Kim realizes his feet are frozen to the ground, so he won't be able to dodge. Since he's in range of the spell, he's going to get a debuff that slows him down, and that means he'll be an easy target. Panicking, he tries to open his inventory as fast as he can before it hits. He manages to grab a scroll from his bag, and using his unlock skill, he gets rid of the freezing status that had him stuck. Right after that, he rips the scroll, releasing this bright glowing energy. That massive wave of icy power keeps rushing toward him, and with a flash of light, he triggers a teleport to a preset location. The next moment, he's somewhere else, legs shaking. He drops to the ground terrified, saying he thought he was gonna die. Kang realizes that even though they avoided a game over, the kid's in shock. This is the first time he's ever had to retreat like that. He walks up and asks if Kim's okay, and the guy just goes, "If I'm okay?" Then his expression totally flips, and he's like, "Of course I am. Where else am I gonna get this kind of fun?" All fired up, he says next time that boss is gonna get wrecked, while his friend is thinking the kid is seriously not right in the head. Super curious about what just happened, he asks Kang to tell him about that thing, because it's obvious he knows something, while shaking him non-stop. But before Kang can answer, a voice cuts in saying she'll give him the answer he's looking for. Altair shows up with a serious look and asks what they're doing there. Our protagonist gets awkward and asks if she really came all that way because of him. The queen gets annoyed at how careless every wizard is, then tells him to summon Tina and follow her. Back in her office, she says she'll reward him first for all his hard work. She flicks a finger, and the menu shows that not only did he complete the quest, he also got her approval. Then putting her hand on a chest, the queen says that's his too. He opens it and finds a hero-class bracelet. Kang says it's really good and he'll be able to use it for a long time, which makes our MC pretty happy. The familiar suggests focusing on hit spells next, stuff that has a chance to trigger when you land a hit. Those kinds of spells don't cost MP, and in theory you could even put a healing spell on hit so you wouldn't need potions anymore. There's also an elven bow as a reward, but Altair assumes it'll be more useful if she gives it to Tina, who thanks her for it. But now it's time to get back to the main point. She asks if he found the geyser fragment during the quest, meaning that weird praying mantis thing. Kim says he followed the insects to the cave and found it, adding that it's insanely strong. Altair says it really must be, and that it's basically a miracle he made it out alive. She adds that even though it's a fragment, to Kim's surprise, it's actually one of the 4 catastrophes. The 4 catastrophes showed up when the world was born. One of them is the sea serpent of the east, then there's the ice spirit of the west, next is the hurricane beast of the south, and last, the blazing phoenix of the north. Altair says even one move from these beasts can wreck a whole nation, and that a war between 2 of them turned an entire region into a wasteland. There are endless stories about them but not enough real info, since they're basically legendary beings. But there's one thing the queen can say for sure. He can't even begin to imagine how deep their power goes. She says that like natural disasters, hurricanes, earthquakes, there's no real explanation for why they move when they do. And that's why every living thing in the world is constantly scared, like always afraid they'll get attacked again by these creatures with zero warning. Kim says it's a miracle the world is still in one piece, but Tina gently points out that sometimes good things come from these beasts too. Our guy's kinda skeptical, but his companion backs her up. She says that 800 years ago, an alliance of fake gods tried to take down the Phoenix because the existence of the 4 catastrophes was bad for them. Trying to put an end to them, 3 9-star beings and 15 8-star beings fought the entity. And in the end, they lost without even leaving a scratch on the Phoenix, and their 9-star leader, Hercules, died in the fight. That whole story leaves our hero stunned. Kang gets why nobody could summon Hercules in the game for 10 years. He died before he could become a patron. Kim mentions that a 9-star spirit is level 400, and gets curious about the catastrophes, but Tina quickly clears it up, saying they're around level 700 to 800. Totally shocked, he looks at the girl and she explains that's what the students at Akram say. Back to the point, our hero goes, wait, so a fragment of these ridiculously strong monsters is just roaming around the forest? And with the queen there, he asks if she really thinks that's okay. He suggests moving everyone somewhere safe, but Altair says she can't, because the elves need the Tree of Life to have children, and for that to keep being possible, they need a seed for another Tree of Life. That's the fruit of Rudran, which will be ripe in a week, but she doesn't think the monster is just going to sit around and wait. But the queen points out that he already saw that thing isn't in normal condition, and he did notice something when he checked its stats with his dragon eye. He remembers it was at 1/3 HP and MP, so Altair says it's still suffering from the recovery. She explains that during the war, Dreadsure came to the forest to get materials for his final effigy, and that man helped them fight the fragment of the ice spirit. Using his insane magic, the Sorcerer King almost killed the creature, but it managed to escape at the end. For 800 years that monster controlled the sap beetles to gather mana for it. She explains that the Tree of Life's fruit is basically condensed pure mana, and the monster took centuries just to recover 1/3 of its life. On top of that, she has no doubt the monster will attack them soon to get the elixir that'll heal its wounds. So in the end, she says she has no choice but to ask the Sorcerer King for help again. Then the elf stands up and formally asks our hero to save her and her people. Kim realizes he's getting another quest, and if he clears it, he'll get the relic and a savior of the elves title. He notices this quest is different, because he can reject it and still get the second relic, but he'll have a terrible reputation with her. Kang smiles and says it looks like the reward is going to change depending on what the player chooses from here on out. Seeing our MC confused, he explains the guy can take the easy route and refuse or gamble on the harder path with better rewards. Then he asks what he wants to do, and with that hyped look, our protagonist goes, obviously, I'm going into battle with Altair. He thinks that even outside casual games, there's no way he can let this slide. Altair thinks humans are ambitious, and this also buys her more time until the fruit ripens. Finally, to our MC's surprise, she asks him to protect the fruit during the time they have left, not go hunt down the monster. The queen says she doesn't have the strength to pour into this anymore, and that even with his help it'd be almost impossible to defeat that fragment. But are you sure the monster understands that once the seed's been planted, there's no way to remove it? So it has to back off, and that's enough for now. Our main character hears all that, but in the end he says he's got a question about it. He says he's on board with the plan, but wants to know if she'd mind if he took it down. The friends are walking across the field when Kang calls our MC over and asks, "I know you're a super chill casual player, but were you serious?" All laid back, Kim goes, "Oh come on." He explains that what he told the queen earlier was just him getting carried away. Before he knew it, the words were already out. He says he has an idea, but first he wants to see how things play out. Our protagonist says that fragment is on a whole different level compared to the other monsters he's dealt with. He remembers that permafrost skill and can barely believe how much power a 9-star skill can hold. He mentions that the total of the skill level plus the patron is always 10, and asks if someone shouldn't try a 1-star patron on the first pull. Kang says lots of people try that in the game, but basically everyone fails. Plus, it's expected that a level 9 skill would burn a ton of MP. Some of them cost 1000 MP, so you couldn't use them at level 1. You'd have to wait until you change classes to pull that off. He keeps going, saying that even if you manage to tough it out and use the skill, there are still more issues involved. Kim gets a little tense hearing this whole list of problems, like needing stats that match the skill, or even having a backup skill. He asks how Kang managed it then, and the familiar says there's an express package that's better than a higher level one, and you can get it from the exchange NPC, or in really rare cases as a reward from a hidden quest. Our MC tells his master he has a question, and even though his partner thinks he knows what it is, he tells him to go ahead. So Kim asks if he knows how to unlock the hidden secret of a 9-star skill. The guy smiles and says he wouldn't have brought it up if he couldn't. Our hero and his companions start totally sucking up to that patron, and basically worshipping him for the info, leaving him kind of stunned. Finally, they suggest checking what quests they can pick up in the elf village. Since they need to wait a while for the fruit to ripen, the guy wants to level up as much as possible before facing that fragment again. Kang thinks it's a great idea, but since it's his first time there too, he can't really recommend any quests. But our protagonist says it's fine. He's sure they'll find something in the elf village. As he walks through the village, 2 elves give him 2 different go collect stuff quests. Another one wants him to deal with the monster problem the fragment is bringing into the forest. And there's even a quest from Her Majesty, with her subjects saying that even though she's a great leader, she's terrible with directions. Pretty baffled, he hears them ask him to find her again because she's probably gotten lost somewhere, but the XP reward is really good too. A while later, our protagonist gets a bunch of rewards that he hands over to Tina, making her really happy with the gifts. Kim says excitedly that the elves seriously love him, while his partner asks if he isn't scared of the fragment. Being all cute about it, the kid says he doesn't know, but he'll worry about that when the time comes. The menu catches his eye with a quest asking him to find the queen again, which is weird because she should know that city really well. King says it doesn't matter. The XP and rewards are great. They've seen with their own eyes how much she wanders around, and apparently she gets lost all the time. Kim wonders if elves aren't supposed to be good at navigating, thinking the whole elves are amazing at tracking fantasy is slowly falling apart. Sometime later, already deep in the forest, the kid finds the elf queen. He jumps up, calling out to the queen, but his partner grabs him by the clothes and yanks him back. Not getting it at all, Kim says he scared him, and asks what's going on. Kang asks where they are right now, and still confused, our hero says they're near the Tree of Life. Suddenly, it's like our protagonist realizes something. He remembers the Tree of Life is on the northern edge of the village, and the elves barely ever go there, so why would Altair be there? The woman keeps walking closer until she spots an entrance, and she starts heading inside. Terrified, our MC realizes her attitude is seriously suspicious. Kang asks what they're going to do, and Kim says they don't really have a choice but to keep going with the quest. Determined, he pushes forward and tells his supreme brother they need to follow the queen. With his usual excitement, he says, "Who knows? Maybe the queen's got something really fun for us in there. I want to see it with my own eyes." Kim reaches the tree Altair went through. The menu says he's the first human to enter, and he gets a blessing. His partner says the elves wouldn't show up for another year, so that's why he was the first. He gets even more hyped because everything's going exactly how he planned. Following the queen in there should get him some great rewards. Then the group reaches a fork in the path, and the queen definitely took one of them. Kim thinks he knows which way she went. He suggests they try the middle path while checking the marks on the ground. The two of them keep walking, and it starts getting really cold, so it's impossible not to compare it to the Beetle Cave. Worried, he thinks the cold feels exactly the same, but this is the last place he should be. So why is he this uneasy? They keep going and reach a beautiful clearing, and his partner tells him to look. Altair is there, lying on top of a coffin. The familiar says the coffin must be what's causing the cold, and Kim jokes that she's got way cozier places to take a nap. Plus, it's been a while since she first came in. Suddenly, a magic circle appears high above her. The protagonist is shocked, and his friend tells him they should hide for now. Out of nowhere, the geyser fragment shows up, and Kim, already hidden, wonders what that thing is doing there. That icy air starts swirling around, spiraling through the room. Terrified, our MC realizes it's forcing all that cold air into the coffin. Kim gets more and more confused and worried about Altair, and tells his brother he's got a bad feeling about this. Kang, dead serious, says the queen didn't disappear, and to Kim's surprise he says the elf turned into the fragment, explaining she has a skill that makes it possible. It's an 8-star boss-only skill called camouflage. Kim thinks it's been pretending to be the elf the whole time, and that's why it's trying to destroy the coffin. But his familiar feels like there's more to it. That thing turns back into the queen, and with a sad look says it's almost time. She turns and heads for the exit, while our hero holds his breath in fear. She walks out of the room and our protagonist, panicking, thinks he's about to get caught. Kang suggests they carefully assess the situation before making their next move. What they know is the fragment is disguised as the queen, and is trying to destroy the coffin. After that, it turned back into Altair and left the place. So he says he thinks he knows what she meant by "it's almost time." Kim says they might get a clue if they take a look at the coffin. He thinks it looks fragile, but the cold is still coming from it. Also, he doesn't see any sign of damage, so he concludes she's not trying to destroy it. If anything, it looks like it's being taken care of. Kang says there's a missing piece to the story, and besides, the coffin seal must be Altair's, so they probably won't be able to open it. But the thing is, our hero is really good at opening stuff, and yeah, that's exactly what he's thinking. They look at each other like they both reach the same conclusion at the same time. As he approaches the coffin, our protagonist is excited to see what happens. He uses his stolen lockpicking skill, and an energy appears right in front of him. Both of them are totally stunned by what they're seeing. A strand of golden hair appears, and Kim asks what's going on. Inside, the elven queen is there, lying peacefully. Our hero doesn't get it, and asks if the queen is in there, then where's the relic? His partner thinks he understands what's happening, but first he suggests they get out of there. Kim questions it, but Kang explains the fruit is almost ripe, so they need to focus on the scenario event. As they walk, the menu shows they have 1 hour until the fruit ripens. They start running, and time keeps ticking down. They arrive at night right as the timer hits 0, and they hear the village elves shouting that it's an emergency. One of them yells that the monsters are coming. Chaos breaks out in the village, between orders to gather the kids and keep everyone safe. While they're praying for Rudram to protect them from this evil, that fragment shows up with an army of monsters. An elf gives the order for the archers and mages to get ready to fight and stay on standby. She thinks she gathered as many as she could, but it's still nowhere near enough against that massive monster army. Looks like the fragment brought every monster it could get its hands on. Right then, Altair shows up and says that if they get past that shield, not even the blessing of the sacred tree will be able to save them. The elf tells everyone to calm down and keep their minds steady, because it'll be a win if they can just defend their land. With a suspicious look, she wonders what the Sorcerer King's descendant is going to do now. Meanwhile, the monstrous fragment and its army move in. The elf gives the signal to shoot for their families, their homes, and the sacred tree. She tells the archers to aim at the ones in the sky and the mages to not let anything get through the barriers. But the elf finds it weird that the fragment isn't doing anything. She figures it's after the Tree of Life, and as she readies her bow, she says she won't let it get what it wants. She fires at the monster, thinking there's no easier target than a sitting duck. When the arrow hits, the monster completely shatters, and the girl realizes it wasn't real, it was a fake. Looking for help, she turns to talk to Her Majesty, but she realizes the queen has just vanished, so she yells, asking where she went. A little while later, she's arriving at the sacred tree, but then she says she knew that monster was a trick, and tells Geyser's fragment to show itself. The creature says she's different from the other idiots for noticing it was hiding, and down there, our hero says he got caught. A pretty weird situation forms. Now we've got our protagonist, the queen, and this huge pissed-off monster. Kim thought she'd called for him, but Altair explains she called for the fragment, and the most confused one, honestly, seems to be the monster itself. Finally, the fragment says it won't tolerate that disrespect, and uses its permafrost ability again. At the same time, the elf fires back with a powerful fire spell. The two spells, ice and fire, slam into each other right in the middle. Altair gets hyped seeing that much power and asks if our hero is okay. Kim says he's fine but mentions his arm, and the queen replies with a question. Judging by your reaction, how long have you known Master? Altair watches him with those flaming arms, and our protagonist says he figured it out 2 days ago, when he followed her into the Tree of Life. At first he thought the fragment was impersonating her, but then he understood when he saw the real Altair left inside the coffin. He knows the system wouldn't let someone else take the sorcerer's relic, but the system didn't unlock that quest. Staring at the woman, our hero says there's only one explanation. The sorcerer's relic is alive, just like her, and he calls her Mirage. Mirage, the doppelganger ghost, is the Sorcerer King's second relic. Even though she's intangible, she can become physical and take on other forms. Our MC says he missed a bunch of hints about that in the elf forest. He remembers Tina saying there's an effect in the forest that messes with mana, and it throws their senses off. Kim says he would have realized she was fake if he'd thought about it for a second, but asks why she's disguised as the queen. But the fake queen tells him they'll talk after the fight, because right now they need to deal with that fragment. The creature screams at them to get their hands off the fruit or they'll die, as it charges in to attack. Not intimidated, the ghost smiles and tells her master to watch closely, and says he's about to see just how powerful this sorcerer relic can be. Our MC gets curious, and Tina explains that the 7 dolls are known as the sorcerer's masterpieces, but the ghost has a special ability. Tina finishes by saying it can turn into your worst enemy. To the fragment's surprise, the ghost turns into the Sorcerer King and says they should finish this already, since it's been like 800 years. Looking at his arm, he realizes not even half his powers have come back yet. Flipping the monster off, he says that's still more than enough for someone like it. The fragment gets really pissed, calling him a weak human. A bit confused, Kim thinks Mirage's personality is kind of different. The monster attacks, screaming for him to die. Mirage, on the other hand, says the monster is nothing but a tiny insect. He easily blocks the creature's attack with his bare hands, and even the fragment looks surprised. That wizard starts mocking it, asking if that doesn't bring back memories from 800 years ago, which just pisses off the giant bug even more. Then it uses an 8-star skill called Blizzard Nova, and the wizard comments that it's a pretty cool trick, but he calmly starts casting a fire spell, and yelling, "Calamity Inferno." He completely cancels out the fragment's attack. Kim says he's gonna end up destroying the village like this, and Tina explains that's just how the wizard is. 1 or 2 villages don't really matter to him. In disbelief, our protagonist wonders how someone like that ever became king. A menu pops up saying his stats went up because he witnessed someone with the same class as him, just way better. Kang asks why the kid is just standing there watching, and our MC says the guy's so good there's basically no room for him to jump in. The familiar agrees since the guy's already used more than 30 skills, and the craziest part is they're all master level. They get curious what level he even is, and Tina explains it's possible because His Majesty was born with a divine body. He was born with the divine body skill, and as he leveled up, he got double the points normal people get. Kim thinks that's awesome and says he wants that too, but his partner calls him an idiot and says he gets triple. Now there are 5 minutes left until the fruit ripens, and the Wizard King is done playing around. Time for the big finale. The wizard uses a huge power against the monster called Ultimate Stone Cuffs. The creature curses at him, realizing it's a skill meant to restrain its movements. Meanwhile, Tina says the injuries from 800 years ago, the ones the wizard inflicted, have opened up again because they reacted with its mana. Kim grins and thanks her for the explanation, while Kang looks kind of worried because he knows exactly what that kid is thinking. The menu shows the event has started, and he has to protect that fruit from the fragment, but it looks like the guy has something up his sleeve. That catches Mirage off guard, and a massive white flash appears right in front of him. The creature starts cracking, which freaks the wizard out. Looks like that thing is shedding its skin. Back when it was just a small shard of ice, it had no intelligence and only moved based on instructions planted in its mind. But after taking an attack that nearly killed it, its mind awakened and the monster started questioning itself and its own existence. But it could end that suffering by getting its hands on the fruit, and that would let it reach the peak of its existence. The wizard wonders if the opponent gave up its size to become more agile, and on top of that, it's running out of mana. Right at the moment it's about to win, the fragment spreads its wings and leaps. It closes in on the tree with the fruit, saying it's all his, and notices the tree has a massive life essence. But our hero is there and basically goes, nope. The monster, totally confused, sees that little thing there and wonders, since when that squirrel has been on the tree. It watches the little guy for a bit and ends up thinking it's cute, but then it yells no and snaps out of it right away. While the fragment is shouting, the squirrel gets teleported back to its master through a shadow skill. Hyped, our hero says his pet's timing was perfect, and the pet salutes like it was taught earlier. Watching our MC messing around with his pet, Mirage realizes the descendant had a plan from the start. Kim's surprised he can't put the fruit into his inventory, and his partner says it'd make the quest way too easy if he could, which sucks because he doesn't want to have to keep holding it. Then Hyeon gets all happy because her master asked her to hold on to the fruit a little longer. The creature loses it, calling him a little bastard. It charges at our hero and his pet, demanding they give the fruit back. Kim figures it must have burned a ton of energy shedding its skin, and right then Tina appears in front of him to protect him. Mirage decides to jump in too and fires his magic at the fragment. Even so, the monster still lands a hit on our MC, dropping him to 50% HP. Kim freaks out at how strong that attack was. He watches the fight playing out in front of him, and it's basically like a pet battle. He thinks they need a plan, and right then the fragment realizes it can't see the fruit anymore. The creature looks for that damn squirrel until it finds it. And that image right there is basically how the monster sees our cute little guy. Without thinking twice, the fragment uses its permafrost skill on our group again. Everyone starts freezing really fast, which is weird because they were sure that skill should still be on cooldown. Kim realizes the monster used some ability to reduce its cooldown time, and the moment he breaks free, Kang warns him another attack is coming. It's way too fast and gives our MC zero chance to defend himself. He slams into the wall hard. His familiar freaks out, but Kim says it's fine, he's still alive. The group talks about how this quest is seriously tough and wonders how they're even supposed to clear it. But right when Kim says it's okay because Hang still has the fruit, things go sideways. The fragment is right in front of the little squirrel, and our hero's like, when did that thing even get there? And it makes total sense that huge monster used mind control on our cute little buddy. The squirrel runs straight toward it, while Tina tries to yell for him to stop. But there's no stopping it, the squirrel keeps going like it was ordered to, while the fragment laughs and shouts that the fruit is his. The monster was planning to back off and come up with a plan because it was injured, but it didn't expect the fruit to basically fall into its lap. It celebrates, thrilled to finally be complete. But our hero steps forward and says it's not over yet. The fragment doesn't get why Kim is there instead of the squirrel. Kim just smiles and says it was really good he learned that, then uses his swap skill and switches places with his familiar. The fragment can't believe he managed to switch positions that fast. Kim asks if the monster's curious, getting ready to move. Then he charges in, saying it's all thanks to the ultimate betrayal type skill. The fragment realizes Kim is really fast, but thinks it can still protect its weak spot and counterattack. Kim asks if it's trying to hide its scars just to buy time, while he gathers power. Not letting it stall, our MC attacks and the creature's shocked at how fast he is. Kim opens his inventory, pulls out the magic-breaking dagger and drives it straight into the fragment's stomach. Kim grins, satisfied as his opponent starts cracking and falling apart, saying it can't die like this. After a well-earned breather, he gets bonuses and levels up again, thankful it's finally over. His familiars come running over, worried about whether he's okay. Kang's stunned and can't believe Kim actually beat the monster, while Kim gets all awkward about it. Then a woman walks up saying she's glad to see him safe. She congratulates him on clearing the mission, and our hero thanks Altair, asking if it'd be better to call her Mirage. The elf just takes the fruit and says she'll keep it. Haim looks super sad, but our hero says he'll give a really generous reward for it. Kim's hyped, they completed the mission and wants to know what the reward is because according to him it's gotta be really good. His familiar asks if it's like the stuff that dropped from that ice fragment. With that full-on greedy gamer face, our protagonist goes to grab the loot. Kang even thinks the kid's got a point, but it sounds kind of unhinged coming from him. A little later, they gather everything and see there's a ring, some magic materials and a card. First up, the ring is called the Ring of Frozen Restraints, and it looks great for resisting and boosting ice skills. Then Kim looks at the card, but he's a bit disappointed when he realizes it's just one card, not a whole pack. Kang tells him to think about it properly. Then he asks why players will kill each other for a chance to fight a boss. Finally, our MC gets it, because the items are better. His familiar confirms it, and says bosses can drop rare or even exclusive items, but there's another reason too. He explains bosses have a really low chance of dropping a higher level skill pack, and because it's that rare, a boss skill pack sells for a ridiculous amount. Then he adds there's another situation where you get just a single card, and to Kim's shock, he says it's when it's a skill that used to belong to the boss. Our protagonist checks the boss's skills and asks if he's saying he could get any one of them. He gets worried and asks if the card has any class restriction or something, but his partner says no. Kim admits any of them would be great, except that 6-star one called Mantis Form. He decides to check the last item, a white ice crystal, which is a legendary crafting material and contains an unimaginable amount of life energy. Our MC is kind of surprised by that description. The menu warns that this triggers a despair trap for our hero, explaining that the ice spirit will be watching him from now on. Kim freaks out and wonders why this is happening to him, asking why Mr. Ice Spirit is doing this. He tries using his unlock skill. On the terminal, it shows the curse has been removed, and now the two of them can finally breathe again. Still tense, he decides to check the last item in his reward and finally opens the skill card. He celebrates, super emotional, for getting the 9-star permafrost skill. Kang congratulates him and tells him to dump all his points into that. Our protagonist admires his status window, which looks really nice now with so many skills. Kim says it's better to save some points and get good at whatever skills he can. After seeing Mirage fight, he doesn't know which skill might end up being useful, because even a low-tier skill can be good. And thinking about that, the guy still has a card pack from when he hit level 35, and he plans to open it now. But he gets interrupted by a bunch of elves running over, worried about whether Her Majesty and he are okay. The elf in charge says they sent soldiers to the barrier and rushed over, asking if the fragment escaped. Altair smiles and says they crushed it, and it was all thanks to the Descendant. Kim feels awkward hearing the queen say that. She gets really excited and says now it's time to celebrate, so they should throw a festival. All the elves cheer, giving a shout out to the queen and the sorcerer king. Kim feels satisfied and happy seeing all that, and he goes along with everyone, thinking there's nothing he can do and he'll have to open the card pack some other time. Somewhere far away, in the magical kingdom of Ice Crown Mountain, inside an icy cave, someone says they came from the east. That's Geyser, the ice spirit, and someone broke his curse. Whoever defeats the fragment gains power, but gets trapped inside the realm of their own consciousness. But whoever it was, they broke out of that. That being has lived for centuries and has never seen this, the appearance of an irregular. In the end, he finds it pretty intriguing. Back in the elf village, things are looking really lively now. Sitting off in a corner, surrounded by drinks and great food, our hero super happy says, "This is exactly what I'm talking about." Tina and the cute little critter are also really satisfied with everything, but it looks like Hyang ate too much. An elf asks if the food is good for the sorcerer's descendant, and our MC says yes. He finds out it was those elves who made it, and they tell our hero to enjoy as much as he wants because there's way more. Kim says his inventory is full because the elves' blessings never end, while his familiar tells him not to say that out loud. Looks like our protagonist's outfit was pretty rough, so he just grabbed whatever from his inventory and put it on. He says even so, it was easy dealing with the last monsters that got freed from the fragment's mind control. Kang adds that it's because he has permafrost now. Kim says thanks to that he leveled up and his relationship with the elves went up even more, and in the end he says that's why he plays this amazing game. But then someone apologizes for interrupting his fun, and our MC realizes it's Mirage. She asks to talk to him, and Kim figures it might be time to leave. A little later, they're back in the cave, in front of the queen's coffin. Mirage says Altair was a kind queen, and the first time he met her was when he visited the village 800 years ago. He says later there was the battle against the fragment, and 3 puppets including him helped the Sorcerer King. Since that fragment was insanely strong, they managed to land a fatal wound and forced it to flee, bringing peace to the elf village. Kim gets curious about the 3 puppets, so that must mean there's another one besides Mirage and Tina. After the sorcerer got the materials to create the next puppet, he came back to the queen 20 years later, and that's when Akram lost the patron spirit war. Our MC thinks the conversation is getting kind of heavy, so Mirage says he was left there. In our hero's mind, the sorcerer seemed pretty unhinged. He just dumped Mirage there to be taken care of and took off. He was supposed to wait for the descendant in the coffin, but Altair felt sorry for him and let him live freely in the village. Even though she let him live happily in the village, that didn't last very long. Mirage found out Altair was suffering from a chronic illness, and even though she held on with magic, she couldn't hang in there for much longer. The queen told him that's just how nature works, but Mirage couldn't accept it. On her deathbed, he wanted to be able to repay her for all the happiness she'd given him. So he studied all the oldest elven inscriptions, looking for anything that could cure her. Eventually, he discovered that the very first leaf to sprout from a tree of life can cure any disease. But since the first leaf had already been born, his only chance was for a brand new tree of life to be born. And because it would take around 800 years for the existing tree of life to bear its next fruit, he had to keep giving up his mana. In the meantime, he was allowed to seal Altair's body in the coffin, and he had to keep her at a really low temperature so she could last all that time. Kim realizes he's talking about the cold coming from the ice spirit, and asks if that's why he took the form of that ice shard earlier. Mirage confirms it, because it was the strongest ice energy he'd ever seen. He told the elves he'd left Altair in the coffin and lived for 800 years as the fake Altair. Tina's shocked and says he must have been incredibly strong to endure that. But the fake queen tells the girl not to make that sad face because he couldn't be happier. Mirage is genuinely happy, and he walks up to the coffin saying everything will go back to how it was before. A powerful light fills the whole hall after he touches the ground. Kim is stunned, wondering if that's the Tree of Life sapling. A small tree with leaves sprouts up fast, and he can't understand how it happened so quickly. The queen's copy finally goes to the coffin where the real one is, and gives her the magic leaf. Right after that, Altair wakes up, confused, wondering where she is. She sits up in the coffin, surprised when Mirage asks if she's feeling okay. Then the boy runs to the queen and hugs her, because he missed her so much. He says he protected the village and defeated the monsters while she was gone, and Altair comforts him, saying he did what he promised and thanking him a lot. Kim finds it all really moving, and a tear slips out. He notices Kang is emotional too, but Kang gets embarrassed and denies it. Other players had been watching his new elf video while our hero finally finished his quest and unlocked that race for all of Lhasa. A bunch of people comment on the video about where the elves are and lots of other stuff about our now famous guy. Now it's time to say goodbye to the elf village. Altair, satisfied, gives Kim a second leaf of life and our hero accepts it to get more points in his stats. At that moment, Mirage, determined, says he'll take care of all the false gods to keep the elves safe, and that Altair doesn't need to worry. The queen says that boy worked harder than anyone, taking her place for 800 years. Then our MC asks if everyone knew what he'd done. She says it'd be weird if they didn't suspect something. With all the changes in her habits and her awful sense of direction. As the group leaves, Altair and her elves watch them, emotional, thanking them for everything and asking them to take care of Mirage. Kim checks the menu and he's 2 levels away from 40 and his next quest, so his partner is going to take him to a perfect hunting spot for that. As he says he'll need supplies, a red menu pops up in front of him. It says he encountered the catastrophe, the ice spirit, and he hears the monster say the boy seems interesting, and that it likes that. Kim freaks out because he can't even move, while the monster says it's going to give him a little gift. The monster says it's betting on him to break this endless cycle, giving him a ring that lets him use its power one single time. With our MC collapsed on the ground, his companions rush over, worried, but Kim is in another world, completely shaken by what just happened. Sometime later, back in the city, Kim still doesn't really get how to use the catastrophe's powers and asks Kang if he understood what the monster meant. His partner says it could be about Kim's 10-star skill, or about the only 0-star patron in Lhasa. But for now, they decide to focus on the quest. They go into a shop and the clerk excitedly says he looks like an emissary of God. That NPC gives the kid a quest to get an item from the wind spirits. Right then, another player asks if he actually accepted the quest because he personally refused it. He explains that since the kid's new, he doesn't know about open dungeons. The kid says there are 2 kinds of dungeons, instance ones where only he can enter, and open ones where anyone can go in. This quest ended up becoming kind of mandatory in the game, and since some gear drops there with set bonuses, players keep trying to farm it. He explains that if you don't get the gear in the dungeon, you can collect essences and trade them to the NPC instead. That player says the problem is the dungeon is controlled by a guild called KD Guild, and they kill anyone who goes in. Kim says goodbye, thanking him, super hyped for the fun that's about to happen, while Kang knows exactly how useless that advice was for the stubborn kid. Our protagonist notices in chat that people hate that guild because they're abusing their gear and jacking up prices. Apparently that guild took over another one 3 months ago, and they're always complaining about how the game has so many idiots, though his partner says every game is like that. To Kang's annoyance, the kid says players like him love ruining other people's fun. He gets excited because this will help him level up even more, and he's looking forward to paying them a visit. Somewhere else, a group is disappointed after killing a bunch of losers because it looks like they barely had any money. Out of nowhere, our hero shows up, catching all of them off guard and putting them on alert. Playing dumb, the kid says he heard it was a good place to level up, but he didn't expect to find anyone there. The guys can't believe what they're seeing, but the big bald dude says today's a special day, and he'll let him pass for 10,000 gold coins. Acting like he's considering it, the kid says that's way too expensive. Then he just walks past the guy, making him mad, and says he'll check it out himself, whether he's allowed to or not. At his limit, the bald guy curses him out and attacks, asking if he wants to die. But to his horror, our overpowered MC stops the attack with just one finger. Kim says from now on it's self-defense, and while the guy starts cursing again, he gets cut off by a huge punch right in the face. Kim says it's his own fault since he asked to be let through, and now if he wants to live, he'll have to pay 10,000 gold coins. A little later, a group comes running up and their leader warns they're almost there, so get ready. Jillian says he sent scouts, and it looks like there are about 10 guys at the entrance, but it should be easy to take them out if they're not paying attention. The group gets fired up by their leader's words. The guy's a game streamer, and he's basically found the opportunity of a lifetime. He memorized and reused speeches from a guild war in another game to gain followers here. Jillian's kind of annoyed at our MC because he's stealing his spotlight with his videos, but today's the day he's going to take down that guild. Still, he's pumped because thanks to this crowd of idiots, his videos are going to blow up, and soon he'll stop being a streamer stuck in a chair and be sitting where KD Guild is now. They reach the top of a hill and he yells that justice will be served, ordering the attack, but to his surprise, the entrance is empty. Panic starts creeping in because the scouts should have been dead by now, and people suggest the scouts must have forced them to retreat. Jillian says it was all planned to make things easier for everyone. Truth is, he has no idea what happened, but at least he can grab the items on the ground. As he's about to do that, something zips past him, hopping around, and to his shock, he realizes some damn squirrel stole everything. The little thing runs into the cave and the leader orders everyone to chase it, but then they're interrupted by screams that sound like they're coming from a lot of people. Another group shows up, saying they knew that monster wasn't alone, and they charge in. The dominant guild's group tells them to screw off and get ready to fight, calling them intruders. Kind of lost in the chaos, Jillian tells his followers to attack too. Nearby, inside the cave, a guy on the ground calls Kim a monster, but Kim thinks it's perfect. He's getting XP from the monsters and loot from the guild guys. Hong comes running up, bringing a bunch of items to our MC, who thanks him and says he really is the best. Tina tells her master that she and Mirage are going to split up now because it's more efficient, but Mirage doesn't really seem like he wants to fight. Kim, worried, tell them to head straight to the room if they sense any danger. Then the three of them split up and go in different directions. He watches his adorable familiars with a satisfied look while something comes rushing up behind him really fast. He even mocks the person who attacked him, saying an attack like that would never work on him. Kim was expecting to face like 100 people, but there's nobody else there, while Kang explains that a guild can have up to 150 members. He says the number of players in a guild depends on the leader's level, and the Big Ten have over 500 people in their guilds. Our hero says he can't even imagine that, but hearing it just makes him want to mess around even more. A little later, more guild members charge at our hero, thinking there's no way he can handle all of them. Kim can't believe they're trying to take him down using the mob drop technique. Kang explains it's when someone lures a bunch of monsters and drags them to the target, then they teleport away or vanish, leaving the target to deal with the mess. Right at that moment, the two guys go into stealth, but our cocky MC just thanks them for the free mob delivery, gift wrapped and everything. Then he uses his powerful permafrost skill. Kang realizes that skill does over 100 damage, and combined with an item that boosts his damage, it can wipe out any level 40 character. The guys scream in panic because they'll get penalties if they die again, but our hero doesn't care at all. He's just having fun with his new skill. He picks up the item since his squirrel isn't around, but something in the cave catches his attention, and it doesn't look like Tina or Mirage. Kim gets a bit tense when he gets there and sees a bunch of unfamiliar guys surrounding a wind spirit that looks really powerful and kinda evil. From hiding, he realizes the guild guys are fighting the raid boss, and his partner says they're well trained for this. Our hero notices those guys are strong, but there's something weird about the way they fight. Curious, he asks Kang if a guild member can PK another guild member, and the answer is yes, if they're in different parties. The familiar explains it's easy to make a 4-person party, but to form a bigger raid unit, they need permission from the feudal lord. The guys in front of them are split into 2 separate groups, and using his Dragon Eye, our MC checks one of their stats. Still hidden, our hero activates his silent casting skill while watching the guild members fight the boss. He gathers fire in his hands and throws a fireball just like the one a guild member used, except he aims it at the other guy. That guy gets furious and starts cussing him out, but the mage knows it wasn't him, and that he hit the boss dead on. Kim is happy with the result, and Kang is shocked because the guy chained skills cutting the fireball with wind magic and then using his own spell. When things settle down, the guild member asks them to cover him while he attacks, but out of nowhere a massive fireball flies straight at the guy. This time it nails the poor dude. Pissed off, he accuses the other group of betrayal, saying they're trying to kill them and keep the boss for themselves. Kang can't believe what the kid managed to pull off, and our MC says a casual player like him lives for causing this kind of chaos, and he adds that all they have to do is sit back and watch them tear each other apart, and soon after, with spells flying everywhere, the unlucky guy's items drop to the ground. Kim says now they just need the finishing touch while looking at the boss, but he thinks it's weird that it isn't attacking him. Suddenly, the creature starts reacting to something in his inventory, and a golden light jumps from him to the dungeon boss. The wind spirit is called Silfrewine, and she thanks him a lot for the help, because thanks to the elves' sacred leaf, she was able to regain her consciousness. To his total surprise, Kim gets a quest to help the woman and her wind spirits that were corrupted by a demon. In that world, multiple races coexist with humans, and besides the human world or the in-between world, other realms exist too, and those realms are heaven and hell. Those three realms are the pillars of the world of Lhasa. Kang gets pissed that creatures that strong are being mentioned in a low-level area. Demons only show up after level 200, but for them to appear like this, he figures they must be nerfed, so Kim asks if it isn't bad for this place to be contaminated like that. Since this is a starter area, the familiar confirms it is, and then starts explaining how it happens in the original story. When the demons appeared, the players would do a quest to wipe them out alongside the NPC, and they'd get a reward based on how many they killed. He explains the event didn't have a level limit, so the top 10 fought on the front lines. That makes our MC curious about how the story ends. In the end, the NPCs beat the demon leader, and he runs away, which is pretty cliche. Contaminated zones popped up where nothing could live. Smaller guilds complained, but since most people liked it, the complaints got drowned out. To our hero's annoyance, he hears from his friend that Luana had to be rebuilt later in a successful event. Kang says that back then people said the event came out of nowhere, but it might have been a warning of what would happen everywhere. Our hero asks if the domains would be stopped if he finished the quest, but his partner doesn't know because they could invade somewhere else. He adds there are too many variables, but Kim's already in the zone and admits he's always wanted to play the hero who saved the world. The guy accepts the quest and the NPC says that no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't free the spirits and ended up getting corrupted from contact with dark energy. She says she'll probably get corrupted again, and when our MC asks, she explains the way to prevent it is that, pointing at the cave wall. She touches it and starts chanting in another language. Kim's shocked when a secret entrance opens and she says she did her best to deal with it. They walk through the hidden passage until they reach their destination, a massive surge of evil energy. The spirit tells them to push forward and destroy the demonic core, but our hero tells them to leave because she's not doing well and now he already knows the way. Once they're out, Kim worries about her. She apologizes for the trouble, explaining that spirits are basically manifestations of nature's energy, and because of that their energy gets messed with pretty easily. Kim gets it and comes to his own conclusion. That item makes the area feel like the demon world, and since there are only 100 of them in hell, there's always a guardian assigned to it. Kang says the difficulty depends on the guardian, and once Kim understands that, he decides to go back. He checks with the woman if destroying it is enough. Telling him to be careful, the spirit woman says she'll take care of the other lower-level spirits. Our MC explains the plan to his familiars, but while Mirage is scared of demons, Tina is not only excited, she says she's got something for Kim. Then to his surprise, she pulls out a pack of mid-tier cards. Kang thinks it's weird because he heard there was a level delay, but our MC just wants to open it already. Hyped, he opens the first card and notices it has a rainbow glow. Our hero gets excited and says he's never seen that, while his familiar congratulates the lucky guy on a new 8-star skill. The skill is a really strong buff, but the guy complains the other cards are low tier, which drives Kang crazy because of how greedy he's being. That skill's gonna help a lot when he's totally screwed. The last card is a mount skill. Good, but nothing rare. He makes his choice. Even though Tina's sad and interested in that skill, he picks the 8-star one for his family. Now that everything's settled, Kim can kick things off, and when he touches that core he realizes it's a hidden dungeon. The menu asks if he wants to enter the dungeon, and of course our hero isn't turning that down. He keeps walking through that weird place and gets disappointed, because he expected more. It just looks like a normal dungeon. Kang says every dungeon has its own quirks, and tells him to look up, where he finds something that looks like a purple crystal. While he's wondering if that's the demonic core, something approaches, and in an evil voice asks how he dares. A huge raging minotaur appears and introduces himself as Kroll, servant of Agares, a duke of hell. Kim gets ready, thinking he just needs to kill the big bull and destroy the core, but Tina steps forward, asking him to leave it to her. She says demons are pretty straightforward when it comes to fighting, and she wants to test her new skills, but our MC worries because she's only level 15. His partner tells him to let her go if she gets hurt. She can recover in her room. So Kim allows it, and Tina doesn't waste a second. The Minotaur realizes she's a homunculus and charges her, saying this'll be over fast. He tells her to die and swings his axe, but right then a light fills the place and Tina appears at full power, ready to fight. Kim starts rooting for his friend while his partner says that, since the sorcerer's quest was legendary, the monsters in it were way stronger than this one, and this dungeon is only hero class. Kang adds that, honestly, what he really needs is a nerf. The fight keeps going, and Tina slowly starts getting the upper hand. She mocks the Minotaur, and it gets more and more pissed, asking how she dares to make fun of him. But the girl's had enough and wants to end it. She activates her new Radiant Order skill and lands a huge hit on the monster. The Minotaur drops with a hole in its chest, and our MC realizes it must have given a ton of XP because the menus went crazy. Tina's super happy she defended her lord's honor, and he thanks her a lot. And he gets a badge that, according to Kang, is tied to that event he explained before. You can collect them and trade them in for a nice reward. Our hero gets the hint and gets excited, but first he wants to take care of one little thing up there and fires a flame arrow at the evil crystal. With that, he clears the dungeon and gets teleported back to the cave, right in front of the spirit woman. She thanks him, happy he finished that mission. Then our guy asks if everything's going to be okay again now, but she says that because the contamination was so massive, nature's going to take a while to do its thing. Kim thinks nothing really changed, but she explains he helped a lot and she wants to thank him even more, so she gives him something as a reward. To Kang's absolute horror, our hero not only levels up again, he also gets 100 bottles of wind essence. While the familiar freaks out that he gained 2 levels in 5 minutes, Kim just enjoys it and says he loves the Lhasa lifestyle. Now that he's done with the dungeon, he's going to focus on crushing the rest of the guild guys so they never even dream of teaming up again. A while later, he's enjoying watching justice get served, while other players beat up the bad guys for the freedom of the Wind Cave. Leaving that whole mess behind, he uses a teleport scroll and heads back to the city of Luana. The two of them talk about what to do next, since they've got a bunch of options right now. Our hero comes to a decision. Since the Lord is really close by, he decides to deal with the badge thing first. Sometime later, the guards, surprised, block our hero's way, since regular folks aren't allowed through, but Kim explains he's there to see the Lord. The soldier laughs, asking if he's out of his mind, because you can't just see the Lord whenever you feel like it. But our hero smirks and shows the demonic badge. At first they don't really get it, but then they realize it's the badge you get for defeating the demon Kroll. An older guy walks up, wanting to know what's going on, and after the guards show him, he gets kind of thoughtful. To our hero's relief, the guy's way more reasonable. He apologizes for his men and says he'll personally escort him to the Lord. As he walks, the guy notices how luxurious the castle is, and of course the man in front of him can only be the Lord, who politely welcomes him. Lord Chris says he heard the news and didn't expect demons to reach the city, and that if it weren't for Kim, the city would have been in serious trouble. He wants to thank him properly, but our hero says he only did what anyone would do. While he watches his relationship with the Lord improve, he says he couldn't ignore a visit from the hero who saved the city from demons, so he asks his butler to bring the reward. Kim's really happy when the guy says that since he didn't know what Kim would prefer, he prepared one of each. He's surprised to receive 10,000 gold and permission to form an assault unit, but the Lord says it's nothing and hopes it'll be useful. The older guy is genuinely grateful and says that if there's anything else he wants, he can probably make it happen. That gets our MC thinking, and he comes up with an idea. Far from there, that earlier group celebrates finally taking control of the Wind Cave. Everyone gives Jillian a shout-out, and he gets emotional. He knows there weren't many from the other guild, but honestly that doesn't matter. The guy's really hyped and thinks he's about to get rich now that they control that cave. Suddenly a guard shows up and kills the vibe. He says that from now on everyone will need permission to enter that dungeon because of the demon incident. The group complains, but the guard says he'll arrest anyone who goes against the Lord's orders. That streamer panics because, after everything he did, the cave is basically a lost cause. Kim's talking with his friend about the assault unit, since he likes playing solo, but Kang says he could totally end up being a raid leader someday. Anyway, Kim figures now's the time to head to a hunting ground and train some more. When someone walks up and goes, "God of War," our MC's shocked because Hanzo shows up all friendly, saying he can't believe he ran into him there like out of nowhere. The ninja starts freaking out in a cute way, thinking it must be fate, and it reminds our MC that this guy really does not listen to other people. Kim gets curious because Hanzo's on his way to the Lord's castle, so Hanzo explains he got a mission from the butler there. But he has to finish the quest today, so he'll have to cut the meetup short, and just as our MC's about to dip, the ninja grabs him. Fixing his hair, our guy asks what's going on. Then finally, Hanzo says he wants to ask a favor, and sends a friend request. In a kinda creepy, super awkward way, he asks Kim if he'd like to be his friend, and then gets all tense because he just asks such an important question. Smiling nicely, our hero says, "Got you," and accepts. Hanzo gets all emotional, tears in his eyes, thanking him at the top of his lungs. A while later, our hero meets that old guy again, and the man says Kim got strong really fast. Kim politely says it's all thanks to him, so Drak gives him a little gift before talking about the next relic. Kim's surprised to see a soul stone, and that's not all. Drak hands him something else too, saying he figures Kim probably wants to make something for his familiars as well. Our MC thanks him, because he just got a beginner blueprint for making puppets, which is honestly pretty interesting. Drak goes on, saying what Kim pulled off is insane, because according to old records, controlling puppets is hard, but Kim controls two perfectly. While the old guy is totally melting over how cute they are, our MC knows it's all thanks to his stolen unlock skill. Staying optimistic, our guy knows he doesn't have enough mana to control all 7 puppets yet, but he figures something will happen by then to fix that. Now it's finally time to talk about the third relic, and Drak says it's being kept under some really weird conditions. All excited, the old man says it's being held in the Empire's palace. He explains that 800 years ago the Sorcerer King unified Akrux and built the empire, but it fell apart after the war with the patron spirits, and ever since then the bloodline's been hanging on by a thread. So the Kingdom of Remark managed to hide from the patron spirits by changing its name to Akram. The old man explains Akrux ended up being maintained by the 4 biggest countries around. He talks about the state of Ruindera, where you go to gain knowledge before reaching your second class. That place is known as the starting area for players, and Remark seems like a small place wedged between that country and the Gillian Empire. Finally, he says the third relic is a Death Knight who once led armies, named Lindor the Dark. But Lindor's soul stone was destroyed, and to his surprise, Kim finds out he'll have to find a new soul to put inside Lindor's body. Sometime later, our MC is out there setting everything on fire, when his soul stone reacts, asking if he wants to store the monster's soul in it. He realizes it's pretty easy to put a soul in there, but he can't just use any random one. He needs to understand what kind of traits a Death Knight is supposed to have. Kang reminds him that if he doesn't want to suffer trying to find the right soul, there's a second option, getting one with permission, which also won't be easy. Kim looks at his familiar thinking it'd be the perfect soul, but his familiar is not interested in that crazy idea at all. Later, they go back to the quest NPC they helped, and the guy's shocked our MC managed to get that much essence. He says it's enough, and since he doesn't have any customers, he'll do everything real quick. But then something catches his eye, and he grabs our hero's arm. Our protagonist watches him act super weird about his arm, but finally the NPC lets go and thinks, these muscles, he really is my soulmate. He says young people look down on blacksmiths these days, but he's seriously starting to like Kim, then gives him a pat that almost kills him. Then a secret quest pops up which will teach Kim how to craft defensive items like the ones he went to get. A while later, the duo keeps going on their way and Kim thinks Christmas came early. Kang says his crafting skills are seriously good now and the guy realizes he'll soon be able to put together a full hero class set. They talk about the quest and figure out he'll have to head to the Harpy Cave, where he'll find the Harpy Queen and the wind feather he needs. His familiar jumps in and says there's another quest he can do too. This one's about a medicinal herb that only grows in a valley. Kang explains it's basically delivering the herb to the Lord's butler so he can cure his granddaughter, and our MC realizes he can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. A while later, already at the spot, our MC checks his radar looking for the area boss, but it's the quietest hunting ground he's ever seen, and his partner knows why, telling him to look up. Kim looks up and gets it. All the monsters are flying around up there. Kang explains they're tough targets even for ranged attackers because they're fast and can dodge most attacks. While they're complaining about how annoying that is, one of the monsters seems to notice our hero down below and lets out this weird screech. It swoops down to attack, but our overpowered hero dodges easily and counters with a clean punch. Kim's surprised. He expected them to be stronger, but his familiar says if you can crush them in 1 hit, it's pretty easy. Warm-up done. They keep searching for the boss, and near a waterfall, Kim thinks he's found what he's looking for. Finally, he sees a majestic creature approaching, and yeah, it's definitely the Harpy Queen. Kang tells him to be careful because she uses magic and she's a pain to deal with. But our impatient hero says he gets it and immediately fires flames up at the boss. The fire arrows fly toward her, and she blocks them easily while looking down like a human. Deciding on the spot, she licks her lips, thinking how delicious he must be, and dives to attack. She charges in saying she'll eat him alive, and the two clash, testing each other. The next moment, the Harpy realizes this won't be so easy. She can't even figure out how he blocked her and grabbed her leg. With one simple move, the guy slams her into the ground like it's nothing, and she feels just how strong this protagonist really is. It's a solid hit. And thanks to a critical, she's stunned for a second, long enough for him to keep the pressure on. She blocks with her wings, a little freaked out by his strength, but she won't give up her prey and uses a charm-type skill. With a terrifying look, she says she's going to devour him, already acting like she's won. But Kim uses unlock and apologizing completely cancels her attack. The Harpy's like, "How did you do that?" And the kid says it was just luck. That's when she realizes, terrified, that Kim isn't prey, he's the monster. Backing away, she decides to get the hell out of there, but our boy notices and starts winding up an attack full-on Yusuke style. He hits her with permafrost just in time, freezing her by the leg. Kim jumps in and attacks with air slash, boosted by his glove, and he's even healing in the process. She realizes she can't keep this up much longer and she doesn't want to die. With effort, she breaks free and pulls back. She feels a little safer just being alive and thinks as long as she stays away from him she'll be fine, though she's missing a chunk of herself now. But without her noticing, something comes up close. That cute squirrel is already right next to her and says hi. Meanwhile, our hero activates his pet skill and says he feels kinda cheated, because he really thought she was actually gonna eat him. Then, the next second, he's in the air right in front of her. Kim says he's ending this now, but the boss is terrified and begs him to wait. Touching the Harpy and using his skill, the monster screams in desperation, getting slammed into the ground with insane force. The boss is defeated and he realizes he lost 10% HP, even using her to cushion his fall. Kang can't believe what he just saw, and our hero admits he even thought about persuading her, but changed his mind pretty quickly. Our protagonist says he wishes the Harpy Queen had been a bit smarter. He mentions that all the event bosses were intelligent, and they also worked like a rite of passage to reach the sorcerer's relics. Our hero says he could have gotten something extra out of this quest, but his partner says it's always good to have a plan B. He's worried because normally players hit level 50 before they even get there. But this is Kim, so he should be fine anyway. Finally, our protagonist checks the drops and gets an awesome item for his squirrel, which makes it super happy when he equips it. Kang says he got lucky again, since pet items are really rare, and adds that they should wrap up some other quests and move on. A little later, the guy hands the herb to the butler, who thanks him like crazy for saving his granddaughter. To show his gratitude, the old man gives him a pack of cards and also maxes out his relationship level with him. The blacksmith is happy too and thinks he was actually way faster than expected, handing over like promised the blueprints to craft the special items. Kim goes back to his room and realizes it's been a while since he's been there. Looks like his familiar really took care of the place and even organized everything. He was about to open the card pack, but then something interesting pops up, a chance to upgrade his room even more. What's weird is that one item on the requirements list is missing, and the terminal asks if he wants to use the second leaf of the Tree of Life to replace that item. Of course he says yes, and waits for the room to finish upgrading. Looks like the room can now be used to create a Tree of Life, and that'll give him some benefits. While he's looking at the tree, Mirage walks up because he wanted to see it too. He touches the tree and says it sees Kim as its master. And of course our hero gets a ton of bonuses because of that, leaving everyone around totally confused. Our hero is insanely happy about it, and Kang can't believe it was that easy for him, when other people have to finish some epic quest to get the same thing. Now he's more hyped about upgrading the room than about the relics, so he checks the requirements and sees he needs a hide from the Great Tiger, and luckily Kang knows where to find it. But then he asks about the manager skills he also got, and Kim, realizing he totally forgot about that, goes to check. Looks like he needs to complete a special requirement to unlock the skill, but he tries his unlock ability anyway, even though he doesn't think it'll work, and somehow it works. All the familiars get new skills, and Kang says it'll be really useful if they use it the right way. Our MC feels like that was way too much info all at once, but his partner will handle it for him, so he doesn't need to stress. His familiars tell him he can go do what he needs to do, and leave everything there to them, and seeing them all excited makes him happy. Grateful, he heads to his workshop and starts crafting. Looking around, he gets a little nervous when he notices there are 2 blacksmith hammers there. He keeps following the menu tutorial until he gets why, because it tells him to put 2 of those bars into the forge, which kind of freaks him out. But the old Kim is gone. Now he's mentally trained for this, and he'll be able to keep up just fine. Determined and full of energy, he gets to work, hammering like his life depends on it. After a while, he finally gets the payoff. His hero-level item set is done. Tina and Kang show up, praising his work, and he says those items are good enough to use even after a class change. And to Kim's horror, he says he heard legendary or unique item sets are basically impossible to craft. Either way, his focus is somewhere else now, so he pulls out that card pack, apologizing for making it wait. He gets tense because it's one of those packs that only has a single card inside, so he can't keep using his ability over and over on it. So, without wasting time, he opens it and gets a 7-star Wind Blast skill. His partner explains it's a core spell for Wind-type mages, since it's strong and has a really low cooldown. Kim thinks he already has a ranged spell, so he doesn't really need this one. Then suddenly he gets an idea. Our hero gives the skill to his pet and it looks super excited about the gift. Mirage is happy for the squirrel, but Tina looks a little disappointed because she wanted to get stronger too, so Kim gives her the equipment set he was using before. She's really grateful, and when our MC thinks about giving something to Mirage, he finds out the kid can copy equipment too, so he'll give him an accessory later. Now that he's crafted what he needed and opened the card pack, he asks what the next step is. A little later, back in the city, our guy says he did what his buddy told him. He put the stuff he didn't need up on the auction house and bought some other things. And while doing that, he realizes the shady rank he's part of lets him list unlimited items on the auction house, but he also notices there aren't any cards for Tina there. She totally overreacts and says it's fine, but it's obviously not. Kang tells him to do something because he can't handle the awkward tension, so Kim asks her not to get so down, because he favorited the skill, so as soon as it shows up, he'll buy it for her. That gets Tina all excited and happy. Kim says he's finally wrapping things up in Luana. Kang agrees and tells him to go check the teleport NPC in the shopping district. That way they can go straight to Tiger Forest to finish the quest. So the two of them head to the teleport spot. The NPC welcomes them, but right away says Kim's level is kinda low, and it could be dangerous. Our hero thinks he'll be fine. Still, he says if it looks like he's getting in over his head, he'll come back. The NPC agrees, so Kim picks the Kingdom of Remark as the destination. He pays the 5 gold coins for the trip and starts the teleport, while the NPC blesses him and says he might feel nauseous during the process. On the other side, our guy wonders if this is really the right place, and his partner confirms it, though he says it's not as grand as he imagined. Kang says nothing's changed, and when Kim asks what he means, he explains he'd been there before his 3rd rebirth, and that it's a famous place. Then he tells Kim to look around, and Kim notices people nearby are giving him weird looks. That's because this place used to be part of Akram, before it fell in the Spirit War, so they don't exactly like seeing people blessed by those patrons. Kang says this kingdom is the weakest in Lhasa. Before, people thought there was some hidden quest and it was packed, but once they realized there wasn't, it emptied out. Kim remembers Drac told him to take his emblem to the palace to get passage with the Gate Guardian. A little later they reach the palace, and one of the soldiers tells him to wait there. While he's waiting, the protagonist thinks he underestimated the old man, because the moment they saw the emblem, they let him through. He also notices the castle is smaller than he expected, which probably shows how badly Remarque's doing. Suddenly someone says he got there sooner than expected. Surprised, Kim thinks he knows that voice and stands up, calling out to Drac. Now dressed nicely and smiling, the old man welcomes him to Remarque Castle, calling him descendant. The old man says it's a pleasure to see him there, and our hero returns the politeness. Then he says he's going to request an audience with His Majesty. But right then someone rushes up, the door flies open, and a guy shows up saying he heard the sorcerer's descendant was there. The guy walks up and sizes our hero up, while Kang gets Kim curious, saying he ran into that damn old man again. Then he says this place is pretty boring, but if there's one thing that makes it stand out, it's Gillian, the sword. The 4 catastrophes are the strongest beings in Acrux, and after them there are 11 people who are the strongest on the continent. Among them are the 4 Almighty, and this old dude is the strongest NPC in Remarque. And it looks like the guy actually likes our MC and just wants to chat with him, which makes Kim kinda awkward. Drac apologizes, saying it won't take long, and asks him to forgive the general. Right after that, Kim gets taken somewhere and doesn't really get what's happening, because the guy is already getting ready to fight and says this is how men talk. Kang says that unlike other NPCs, Gillian teaches his techniques and gives quests, but the problem is the way he does it. The old guy is seriously hyped and can't wait to see what the protagonist got, so he tells him to attack first, full force. That general is level 200, and it'd be a miracle if Kim could do anything, but of course he decides he's not giving up without a fight. But then it's like the fight is already over, and the two of them don't understand what just happened. Gillian says that based on his movements and strength, the MC is perfect and has natural talent for it. Super pumped, the guy thinks God hasn't abandoned the kingdom, and he'll put off retirement to train the kid. Time passes, and our MC keeps training until he's completely exhausted. And even with all that, he still can't land a single hit on his teacher, even though the guy looks proud of him. Gillian asks Drac about the audience with His Majesty, but they're basically just chillin', watching our MC get his ass kicked. Looks like he's not doing so great, and they'll have to postpone it. But the general gets annoyed, saying all the guy ever does is slack off and wander around. Drac warns him, because those words could be seen as treason, and get him thrown in jail. But the general just gets even more pissed, and acts like he couldn't care less. Gillian apologizes for the rudeness, and offers to keep training with our MC, but our MC would rather keep leveling up for now. But to our boy's total surprise, the old man says he heard you can do that in a group, and offers to help, basically becoming the biggest freeloader in Lhasa. With everything set, they head to a hunting ground where there are some pretty nasty beasts. Gillian gets nostalgic since it's been a long time since he's been there, and when asked, he explains it's because he has to defend the front lines, and he's shocked that Kim is level 43 and still hasn't advanced to his 2nd class yet. At another point, the general asks Drac to appeal to His Majesty to find the descendant, since it's been 800 years since the last visit. But level-headed Drac says they need to be discreet, or they might attract unwanted attention, so they should do it as quietly as possible. The old man watches our hero, thinking he's pretty unusual, and that he should have more style than that. He says the wizard used this place for experiments, and because of that the creatures probably multiplied like crazy. But contrary to what everyone might think, as he walks toward the monsters, the old man says it's the perfect place to train his soldiers. The creatures immediately attack him, and Gillian counters the charge with his blade. Kim is freaked out by how strong the guy is, until he comes back saying it reminds him of the old days and that he'll be right back, basically leaving our MC to it. The guy jumps back into the fight while the two of them talk about how the general is just like that, and of course our hero is really grateful for the help. But we all know our MC, and obviously he gets bored and goes looking for some fun too. Our hero charges the monster and smashes it right in the head with a ton of force. He's surprised it doesn't die in one hit. Guess he's gotten used to easy fights, so he keeps pounding it again and again. Kim complains he had to hit it like 10 times, but Kang teases him saying this is a high-level hunting ground. While watching his teacher, the terminal shows he's reached level 45, and besides getting a card pack he can now change classes. While the old man is having a blast, the two of them are hyped that he gained 2 levels so fast. Kim thought the 2nd class only came at level 50, and when he asks Kang, he finds out Kang isn't sure either. But either way, the familiar says it's better like this, since he'll get the class benefits earlier. He's excited for the harder quest coming up and decides to go for it, asking for the class change quest. But it looks like the thing bugged out. He waits and Kang tries too, but the quest doesn't show up. Turns out the patron can only give that quest to a level 50 player. After that, 3 job options will appear. Kang says he got his quest from an NPC, not from him, so our hero figures he might have to go see Drac again. But it looks like he'll be stuck at level 45 until he does the quest, which sucks because the old man is basically giving it his all to help him. Still, Kang calms him down, saying he'll get all the stored XP once he completes the quest, which makes our protagonist feel better. The old man comes back grinning and goes, "Man, this is the good stuff." He asks if our hero leveled up, and Kim thanks him, saying he'll need to see Drac for his class change quest. A little later he meets Drac, who apologizes but admits he doesn't have any info about his 2nd class. Our protagonist is shocked, realizing it might not be as easy as he thought. The old man says that if he finds anything in old documents, he'll let him know, and while he's thinking about it, Gillian shows up. Kim says he couldn't get any info about his quest. He knew it would be a tough journey, but he didn't think it'd be hard just to get it started. Gillian, all pumped, tells him not to dwell on what he can't fix, because there's still a lot to do in the meantime, making our MC a bit tense. He's got a bad feeling about it, and not long after, the two of them are fighting again. Crushed, our main guy thanks him, hearing from his teacher that he's getting stronger every minute. Looks like even after all these days training with Gillian, he still hasn't gotten any clue about what his class is. Kim also learned more about the old man. He's apparently around 160 years old, and he's a general who's protected the royal family since the old reign. A soldier shows up in the middle of training, so the general has to leave. He asks Kim for permission to go and apologizes. Our protagonist can tell things are weirdly convenient for him in this place. A while later, Gillian says his request for an audience got denied again, and he knows he needs the king's permission to get the third relic. The general suggests the king is scared of him, and says it's time to tell the kid the truth. He explains the kingdom has 2 princes, and Cryon remark was second in line. He shouldn't even have taken the throne, since the first prince was better in a lot of ways. Cryon started shutting himself off a while back, and the general thinks he should have done something. After the old king's unexpected death, the timid Cryon staged a coup, and from the sound of it, things got really intense. Back then, Gillian was on the front lines, and since Cryon was royal blood, there was nothing to do but accept him as king. He adds that in the middle of all that, our MC showed up, so Kim, tense, says he's not interested in throne drama. The old man gets it, but explains the kingdom is officially Akram, and now the only descendant of the old empire has returned. And he asks our hero who the real legitimacy of this kingdom belongs to. When a messenger interrupts with a message from His Majesty, Gillian asks if the king accepted the request, but it's the opposite, and it makes him furious. Then the messenger says His Majesty still doesn't recognize him as a descendant, and if he wants an audience, he has to complete a mission for him. In the menu, Kim sees it's the quest for his second class, and thinks he just got insanely lucky. But Gillian yells, asking if he heard that right. Kim holds him back while he rages, saying they should be throwing a party for the descendant who showed up after 800 years, not giving him errands. Nervously, the messenger says that's why His Majesty said he has to complete 3 out of 12 quests. With that, Kim's relationship with Gillian hits the max, and he sees the quest difficulty drop like crazy. When it's time to look at the missions, the general says they're ridiculous and hates that the king stopped him from helping. He's outraged the missions involve the White Nightmare and Centaurs, and he wants to go complain, but Drac tells him to behave. Gillian says if anyone's got a problem they can say it to his face, but Kim calms him down, saying he can handle all of it on his own. The old guys think it's wild that the kid is taking these impossible quests so calmly, but on the other hand, Kim has zero intention of failing any of them, because he's got the ultimate cheat, which basically researches everything and already tells him exactly where the monsters are and where he needs to go. Before he leaves, Gillian shows up and wants to give him a reward, not to help since he's forbidden to, but as a personal gift. So to our protagonist's total surprise, he gets a high-level skill pack. He doesn't get why he received it, and even Kang has never seen anyone get a pack like that before level 50. Either way, it's awesome. He opens the smaller pack first, gets the skill Wind Cutter, and chooses to strengthen it. Since he already had it, the skill upgrades and can now cause bleeding on creatures like undead and golems. Then the big moment finally comes. He opens that pack super anxious and draws his first card. Right away he gets Wind Cutter again, and he's a little disappointed. Second card, Wind Cutter. Third card, Wind Cutter. And it keeps going like that, until he's freaking out and totally confused, while Kang is just enjoying the show, begging for better luck. He grabs the last card in the pack, and to his relief it's a 6-star card with the skill Ride. Tina shows up right then and all excited realizes he finally got something for her. Being super dramatic, she promises she'll repay his kindness with her life and take down anyone who dares get in his way. Kim wants to go straight to the quest since they're done there, but his partner suggests they stop by the shop first, which confuses him. Kang says he'll need to kill a monster before the ancient Cobra boss, but he needs an item to summon that creature. A while later, they end up in a hunting zone called the Meow Forest. And like the name suggests, the monsters there are cute and kinda evil. They're small, hard to hit, and they deal a pretty nasty amount of damage. Kang says that's why a lot of people pass through and think there's no boss there. Exactly what happened to him at the start with the Squirrel Emperor. Kim says he put the box there like he was told, but he's not seeing any monster, so his partner tells him to be patient. Then all of a sudden a huge tiger shows up. It walks up to the box and does what every kitty does, right? Kang says that's the best way to deal with feline-type species, so he tells our MC to go now and catch it. He quickly beats the monster and gets the items he needed, and the meat is what they'll use to lure the Elder Snake. But before going after the snake, he decides to grab the rest of the items for upgrading his room. A while later they reach a remote spot, and Kang explains where he needs to place the tiger meat. Kim gets curious and asks if there's anything he should know about the snake, and yeah, it sounds pretty tough. Besides being powerful, the snake uses stuff like poison and petrification, but his familiar says that for him it's different. So he goes over there and tosses the meat on the ground. Instantly the Elder Snake known as Black Plague appears, The monster uses magic resistance reduction and then petrification on our hero, and he just smiles. Now he gets why he's the exception, and he starts walking toward the monster, which makes it super frustrated. Kim gets ready to fight and says it'll be like taking candy from a kid. Our protagonist taunts the snake and it lunges at him while using a 7-star poison. That poison would drain his HP by 1% per second, but Kim doesn't care, because none of that works on him. He uses his unlock skill and removes the effect, once again leaving the snake totally frustrated. The snake realizes it messed up and tries to run, but Kim mocks it and attacks again, telling it to apologize for ruining the plants. The fight keeps going, and our MC is grateful he had time to craft that armor set. Out of options, the snake tries to pull a cute look, and Kim seems like he's falling for it. But he says anything goes in war and in games, so he promises to make it quick as he gets ready to strike. He charges the monster, telling it to hurry up and hand over its XP, and then he beats it. Now all that's left is collecting the loot. He gets a unique item that looks rare, but he'd have to swap out his glove for it, so Kang suggests selling it or saving it for when he needs a poisonous dagger. The second item is a poison crystal, and Kim asks if it's that thing that shows up in martial arts stories. That's the item they'll use to make the white tiger come out. Kang says there are two creatures that each have a crystal filled with the energy of light and darkness respectively. But the irony is they can't absorb those energies, so the crystal slowly consumes their bodies, and since the crystals act like a neutralizing force, they fight each other for control of them. Kim realizes everything's lining up and that the tiger isn't far from there, so he asks if it'll be easy, but his partner says the kid already knows the answer. After beating the monster, he comments that training with Gillian really paid off, and with that he meets the 2 requirements for his quest, plus a bunch of items. When he picks up that crystal, his menu shows he can fuse the 2 using his sorcerer engineering skill. Without hesitating, he tells them to fuse, and excitedly realizes he hit the jackpot and the item got a bonus. He gets a legendary item called the Taegeuk Crystal, a symbol that represents balance between yin and yang. Kang tells him to take a good look at the items because they're semi-epic, and Kim kinda gets it, but he doesn't get this awakened potential thing the item has. His partner explains it's a random ability, usually a stat bonus. It can also give a defense or power boost, and he adds that it wouldn't have any effect if Kim used it. Kim asks why, not getting it, and Kang says that in Lhasa, tolerance doesn't reduce damage. It's all about resisting status effects. It would give him 50% resistance to that, but since he has the unlock skill, it becomes pointless. Annoyed, he realizes the crystal is useless because of his god-tier skill, but his friend says that either way they wouldn't be able to use it. Leaving our MC confused, his partner says he can't take it, but he knows someone who can. He even agrees, but while glancing to the side he comments that the 3 of them have already started fighting over the crystal. A messy situation kicks off, and Tina starts pitching her case, saying that since she fights on the front lines, she's the best person to get the crystal. Kim even agrees and decides to hand it to her, but Mirage cuts in saying he's not okay with that. He says he sneaks into enemy territory as a doppelganger and puts himself at even more risk. While the 2 argue, Kang says it's normal for family members to clash hard, and that their guy is an exception again, but even so, Kim still doesn't know what to do. But it seems like all of this is part of the quest, and they'll go back to normal afterward, so he figures he won't have to do anything. The conflict dies down, and the 2 agree to talk about it later, but at that point Mirage isn't seeing the crystal anymore. When they look to the side, it's in the cute little squirrel's hands, and it doesn't hesitate, it just gulps the crystal down, instantly getting a bunch of benefits. Our hero just watches, expecting something different, but everything seems normal, until an alert pops up above his pet. The menu says the kid meets the requirements to evolve his familiar, and that totally shocks him. In most MMORPGs, a pet is essential. It can fight with you, give buffs, or even help with XP. Unlike familiars, pets get stronger through evolutions. The higher the pet's rank, the harder the requirements are. The protagonist is pissed because who would ever guess that feeding a crystal like that to a pet would actually meet the evolution requirements. Kang says that if it evolves, the pet will go up a rank, and since it's already epic rank, it'll probably become mythic rank. And that's not all. When a pet evolves, the owner gets a bunch of rewards too. Like in the MC's case, probably a level 9 card pack. On top of that, there's a whole chain of quests he'll have to do, and since this evolution is mythic, who knows what those quests will be like. The menu shows the quest, and it looks like he'll have to kill a ton of monsters, but Kim can definitely handle it. To do, Fofo says he'll make sure he becomes mythic rank, and everyone's all cute and happy about it. Back in Remark, Gillian is happy to learn that the monsters from the local legends were real beasts. Super excited, he's going to personally deliver all of that to His Majesty, so the only thing left now is the centaur. His teacher says it's in the castle basement, because the sorcerer used to run experiments down there, and after the war the monsters stayed there for 800 years. Since our hero already saw that hunting ground, it's not that surprising. The old guy adds that since the sorcerer designed the place, it's probably full of traps and treasure. Plus the legend says the centaur guards it. He says he doesn't really know because the entrance was sealed, and because of the Sorcerer King's techniques. Not even return magic works inside. He finishes by saying Kim should get ready and that he's counting on him. So when he's done, he should come find him. A while later, the duo finishes buying everything they need, but the MC wonders if he should put the dagger and the bow up for auction. To everyone's surprise, the MC messages Hanzo, who's totally shocked that the God of War is reaching out to him. Kim asks if he wants the bow and dagger he got, but the ninja says he unfortunately bought a solid gear set not long ago. Still, the MC insists and sends the link so he can check the items. After a moment, on the other end, the ninja lets out a shout, and finally he says he'll take them, paying 40,000 gold coins for it. Kim is pretty stunned by how much money that is, and wonders how this ninja can drop that kind of cash like it's nothing. Changing the subject, he asks how the move is going, and Hanzo says it's going really well. As he's leaving, he thanks him a lot for the weapons and says if Kim ever needs anything, just say the word and he'll come running back. But Kim already feels more than paid back with those 40k. In the end, he says he'll see him again and leaves. But the MC asks why Kang is laughing, and Kang asks if he noticed. The familiar asks if he met her offline, and from what we can tell, the answer is yes. Hanzo, or rather Reina, asks the God of War if he's saying he already knew her real identity. Kim says yes because he thought it was obvious, but he regrets setting up a meetup with her at the mall in front of the school, especially after he found out why Hanzo said they had a deep relationship, considering his ex was in the same program. Our hero hopes nobody got the wrong idea and asks if all he has to do is help her find a place to live. She says she's never done that on her own, and she used to live with a friend who had to move away, so the landlord asks for the place back. Then the woman, being as dramatic as humanly possible, begs for help, otherwise she'll end up on the street, and Kim just wishes she'd stop acting like she's in a movie in real life. Hanzo tells him to follow her to her new place, leaving our MC wondering if this is for real or if he somehow teleported into another universe. She shows him this super fancy place and asks if it's good enough, while our protagonist is like, who even are you really? Back in the game, our hero is more ready than ever for the mission, and his teacher goes with him to the entrance of the labyrinth. Gillian says it's a secret place that only a few people know about. But when Kim gets to the labyrinth entrance, he's seriously impressed. With a wave of his hand, the old man opens the way. Kim notices the air feels totally different in there and sees a staircase going down. That general says the sight makes his whole being boil, and that as soon as the kid goes in, he'll close the door. He also says he'll keep looking for a good soul to inhabit the relic, and that our MC shouldn't worry about it. He says when the boy comes back, they'll celebrate with a drink, and Kim actually feels pretty good about that. Finally, the kid goes in and finds a door, thinking he'll be back before the ice in that drink even melts. Our ready for anything guy pulls a flashlight out of his inventory and realizes, yeah, this really is an actual labyrinth. Out of nowhere, scaring the crap out of him, Kang pops up saying, well duh, it's a labyrinth, and asks if he thought it was going to be a walk in the park. He says they need to keep moving forward and get used to the place, and that makes Kim remember it's Kang's first time there too. So all he has to do is take down the centaur, and it should be quick. Right after that, the guy runs into a huge minotaur with a different coloring than Krull's, which makes it even creepier. Thinking fast, he decides to take that monster out first, and charges in using Wind Cutter. He lands his attack on the monster, which tries to defend itself however it can, but it doesn't stand a chance. It gets hit and ends up with a nasty debuff. Not giving it a second to recover, he attacks again, nailing it with a flurry of quick strikes. No big deal, the kid finishes it off and thinks he got worked up for nothing. This is gonna be easy, but Kang complains, saying he literally just walked in. Our protagonist runs over to grab the drop, while his partner thinks he's never gonna get used to his style. Checking the menu, he sees his pet's evolution quest is in progress, and he plans to finish it right there. A little later, he finds a nice-looking chest, and of course Mr. Nosy goes sprinting over to open it. He figures he's learned two things about this dungeon. First, there are 4 monsters that live there, and second, there are a ton of sketchy chests all over the place. But this time, our hero gets lucky again. Kang tells him to keep that material since it might be useful for some quest, and that they should keep going. After a while, with more fights against minotaurs, our MC starts feeling lost, and his partner suggests taking a different route. Kim knows his familiars don't remember the way anymore. 800 years have passed, but Kang seems to have this genius-level instinct for finding the right direction. Out of the middle of nowhere, a scream freaks our protagonist out. He looks over, not getting how that would even happen inside a cave, but he runs toward it on pure hero instinct, and finds a woman facing off against 2 terrifying gargoyles. She's using some kind of magic spear and totally desperate begs for help. She keeps pleading while the duo thinks it's probably a trap, and honestly, they even say the girl's doing a great job selling it. While they're patting themselves on the back for spotting the trap, Tina shows up saying she knows that girl and that her master should save her. The next moment, our hero and his little Pikachu squirrel thing start blasting lightning everywhere. Not long after, the woman's safe, and she thanks them like crazy. Grateful, the girl says she doesn't even know how she could repay him. But then our MC notices she's kind of transparent. She apologizes for not explaining earlier and says she's a leftover spirit from this dungeon. Kim's a little surprised by that, and the girl is too, but for a different reason. She reacts like that when she sees Mirage and, what's her name, Princess Tina. Totally confused and pretty shocked, our hero asks if Tina is actually a princess. The girl says that title doesn't really fit anymore, since Akram doesn't exist now, and asks him to just call her Tina. Kim gets tense, thinks about it, and remembers that all the NPCs connected to Akram know Tina. He ends up realizing Tina is the Sorcerer King's daughter. The girl apologizes for not mentioning it since she thought it wasn't a big deal, but he thinks it's the opposite and asks if the sorcerer turned his own daughter into a homunculus. At that moment the woman cuts in, apologizes, and suggests they move somewhere safer before more monsters show up. A while later the girl introduces herself as Alice, and says she was the Sorcerer King's assistant in his experiments 800 years ago. Tina says Alice is amazing at engineering, and that the sorcerer himself used to praise her for being even better than him. Alice says she was building a magic weapon with His Majesty, and when the war broke out she kept working on it on her own. When the sorcerer disappeared she says she kept going because finishing that weapon was her life's dream. Then one day she got sucked into the magic circle when a mistake made it malfunction. But luckily she says she was still able to keep researching even though her body isn't exactly normal. She admits she's kind of happy she doesn't have to worry about dying anymore, but Kim thinks the girl's a little nuts. She says she finished the blueprint and now all she needs is spiritual energy. She even went out looking for it but couldn't find any. Then our hero starts patting his pockets. He shows her what he picked up earlier and she gets super excited because that's exactly what she needs. So she gives him a quest to craft a legendary item set and Kang practically loses it, that Kim managed to get something like that this early in the game. Kang figures those items must give effects similar to sub-epics and that at most they should qualify as a mythic level set. The girl asks him to bring the energy, and our hero accepts the quest. Kim realizes he needs a ton of items and when he asks about it, Alice confirms the boss has the rarest one on the list. Looks like the centaur is the one holding it, so when the guy kills it he'll complete his pet quest, his second-class quest, and the weapon crafting quest all at once. Alice tells him to wait and starts searching for something, and then suddenly she finds it and gets really happy. To our lucky MC's surprise, she hands him a map, saying she's happy to help and that she'll use the time to make a few tweaks to the design while she waits. Kang gets a little jealous of the protagonist. After all, he only ever used a legendary item once, back when he was still alive. Looking at the map, our guy sees 8 possible locations where the centaur could be, so he decides to start with the closest one, obviously. Kim suggests putting Alice's soul into the third relic, but Tina immediately says she's against it. She says that even though the girl's engineering skills are great, her combat skills are basically non-existent, so her soul might not be able to settle in. Our protagonist is starting to realize this whole process might not be that simple. Then out of nowhere he gets curious and asks how Tina became a homunculus, and unlike what he expected, it doesn't come off as rude, and she agrees to tell him everything. She says it was at the peak of the war, when humans got fed up with her and teamed up with the patrons, betraying Akram. The Sorcerer King created weapons that would obey his commands, and that's when the 7 homunculi were born. They had the power to wipe out enemies on command. They were basically living weapons made for war. Tina explains her soul was one of the ones chosen. She was already close to dying because of an illness, so she was the best option available. And like we know, transferring a soul requires mutual consent, so she agreed without hesitation and received her new body. Kim feels like the mood gets kind of heavy, but she says that was actually the most fulfilling moment of her entire life, and if she could choose again she'd choose the same life. Smiling, our hero tells her she's amazing. She thanks him and warns her master that they've arrived. Then they hear the sound of hooves and a creature approaches. Looks like our hero got lucky again. The centaur shows up furious, wanting to kill him, calling him by the Sorcerer King's old name Dreadsure. That monster says it not only hates Akram, but it's going to kill Dreadsure, and with that the boss event begins. The monster attacks while our hero blocks with his arms saying he's not Dreadsure. While Kim wonders why this Wizard King has so many enemies, the monster throws a curse on him that stacks a bunch of penalties. But that's nothing for our hero, so he uses his power and clears those debuffs, then immediately charges in laughing and attacks the monster. The kid beats the centaur with zero mercy, takes it down easily, finishes his quests, and still walks off with his hands in his pockets, farming aura. Kang asks if everything is always that easy for him, but our hero tells the kid to chill and says he's also gathering materials for the magic weapon. 3 days later, our MC shows up to Alice with all the crystals he needs, and she's super excited and thanks him. Kim hits level 55 and gets another skill pack, plus a new skill for reaching his second class. Checking the menu, he sees he got Dimensional Portal. Even his familiar thinks that one came out of nowhere. His partner says portal-type skills like that are insanely rare, like only around 10 people have them, and of course it'll be super useful, even with some restrictions. Our MC wonders if he should max it out since he doesn't have any saved coordinates yet, and Kang explains that doing so cuts the cooldown by 20%. On top of that, he has a swap skill that kind of works as a backup, but he still puts this one at master level. The next skill is also movement-based, but it's a short, fast, explosive dash meant for attacking. Kim realizes that putting points into it lowers the cooldown and boosts the speed, so he makes the same call and masters that one too. With that, Alice congratulates our hero and says the magic weapon is finished, telling him to come pick it up. He's completely shocked when he receives the legendary weapon called Vasilis, which has an anti-magic shield skill. Kang says his gloves boost his attack and magic, and this new weapon is great for fighting something magic-based, for example. The guy watches in envy while Kim celebrates having such ridiculously broken weapons and gear sets. But then there's the question of how you even equip it. Alice says she expected that and explains it's worn like a shoulder guard. Both of them are pretty surprised by that because the item goes in a rare, super unusual slot. In the game there are the normal equipment slots and a few extra rare ones that only some players ever manage to fill. Kang says a lot of people don't even know items like that exist, because you can't put them up at auction, and our MC can't believe he actually got one. Finally, he takes the new gear and equips it, getting compliments from his companions. Kim says something's been bugging him and explains that it seems to clash with the set he already has. He says he has two sets, a hero rank Wind Type 1 and another legendary Magic Type 1. And the problem is he'll have to swap sets and pick the best one for each situation, but Alice seems to have a fix. She asks for more spiritual energy, and since she's the one who made that glove, she converts it into an inner glove. That way he can use everything together and keep being totally busted. Kim notices his HP and MP tripled, and his partner says those are basically tank stats, calling that mythical class completely insane. They look at his attribute skill points and it seems like the protagonist gets a lot every time he levels up. He starts spending points on stats like strength, dexterity, and vitality, but his familiar suggests using the skill ones too. Looking closely at the menu, he notices the M next to permafrost is gone, and finds out it's because some skills evolve. Kim decides to put points into it again, and while he's enjoying the moment, Alice walks up and apologizes because she needs to say something. He thinks it's time for her to move on to the afterlife, but what she actually asks is to be allowed to follow him. Alice says she wants to start a new research project, and since she's a ghost, she doesn't need to sleep or eat. She begs to be allowed to do it, but honestly the scene is getting a little creepy. They talk it over, because Alice will need a place to work, and Kang isn't sure she'll be able to stay there since she's just a normal NPC. But our hero wants to find out, so he starts using his dimensional portal skill, using the coordinates for his room. When she touches the portal, the menu pops up saying that since the conditions were met, he can have her as his familiar, and our hero agrees right away. The girl gets super excited that the plan worked, and her classroom is about to get a nice upgrade in the workshop/engineering department. Back at the king's castle, it looks like our hero is greeted by his teacher, who's happy he met all the requirements to get an audience. Gillian, satisfied, goes off on a rant, because now with all the items, His Majesty won't have any more excuses, so he's gonna go check this personally. A little while later, the old man comes back and tells our protagonist his audience with the king has finally been approved. They head over there, and our hero seems a bit nervous, since it's his first time meeting a king. Gillian tells him not to worry, he's just a man, and king is just a title. What really matters is who he is. Drock tells the general to watch what he says, so he doesn't get arrested, but the old man doesn't care anymore. A bit later, Kim arrives at a door, and he knows the king is on the other side. Our hero thinks he became the Wizard King for a reason, and right then his familiars show up to support him. When the door opens, the king welcomes the descendant of Remark, but our protagonist is shocked by what he sees. Then His Majesty says he's been waiting for him. The king seems excited and a little unsure, but still asks our hero to introduce himself, and he notices the queen is kind of different. She's stunning and really confident, and then she finally says it's a pleasure to meet Kim. The general kind of loses it, and asks why that person is even there, since what they're discussing is about the imperial family. That young guy, Sergei, smiles, and says he's got some pretty cold words for this moment they're in. He says it was His Majesty who allowed him to stay, and the king confirms it, though you can clearly feel the tension in the room. His Majesty says Sergei is a citizen of the kingdom and can't miss this meeting, but the general protests, because the truth is the guy's a foreigner. The king gets irritated and says he doesn't want to hear that. He adds that he's the king and his word is final, and even the queen looks surprised. Right after that, he apologizes to his general, but Gillian is the one who apologizes for his insolence, even though he's boiling inside. Taking the lead, Sergei says he'll explain His Majesty's position. The truth is, they can't hand over the relic for nothing. Gillian gets heated thinking the kid's gone too far, but Sergei says he won't tolerate it anymore, since he's an authorized representative of the king. And if the general shows any more disrespect, he'll be arrested for treason, which just makes the general even angrier. Sergei says of course they'll give it up for a price, and when our hero asks what price, the guy looks happy to see they're on the same page. In a dramatic moment, he slowly raises his finger and points at Tina, saying that's what they want. He explains she has royal blood and will be kept as His Majesty's concubine. But then the general stomps his foot, asking if he's lost his mind. Meanwhile, the king just looks like an idiot sitting on the throne. While the general is yelling, the girl calmly says she refuses. Kim was already thinking about dealing with that guy using magic, but Tina cuts in first and says all relics and rights of the wizard belong to her lord. Furious, she shouts that the kingdom of Remark can't claim rights over the relic just because they happen to possess it. Sergei smiles and says he understands, but Tina doesn't stop there. She adds that on top of that she has standards. And finally she says she refuses to have a husband who can't even hold a sword. The general says that was hilarious, actually really entertaining. After the audience, our hero asks if his familiar saw the king's face, but Kang thought something about it was off. He says he was in Remark back when he was alive and saw the king during a hidden quest he was doing, and the king didn't look like that. Kim asks if it could be someone impersonating him, but his partner says Gillian would never allow that. Kang says it's just a hunch, but he thinks a lot changed in Akram after Kim became the wizard's descendant. Drax shows up and apologizes, saying it'll take a while to get the relic, and it looks like Gillian went back into the king's room to have a little chat in there. Kim asks about that guy, and the old man says Sergei currently has all of His Majesty's trust, even though nobody knows where he came from. That guy was the only one who backed the second prince when everyone else was backing the first. But the truth is, he was the one behind the coup. Kim thinks it's pretty typical, still a huge problem, and while he's wondering how he's supposed to get this relic, the menu shows the quest has changed. Drac offers him another way to get the relic, and when Kim asks about it, of course our hero agrees. So the old man smiles and tells him to follow, because now they're going into a secret place. The old guy apologizes, because they had to walk. If they use scrolls, they'd alert the palace's magic agency. But what bugs Kim is why someone on a minister's level is being this careful. While he's wondering how deep into the city they're going, his companion thanks him for coming along. He asks the kid not to talk about anything he's about to see or hear once they go through this door. Not even to General Gillian. Kim agrees. The old man knocks while our MC waits. Then the guy recites a few lines and the door starts to open, making Kim wonder if it's some kind of password. Another man opens the door, and Drac asks the descendant to please come in. Inside, the man welcomes them, and after confirming Kim's identity with Drac, he gets a little flustered and really excited. As they head upstairs, the guy keeps geeking out over the protagonist. They reach a door guarded by two people who smile and step aside. Then the old man says, "Sir Roy, we're coming in." A man welcomes them and says he meant to meet them downstairs, but as they can see, he got held up. Roy says he's heard a lot about our MC and that it's a pleasure to finally meet him, at which point Kang says he gets it now. The familiar asks if Kim remembers when he said the king he remembered was different from the current one. Then to Kim's surprise, his companion says this is the real king. Finally, the man stands up to greet him, says his name is Royston Remark, and welcomes him to Akram's secret organization. Right then the menu drops a revolution quest on Kim and he realizes just how serious a mystical quest that involves an entire country can be. Kim thinks that if he says anything, the kingdom is basically screwed, but then Roy says it's his fault for not noticing what his brother really needed. He explains that Sergei used his brother to gain public power. Taxes went up and were collected brutally, making the people furious. On top of that, the defense budget started getting cut, so the number of soldiers dropped. He says that since the kingdom borders the Gillian Empire, they're going to fall soon, and even though he's ashamed to admit it, he needs help. Humbly, the real king asks for help. Kim thinks for a moment and says it sounds like a good idea since Sergei did seem like a problem. He finishes by saying that if they need any help, they can count on him. The moment our MC accepts the quest, the guy spreads a map out on the table showing strategic locations. He explains he has around 30,000 soldiers waiting for the signal to move, and Kim realizes there really are a lot of unhappy people in the country. The king brings our hero back to the map, tapping it with a pointer and saying the problem is right there. Those mountains are hard to cross and full of monsters, and most of the revolutionary army is made up of regular people. So there's no choice but to involve the army that guards the fortress. But at that point, our hero notices something. The king gets it and confirms it, which freaks Kim out. The general guarding those borders is one of the 11 strongest on the continent. After talking it over a bit, they conclude they'd have a better shot taking the risk and going through the mountains. Meanwhile, in the Gillian Empire, Marquis Huinan asks if someone is seriously trying to tell him that angelic gods are willing to become his servants. Evans, one of the great 10 and leader of the Silver Angels Guild, says there's no reason for his lord to make a move like that against some small country. The guy asks him to leave it to them. Of course the lord agrees and gives him permission to form a strike unit, and says he'll reward him. Evans seems pretty happy about that. His guild isn't one of the most popular, but once he streams himself clearing a national-level quest, that's going to change. That guy believes it's finally their turn to sit at the top of the world. The lord is pleased and says he'll wait, while looking at the gift he received and commenting that foreigners really are interesting. He asks someone lurking in the shadows what they think, and someone answers that they're greedy. The old guy agrees, but he doesn't exactly dislike them. After all, for a reward they'll get their hands dirty, even if it ends in death. But he says that's only possible because they're immortal. Then he brings up the peace agreement between the countries and the political movement that justifies interference. He adds that a foreigner isn't part of the agreement, and after tossing that gift on the ground he says they're rookies, but then he's like, who knows? He suggests that a bunch of mutts can scare an old tiger, and the lord wonders how Gillian is going to react to that. A while later, our hero is complaining about getting another tough quest right after the ice fragment, but Kang says that's just how the Sorcerer King's quests are. His familiar wants to know what the problem is this time, and it's simple. Kim is going to have to confront Gillian. Our hero doesn't want to face him because Gillian has done a lot for him, but his partner warned him not to get emotionally attached to an NPC. Pretty shaken up, Kim says he just needs to clear his head, so he opens his inventory. And like an addict, like Kang says, he goes, the best way to feel better is opening a little card pack. Kim opens it, and on the second card there's this glow that makes him think it's an 8-star card, which totally freaks his familiar out. He gets the skill Sharp Punch, which is also a really rare card. Kang says it's an attack that ignores defense and applies a debuff that lowers it. Plus the cooldown is short, so he can use it a bunch of times. After putting points into the skill, our MC knows exactly what he has to do. He's going to try to persuade Gillian. Later on, the two of them are sharing a drink, and the professor is happy they managed to meet up. Our protagonist thanks him, and Gillian says that even if it's not some fancy drink, it's got its own refinement. While he drinks, Kim thinks that thanks to the guy, he can hit level 56 fast. And on top of that, the drink is amazing. Jillian says he called him there because there's something he wants to talk to Kim about, and our MC wasn't expecting that. He says the Gillian Empire has been making suspicious moves, and the country's unstable, and our boy wonders if the old man knows about the revolution quest. He says he needs to focus on the border, and that his absence could hurt the soldiers' morale, so he won't have time to hunt with him right now. Trying to calm down, Kim realizes Gillian doesn't know, so it's fine. The old man keeps going and says he doesn't want things to end up like they did 10 years ago, when the king lost the people's support, and it feels like this is the moment our MC has been waiting for. So downing his drink for courage, he taps his glass on the table and asks why. This time they don't just do what the people want. He thinks about it and asks if that's how Kim feels. Our hero panics because that's basically treason, and he has no idea how the man is going to react. But Gillian puts a hand to his face and says that if they're speaking for the people, the kid actually has a point. Then he adds that he can't do that, and when Kim asks why, he says our hero already knows the answer. It's because he's already sinned against his majesty. He explains that the second prince was virtuous, so he offered his granddaughter's hand. That's when Kim realizes he's talking about the queen. The general confirms it and says she really liked the second prince, while our hero can only think about how different she is from the old man. Then he says all he can do is stand by the prince and believe that one day he'll wake up and distance himself from Sergei. Just like the Revolutionary Army, Gillian has his reasons too, so that wine that tasted sweet before now goes down bitter. 2 days later, Gillian's army invades Ramark. That same day, Evans arrives at a border fortress. He thinks the time has come, gathers all the guild members and believes he can pull it off with 5,000 people. The live stream is up and people aren't reacting well, but the guy figures even bad attention is still useful. He decides he'll start soon, and the two opponents stare each other down from a distance. A worried guy asks if he's really going to do this since the general already spotted them, but Evans says the old man won't be getting reinforcements, and he knows that because there's a spy planted in Gillian's court, who's already been working on weakening their defenses. Grinning, he adds that they're not the only ones there, and right then, another group shows up yelling about taking down the incompetent king. Evans knows everything was part of the Marquis' plan, because there was no way they could handle this using the usual methods, and pointing at the crowd's army, he says they're going to attack something else, not the fort. The group gets fired up because they think the king sent his army to kill the people. But right then General Gillian shows up, demanding to know how he dares do this. Furious, the guy lunges at the general saying he won't lay a hand on him. Happy with how things are going, Evans tells them to start the broadcast. Even though he's pretty strong, the kid knows the general can't handle that many people, and orders the attack. But at that moment a massive explosion goes off. Our hero appears right in the middle of it, making the guy wonder where this player even came from. While Kim is using magic in the middle of the fight, the menu shows that a war between Remark and Gillian has started, so PK effects won't count. The players there say our guy is one of Remark's men and order everyone to stop him. The protagonist can't believe they actually came all the way there, but Kang says he warned him this would happen. He remembers his partner saying the national level quest probably started because of something connected to him. The kid realizes it was because of the revolutionaries event, and Kang suggests they make a plan and give them a really warm welcome. And just like planned, our protagonist is following the plan perfectly. That guy thinks the whole point was to show on the broadcast how they crushed everyone. But if this keeps up, it's gonna go badly. Like Kang said, the guys in the back line are weak, and the familiar explains that even if the guild is top tier, not all members are ranked. And he tells him not to let his guard down, because if too many group up, he could be in trouble. But Kim says he's got a plan for that. That plan is hit and run, so right after that, he uses his permafrost skill on the area. Kim uses his freezing skill and starts taking out a bunch of opponents at the same time. People get confused because the only one who can use that skill is Kate, rank 6 of the Sun Guild. It really looks like people actually think it's her there. And they get pissed that they finally decided to show up and join this mess. Our hero pulls back while those players yell, telling everyone not to let her get away. A little tense, our hero finally breathes because even though he thought he had enough mana, it ran out fast, and Kang also says the kid overdid it. Kim says with a grin that they seem to have mistaken him for someone named Kate, so he'll borrow that name for a while. Evans freaks out because he doesn't understand what's going on. Everything is happening totally differently from what the Marquis said. He remembers the Marquis saying he'd come back easily, victorious. Even if they take down that NPC, they won't get out without casualties, and the kid can't let that happen while the war between the top 10 guilds is going on. Evans starts realizing the old man might have used him like a pawn, and it makes him furious. He can't believe an NPC pulled that on him, so he tells the guild's vice leader to call in all the members on standby. Someone cuts him off, asking what he's talking about, and when the kid turns around, Gillian is standing right in front of him. He panics when he realizes everyone is already dead. Desperate, he says he can't die now because he put a ton of money into this game. But all Gillian says is that he's disappointed, and asks if those are his last words. With one clean strike, the old man finishes off the guild leader, making the whole guild take a 20% penalty for 1 hour. As soon as Evans dies, the vice leader orders the broadcast cut immediately. The armies take advantage of the general defeating the enemy leader and charge forward. Someone informs His Majesty that, all of a sudden, they started fighting each other. Tense, Roy draws his sword and orders them to help the garrisons. The soldier doesn't get it, but the real king tells him to think about what General Gillian did while they were under enemy attack. Then he says that even if they're rebelling, they're still from Remark, and it would be disgraceful to side with the enemy and profit off the army's defeat. So with a swing of his sword he orders everyone to advance and wipe out Gillian's cowards. That guild guy realizes he's in trouble, because now everyone has teamed up against them. When a player dies, the time to come back is anywhere from hours to up to 3 days, and if a lot of the guild dies there, they won't be able to log in, which would be a huge problem. So to avoid that and even risk losing their top 10 title, he tells everyone to fall back to the nearest portal, but Remark's army notices the escape attempt and goes after them, making sure none of them get away. Meanwhile, in Remark's castle, the king, terrified, asks what's going on. Surrounded by armed guards and with bodies on the floor, he demands to know what all of this means. Clapping his hands, Sergei tells him not to look so shocked because it's not as bad as it seems. Or maybe it is. Walking closer, he smiles and says he's been waiting for this moment for a long time. Sergei asks where the guards' manners are and tells them to put their weapons away. The soldiers obey. The king, angry and scared, asks what the guy thinks he's doing. Smiling, Sergei asks how the king still doesn't get it, and calls him an idiot. He says the king should have dug a little deeper into his past, and to his majesty's horror, the guy reveals he's a spy from the Gillian Empire. He explains that the king was the perfect target, and that controlling a pathetic man living in his brother's shadow was like taking candy from a kid. Then he says he manipulated him to gain enough authority to replace him, and adds that he feels sorry for the people stuck with him as their king. Stretching, Sergei says it was only a matter of time before they took over Remark, but something was in the way. To his surprise, the queen cuts in and says it's the general. Cedric looks surprised and says the queen is as sharp as ever, confirming she's right. Worried, the king asks if Cedric is going to kill them, but Cedric mocks him and says he just wants to repay him for his kindness and let him live. But there's a condition. The king has to come with him to the Gillian Empire. The king realizes the guy wants him as a hostage, which is insanely humiliating. Now he gets that he should have listened to Gillian. Leaving the king crushed right there, Cedric pulls out an item and says it's time for the grand finale, and now they'll watch the general meet his end. Back on the battlefield, someone asks Roy what's going on, saying all the invaders ran off. On the other side, people comment that the garrisons and the Revolutionary Army are all that's left. Up above, our MC wonders what's happening, and Kang says now he'll have to fight Gillian, asking if he really thinks he can win. Kim says no, because even exhausted, Gillian is still insanely strong. Kang brings up everything they've accomplished together, so there has to be some way to beat him. Suddenly, an event called Secret Attack begins. Kim freaks out and realizes nobody can interfere, and even irrelevant family members get removed. Someone screams, begging to be set free, and when he looks over, the guy realizes it's the real king. Roy orders them to say who they are, but the person holding him warns it'd be better not to make a scene. To his horror, the person says they'll let him go once they finish their objective. Nearby, the general just watches as he's surrounded. These are the Darkwings, a notorious assassin group with a 100% success rate. Their leader is also one of the 11 strongest on the continent. Then one of the assassins stares at Gillian and says he has orders from the boss. He declares the old man has to face them there alone, and it's simple. Either he dies today or he survives. If the general refuses, they'll release a poison that'll kill a bunch of people, so he should think carefully before deciding. He adds that if Gillian accepts, they'll guarantee the hostage's safety and demands an answer. The old general makes his choice, and with a wide circular strike that hits several of them, tells them to keep their word, otherwise he'll butcher them. Then he attacks without mercy, and the assassins feel the full force of his blows. Some try to rush him, but he counters, cutting down several of them again, one after another. He shakes his sword and takes a breath, but it looks like the old man isn't having his best day. Kang comments that he's dying. Kim finally understands why the game restricted access to this event, because if he helped the Revolutionary Army, he'd end up dead at the end. Down there, the fight continues between one assassin and the great general. The two trade blows, then stop at a distance, back to back. Gillian is the first to break the silence, thinking he's the winner. The assassin, still standing, says he can't believe it because the general wiped out all his men in the blink of an eye. He says the general should be proud because he's the first in history to wipe out an entire Darkwings platoon and then fall defeated. With their leader dead, everyone who's left is going to fall back now. While Gillian's saying they were an unbearable bunch, he finally collapses to the ground and the real king rushes over. Worried, he yells for someone to bring a healer and get some potions ready, but the general shouts, telling Roy to step back. The old man tries to get up, saying there's only one person who can give him orders, and Roy isn't his king. The boy insists, saying this isn't the time to be stubborn, since he's still badly hurt. Then the old man gives his final order to the garrisons. He tells them to join the Revolutionary Army, leaving them totally confused. Gillian says the army and the sword are supposed to protect the people, not be used to put anyone in danger. One of the soldiers, worked up, says that's exactly why he can't go, and they beg the general to come with them. So he apologizes, and he says he can't turn his back on His Majesty again, and he'll stay by his side until his last breath. Roy looks sad about it, and says he'd been wondering what choice that old soldier would make. Finally, our hero walks up, calling him a stubborn old man, and Gillian laughs because he knew the kid would show up. Kim asks how much time the general has left. The man checks him over and says about 10 minutes. Our hero repeats it and takes a fighting stance. Gillian watches him and says that's exactly what he expected from the kid, thanking him for it. He says he's glad, because he gets to spend his last moments as a warrior. But then he asks why the protagonist is crying and the kid quickly wipes his tears away. Kim says he's not crying, it's just the rain. The old man laughs and says he must have been mistaken, and he adds that since they don't have much time, they'd better start. Then the two friends charge in and face each other one last time. They trade blows and Gillian says he can't think of a better way to die, and that it's a shame he can't enjoy this moment a little longer. With a heavy hit, the old man drops to the ground and from there he calls our protagonist by name. Kim kneels in front of him and still with tears in his eyes says he's listening. Gillian says it was an honor to fight the kid in his final moments and thanks him, while our hero thanks his teacher for everything he did. Then the general says it was a pleasure and that he's lived a long life but only now does he realize just how tired he is. He says the sun will rise one more time and now he'd like to rest. Gillian was a legend of remark, who never knew defeat, and there ends his long story of 1607 years. Nearby, Sergei bursts out laughing, because now that the old general is gone, all that's left is to take his majesty. But he's interrupted when the king, tears in his eyes, says he won't follow him. He says Sergei can kill him right there. He's not going with him, but Sergei thinks it's kind of cliché, since the king's going to die either way. So Sergei asks about the queen. Then he says her head doesn't have to roll along with the king's, as long as she promises to follow him for all eternity. But she says she'd never accept anything from a vile snake like him, and calls him a disgusting bastard bound for hell. Sergei says he gets it, and that he'll have her killed and reported as just a small mistake. But when one of the guards strikes, she dodges and grabs a sword. She makes a quick slash through the air, leaving the soldiers stunned, and she tears through them one after another, cutting past them until she reaches their disgusting leader. Panicking, Sergei screams as he feels the wound in his shoulder, and asks the queen what she is. On the ground, badly hurt, he notices that rapier, and realizes something way too late. The queen says her name is Eleanor, and staring him down she adds that she's the Hilskane family's knight. Standing over the fallen man she says there isn't a single soul in the kingdom who can defeat her. Not believing it, he thinks there's no way some little brat could ruin his plan, but the queen clearly doesn't care and has other plans. In the next instant, Sergei is beaten and hits the ground. She walks over to the king apologizing while his majesty asks what this means. The queen kneels and says her father taught her everything so she could protect him, and she's relieved she managed to do it. Eleanor says he saved her and so, he'd been by her side ever since to make it up to her, and the king gets emotional that she still remembers that. Just as he's about to speak again, the queen grabs his hand, cutting him off, and says he can make up for his past mistakes. Smiling, she tells him not to stop asking forgiveness from the people who blame him, and that she'll serve him until her very last breath. Nearby, our MC's soul stone starts reacting, and Kang explains that as long as there's consent, it can store a soul no matter the level difference, and he adds that Gillian wants it. Then a prompt pops up asking if he accepts bonding with the general's soul, and of course Kim picks yes. A bright energy wraps around the old general. Roy walks up and thanks our protagonist, saying Gillian can finally rest in peace thanks to him. Kim was going to tell the king, but the soul stone started vibrating like crazy, and he felt like the general didn't want him to say anything. Now that he got the soul he needed, his job there is done and he's sure everyone will manage fine on their own. Sometime later, a mob is shouting for the tyrant to be overthrown. Then Drac, dead serious, orders the gates opened. The soldiers obey, and the gates swing wide open. Right after that, the revolutionary army takes the capital, and the defenders give up fighting. When they find out the leader of the revolutionary forces is the first prince, the surrender comes fast, and with the people celebrating, that moment marks the end of the war. Later on, Drac welcomes our king and our protagonist, thanking him for everything he did. Roy says it was all thanks to our hero, and Kim's surprised because the queen looks totally different. Smiling, she says she is, and that she doesn't hold the title of queen anymore. She says she was assigned to the position her father used to have, since you never know when the kingdom of Gilead might attack again. She explains the ex-king was appointed as a low-ranking officer at the fort, and he said he'd serve the kingdom for the rest of his life. Sergei, meanwhile, was arrested, and they found out he was involved in the murder of the gravedigger Gies, which means the priestess Kim met was also part of Gilead, and our guy realizes just how tangled that kingdom is with his quests. He thanks her, but the ex-queen says she was just doing her job. Then someone interrupts, carrying a small chest. Drac opens it and says he can finally show Remark's relic. Inside the chest is another puppet, called Lindor of the Dark. Kim decides to start the process, and light floods the area as finally an armored warrior appears in front of him. Everyone's shocked by Lindor's true form, and Eleanor explains that even among the relics, he was the most skilled. She goes on to say he needs a new name now, since Lindor's soul doesn't exist anymore. But when asked, Kim says he's already thought about it. He remembers his friend and teacher, and decides that relic's name will be Gilead. Now Drac talks about contribution rewards, explaining Kim can trade contribution points for specific items. With a snap of his fingers, the menu shows our MC has 3,871 points right now. Kim realizes that with 3,200 points, he can get a unique class weapon or a loot box to try for something rare to legendary. Then the old man tells them to bring something. On the menu it shows he's receiving a few rewards, and finally a hidden reward. Our hero's seriously shocked by what he sees. He gets a legendary sword that used to belong to Gilead. The original plan was to keep it as a national treasure, but Eleanor was against it, saying it'd be a waste to leave it as just a symbol, and she adds she's sure her grandfather wouldn't want that. But all our hero can think about is that he has to choose between Gillian's sword and a loot box. Kim keeps thinking, and his partner begs him not to say he's actually considering the loot box. Our MC asks why he'd think that, but honestly he really is tempted like a total loot box addict. Drock asks if Kim's stressed about the choice and says he can relax. The menu shows he's hit max relationship with Drac, so the old man says there's a quest Kim can take to earn more points. So everyone heads to the new king's coronation. The people celebrate, while the menu shows our hero got the powerful gravity blade using his contribution points, and he also gets the loot box. Kim still can't believe they pulled off a national level quest and that he managed to level up a ton from it. But then he starts wondering if it's really okay to just leave like that without saying goodbye to the new Lord of Darkness, Gillian. And the old guy's totally fine with it. Gillian says everyone would probably end up crying a lot, and besides, he's excited to try out his new freedom. Seeing how hyped the old man is about retiring, our MC figures he must have been at least a little stressed before. Gillian says it'll be like sailing through unknown waters, and wraps up by telling his new master that he can't wait to fight by his side. Somewhere else, a woman yells that it's absolutely not. She tells them to open their eyes and asks where the hell that looks anything like her. Super annoyed, she says that person even looked like a guy, but a friend asks her to calm down. Gunther walks up and says she should be used to hearing their names getting thrown around by now. But Kate says this isn't good. Why are people talking trash about the guild because of that guy? She wanted to use her game log as proof, but she can't because of a hidden quest, though Gunther says that might actually help. Then he suggests they just take the credit for it, which totally catches her off guard. He explains that since she never liked the Silver Angels, they could use this chance to get rid of them once and for all. She tenses up and asks if he's serious, but he lightens the mood saying of course not because that's not like her. Gunther tells her to relax and go after the frozen flame, adding that he's really curious who could use skills like hers. Elsewhere, our hero sneezes and his partner asks if he seriously caught a cold in an online game. But Kim says it feels more like his ear is burning, and Kang says it'd be weirder if people weren't talking about him after everything he did. Finally, the familiar asks if Kim knows where he's going next, and since Kim leaves that up to Kang, they decide they're heading to Zenonia. A while later in the city, merchants shout out their services, selling potions and repairing damaged weapons. Kim's shocked because this place makes Remark look like some tiny backwater town, and his friend says this is one of the biggest cities on the continent. Kim starts worrying about how he's supposed to find clues for his new profession quest in a crowded place like this. Kang asks if he wants to bet they won't even have to go far because the clue is right in front of them. Impressed, our MC notices that massive tower towering ahead. The familiar asks if he remembers when they first met, and Kim asks if it was when he became a wizard. Back then he ran into Drac in his trinket shop, and right after that his affinity went up, and that's when Kim realizes something. His partner says he noticed too because he's already been inside. While climbing the tower floors he found a secret door, and inside were tons of books. And among all the dusty records he saw the name of the sorcerer King Dreadsure for the first time. Kang says nothing unusual happened when he went in before, but this time it might be different, because now the actual descendant is about to go in. Kim agrees and starts wondering how many floors the place even has. Suddenly people around them start murmuring, and he hears that Eden is there. Looks like that group has a lot of fans, and everyone wants to know if today they'll finally clear the 30th floor. Kang says Eden used to lead the tower raids. Our MC is surprised because he thought high-level players couldn't go into low-level areas. The familiar confirms that's usually true, but the area around the tower doesn't have PK, so this place is an exception. Inside the tower, there's a repeating pattern. Every 9 floors there's a safe room, and every 10 floors there's a boss. The difficulty ramps up the higher you go, and that breaks a lot of parties, so the people left over end up teaming up to keep going. Kang adds that after floor 70, a lot of groups run multiple quests in there at the same time, and then something catches Kim's attention coming from Eden's holy sword, Snowstorm. The guy wonders why it would be getting closer to him like that. Kim's even more confused, wondering what's going on, and the girl walks up calling out to him, but what she actually says is that he's blocking her way, and asks him to move. Kim gives an awkward laugh, apologizes, and says she can go ahead. His partner teases him, asking if he thought the girl was interested in him, and that leaves our hero feeling kinda awkward. But then in that moment something weird happens. Eden suddenly stops, startled by something, wondering what it is this time. She realizes the higher-level ice spirit is inside the Snowstorm sword. Looking at our guy, she wonders what this kid has that made her react like that. Her companion asks what's going on and is surprised she actually slowed down for someone, teasing her like, "What? Are you in love or something?" Eden calmly says it's nothing and they should keep moving. Still, the woman pushes it, thinking the boy caught her attention, and that if she runs into him in the tower, she'll ask about Snowstorm's reaction. Then she walks off while the players around hype her up. Kim gets curious and asks if that girl is really that famous, and his partner's like, "Yeah, I'd bet she is." They plan to move on, but not before opening that loot box, and our hero has a pretty interesting place in mind to open it. So the protagonist heads up to the tower and pulls up the menu, accepts the terms which say the difficulty scales with the number of party members in his case. He's a bit surprised because it looks like it's not working, thinking it might be some kind of error. But the menu says a specific pattern was found, and he'll be teleported to a special location, to Kim's total shock, welcoming the administrator. Our protagonist gets kinda annoyed because he got teleported without even getting a chance to prepare. But looking around, he sees a room full of devices and gears, and he's like, where the hell am I? So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.